In 2019, the LSU Tigers were on top of the world. Headlined by a trio of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson, the Tigers put up a perfect season capped off by a national championship. In fact, many still believe that this LSU team was the greatest team ever. Since then, those three players have become some of the best athletes in the NFL. But LSU has struggled to recreate past success. Today, we'll be taking over LSU and bringing them back to their national championship glory. And if you take a look at LSU's roster, it's pretty shocking that they haven't had much success in the last couple of seasons. At quarterback for the Tigers previously was the Heisman winner and the second overall pick Jaden Daniels, and last year was the 7th round pick Garrett Nussmeier. This season they added Arizona State transfer Sam Leavitt. His 2024 season was spectacular for the Sun Devils, but last season was full of injuries and inconsistent play. We're hoping to unlock the best version of Sam Leavitt this season, and hopefully he can bring us to a double-digit win season. And because he's a 90 overall already, I would assume that he goes into the NFL draft next season, so we need to take a look at our quarterbacks of the future, and none of these guys really fit the bill because their skill caps are pretty terrible. But thankfully, it seems as though our future at the running back position is pretty secure, with Caden Durham was pretty solid last season, but Harlan Berry is who I really have my eyes on. He stuck out to me as a true freshman last season. He's already an 86 overall heading into this season, and he has favorable skill caps. He could very easily end up as a 90 plus overall and end up being drafted in one of the first 3 rounds. At the receiver position, LSU is always loaded, and this year looks to be no different. Slotting in as our number 1 receiver is going to be Jackson Harris, the Hawaii transfer who last season had 963 yards receiving and 12 touchdowns. Next on the depth chart is Jace Brown, the Kansas State transfer who had 712 yards receiving and 5 receiving touchdowns. Following him is the ridiculously fast Eugene Wilson III who transferred from Florida. Even further down the depth chart we have great depth, like with Winston Watkins, the true sophomore who last season as a freshman at Ole Miss played fairly well. But maybe the biggest receiving threat that LSU has on roster is Trey'Dez Green, the 6'7" tight end who can catch almost anything. He will certainly be a premier goal line target for us this season, and hopefully we can get him to at least double-digit touchdowns. Maybe the best player on this entire roster, though, is Jordan Seaton. The 6'5", 307-pound left tackle projects to be one of the top 10 picks in next year's NFL draft. His run blocking may not be great, but 98 pass block, 95 lead block, 78 speed at 307 pounds, that is absolutely ridiculous. Another top lineman for the Tigers is Braylon Moore, the former Virginia Tech transfer who's had a year in the Tigers system. Hopefully he can lock down the interior for us. But outside of those 2 players, it's pretty rough for the Tigers on the offensive line, and that's certainly an area that we want to fix in the next couple of seasons. Defensively, the Tigers have a couple of key standouts, including the Ole Miss transfer Princewill Uman-Mielen. He had 9 sacks last season for the Rebels, and he followed his old head coach Lane Kiffin here to the Tigers. And just taking a look at some of his key physicals, 6'4", 244 pounds, 87 speed, 92 acceleration, 91 awareness, he should get at least double-digit sacks for us off the edge. As of late, the interior defensive line has been a bit of a struggle point for the Tigers, but it seems as though they've figured it out. Dominic McKinley is obviously a higher overall, but the true star of this defensive line could be Lamar Brown, the true freshman who was rated number 1 overall on some recruiting sites. He enters the game as an 85 overall with tactician boosts. We could have him for 3+ years, and he will easily become a 90+ overall. Another key standout for the Tigers is Whit Weeks. He had a breakout season last year. Many thought he might go into the NFL draft, but he decided to stay one more season, and now we have a 91 overall as our Mike linebacker. In the secondary, it will be the former 5-star DJ Pickett holding it down. 6'4", 189 pounds, 95 speed, 91 change of direction. By the time he enters the NFL draft, he may very well be the best corner in all of college football. With such a talented roster, it makes sense that our AD expectations are pretty high. And with a roster as talented as this one, it would honestly be disappointing if this team doesn't make a conference championship appearance. And hopefully we can also be ranked in the top 15 at the end of the season, and again, if we make a conference championship appearance, we should hopefully also make the college football playoff. But the schedule that the Tigers have this season is not easy at all. They open the season against Clemson at Tiger Stadium. Maybe this would be a tougher matchup a couple of years ago, but Clemson has really fallen off a cliff, so hopefully we should take care of business. Then week 3, we have the highly anticipated showdown against Ole Miss, but because we're not Lane Kiffin in this rebuild, I guess technically this doesn't matter. Well, I guess we have a couple Ole Miss players on our team, so it does matter. And it will certainly matter to the fans in Mississippi because we will be dealing with maybe the most hostile crowd college football has seen in over a decade. And if we somehow manage to beat the Rebels, we then have to come back to Baton Rouge to take on the number 8 team in the country, Texas A&M. And 3 of our 4 last games this season are against ranked opponents, including back-to-back weeks where we have to face off against Alabama and Texas. And here at LSU, NIL budgets are not really a concern. That means we can go after a number of 5 stars, including the number 2 quarterback in the country, Sinilau Hall. Hall's not very fast, but he has 94 throw power, great accuracies already, and a couple of great physical abilities. Maybe even more impressive than Hall is the number 5 player in the country, Jesus Vanderdoes. Right out of the gate, he has 95 speed, 98 change of direction, and platinum human joystick. We're going to have some stiff competition from teams in Texas and the University of Oklahoma, but I'm going to do everything in my power to get this guy on our roster. The same goes for Tyler McCarry, the 5-star cornerback with 98 speed, 97 acceleration, and 83 man coverage. But in order to grab some of those top recruits, we need to have a good start to the season. That means that we need to go out in our home stadium and beat up on the Clemson Tigers. Though we beat Clemson last year in their quote-unquote Death Valley, this season we need to really cement that honor. And with our team being 5 overalls better, I hope we don't struggle against Clemson. And now with a 12-point lead with about 5 minutes left in this contest, it seems as though Clemson has decided that they need to go for it, and they're going to go deep, and they find the receiver! What are we doing? 1st and goal for the Tigers. We give up that super deep play on 4th down, but we bring them back to 4th down. We're going to see if they can go over the middle, and oh my goodness, that receiver almost had it, but he dropped it. But somehow, some way, the next moment we get is 2 minutes later, and somehow Clemson has not only scored, but they've also gotten the ball back. Thankfully, our defense has been pretty locked down this entire contest, but it seems as though we've had a mental lapse in the 4th quarter. It's 15-10 now. All they need is a touchdown, and they'll win this game, and they find a receiver wide open over the middle, but we lay him out. Even still, I do not like the way that they have been driving down the field. Before the 2-minute warning, they still have a couple of timeouts left. They're going to run the ball on us. We were not prepared for that, and they're going to get an easy 11 yards. And now at the 2-minute warning, Clemson has 2 more times that they can stop the clock, but outside of that, there's 2 minutes left in this contest. They're going to go with the screen, and our D-line makes a great play. I just cannot believe that we had them in multiple 4th down situations. We stopped them on a key drive, and 2 minutes later, somehow we give up the ball without a fight. But now here on 3rd and 10, we're going to see if we can make a stop. They're going to go with the slip screen, but Whit Weeks is there to make a great tackle, and it's going to be 4th and very long. This is our 3rd opportunity now to get them off the field. It is 4th down. We just cannot let them convert. Looks like the quarterback might scramble. He will. We're going to give him a big hit, and it's going to be LSU's ball. And with 1:34 left on the clock, I do not trust the CPU to make the right decisions. We are just going to be handing the ball off just like this, and we might get a 1st down. Oh, we're only inches away. There is no world where we should have been in this situation in the first place, so I'm going to have to step in and end it, and hopefully we can with this carry right here, but their linebacker makes a great play, and now we really need a 1st down here. It's a 3rd and 1 scenario, and I would love to have Harlem Berry on the field, but instead we're going to rely on Caden Durham, and he's going to get the 1st down and seal the win for the Tigers. So ultimately, this one was a little closer than we would have wanted it to be, but still, we beat a Power 5 opponent at home. Lamar Brown is the player of the game. In his first ever game as a college football athlete, 3 sacks. He carries our defense, I guess, and we defeat the Clemson Tigers by 5 points. That is a huge statement win for us to open the season. Unfortunately, though, it seems as though that victory over Clemson has not really helped us in recruiting. Ohio State has built a big lead on the 5-star quarterback Sinilau Hall, and he was one of our top priorities entering this recruiting cycle. Somehow the same goes for the 5-star Jesus Vanderdoes. Ohio State just has an unlimited NIL budget, and even though Baton Rouge is closer to home than Columbus, Vanderdoes might take the Buckeyes' offer and go to Ohio State next season. In a last-ditch effort to get Hall to commit to us, we set up a big recruiting week for week 4. That is our game against Texas A&M, and we set up Hall with 3 different types of linemen. But unfortunately, that lead with Ohio State just keeps getting bigger, so I have a pretty crazy idea. I'm going to be taking Hall off of our board so we can open up that week 4 visit. And instead, I'm going to be giving that visit to Jesus Vanderdoes, because in this recruiting battle, we are much closer to beating Ohio State. And if we can defeat the Aggies at home, then that would be a huge win for us not only for this season, but it might help us secure the commitment of multiple 5-star prospects. And I think we're ultimately going to be doing that same strategy with Tyler McCarry. This is the 98 speed, 97 acceleration cornerback that I desperately wanted. And while we stacked a visit week for week 7 against Mississippi State, it looks as though Georgia is just going to be running away with this commitment. So unfortunately, we're going to be taking McCarry off of our board, and instead we're going to be giving more resources to Samuel Horn. While we already have him on a visit for week 10 against Alabama, we have other recruits like Maxwell McGee that we're going to stack in this week 10, and hopefully that will get us multiple commitments on the same day. Even though we're falling behind on some 5-star recruits, the good news is that all of the 4-stars that we have on our board, we're first on their boards. And in fact, the only 5-star that we are first on their board is the edge, Jalen Flavors. And out of all of the 5-stars, he's probably the one that I wanted the least because he looks okay, but ultimately we'll take all the 5-stars we can get. But before we cloud our heads too much with the future, we need to worry about the present. And right now, we need to focus on our game against Ole Miss. Thankfully, we dominated Louisiana Tech last week and we beat them by 17 points. Our defense was unfortunately not as dominant as they were against Clemson, but Sam Leavitt had a great bounce back game. And even on the ground, he added 42 more yards and a rushing touchdown. I guess the story of the game though should be Caden Durham. He had 133 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Harlem Berry, the backup, also added 87 yards and a touchdown. I'm glad that these two are pretty much splitting carries because they both seem to be really effective. Hopefully they'll be just as effective against Ole Miss, and surprise, surprise, this is the game of the week. We are 3 overalls better than them, but like I said earlier, this is going to be a very hostile environment. And if we beat the Rebels, we can almost guarantee ourselves a top 5 spot in next week's AP poll. And now our first bit of action comes with about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. Ole Miss has 3 timeouts. They're going to be looking to pass the ball, which completely shocked me, but we'll stop them in bounds. We're going to have to take a timeout. In this one, Ole Miss grabbed an early 14-0 lead, and they haven't looked back. But we've been starting to make a comeback in the second half, and hopefully we can make an even greater comeback here as we force an incompletion on second down. That is huge. That leaves them in a 3rd and 6 scenario. If they do somehow complete this pass here, we're going to look over the middle. We're going to get a user pick. What a huge interception there. And we're down at the 35-yard line. That might be the first good piece of gameplay that you've seen on this channel for the entirety of its existence. I actually get a user lurk pick, and now all of a sudden we're in the driver's seat. If we could have juked that defender, we would have had green grass in front of us. Normally, I would be happy about injury timeouts in this scenario because it's a free stoppage of clock, but it was because our star left tackle Jordan Seaton went down. Thankfully, one play later, he's back on the field, but it's still going to be tough for him to play through bruised ribs. Especially in this 3rd and 3 scenario, the Ole Miss crowd is going crazy. This is obviously 4-down territory, so we're going to see if we can catch them off guard with the run game, and we can, and it's going to be 1st and goal. Caden Durham has had a ridiculous game so far, but after this play, we are obviously going to be sitting him. We're going to find Trey'Dez Green open, and he's going to get down at the 5-yard line. In this scenario, we're of course going to be chewing clock because we do not want Ole Miss to have too much time there, but we still need to get in the end zone. We're going to find the little route there, and there's going to be picked off, but I think that's going to be pass interference. It's going to be 1st down again for the Tigers. To be quite honest, that was great coverage from the Rebels, and I was panicking in that situation. But still, that's a crowd drainer there, as they're actually going to make the stop. And with 17 seconds left, I am going to be calling a timeout because I want our team to be fully prepared to get this ball in the end zone. We're going to hand it off one more time and see if it works, and it looks like it's not going to, so it's going to be 3rd and goal. We're actually going to hurry up here, maybe see if we can catch the Ole Miss defense off guard, and it looks like maybe they will be caught off guard here. With 5 seconds left on the clock, this is actually going to be the last play of the game. Complete time mismanagement from me, but Leavitt's going to go in. He's going to find the end zone with 0 seconds on the clock. The transfer quarterback shows up in the biggest moment, and the Ole Miss fans are not happy. I almost completely screwed up this play. I probably could have found that bubble screen and it would have been a touchdown, but Sam Leavitt forces his way in the end zone, and all we need to do is hit this PAT, and the Tigers are going to be leaving Oxford with a victory over the Rebels. PAT is down the middle. LSU wins over Ole Miss. What a come-from-behind victory from the Tigers. As you can see on the final loading screen, a 15-point comeback in the 4th quarter. This team was down 24-10. On their first touchdown drive, they get the 2-point conversion. That means that a Sam Leavitt rushing touchdown and a PAT that goes right down the middle leaves the LSU faithful happy, and Ole Miss is going to be going home sad. That huge win over Ole Miss now puts us as the number 4 team in the country. Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Georgia are ahead of us, and hopefully we can overtake those 3 teams at some point in this season and become the number 1 team in the country. But in order to do that, we're going to need to beat Texas A&M, who surprisingly is 1-2 to start the season. And as you take a look in the middle of the screen, Alabama has also lost for the 2nd year in a row to an unranked Florida State team. And if you look at Texas A&M's schedule, so far they barely beat Missouri State in week 1. They lost in week 2 in overtime to Arizona State, and in week 3 they lost at home to Kentucky. That should hopefully make a victory over the Aggies easy for us. And we're going to need an easy victory if we want our recruits Vanderdoes and Miranda to be impressed with us. A victory here might secure the verbal commitment of Miranda, and with Vanderdoes it will probably put us firmly in first place. But just like with every LSU season in the past 7 years, things were just getting to be too good to be true. Last week we beat Ole Miss at their house 25-24, and this week it looks as though Texas A&M does the same to us. And in fact, we had a 17-3 lead going into halftime, and we completely choke it away. They score 22 points to our 7 points in the second half, and we lose to the Aggies. It's not Sam Leavitt's fault though, because he had almost 400 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns, and he had a 77% completion percentage. It seemingly was our ground game that let us down. Caden Durham and Harlan Berry were averaging 8+ yards a carry in the last couple of games, and in this one they couldn't even muster over 3 yards a carry. So unfortunately this means that we are still in second place for Jesus Vanderdoes, and we probably will remain in second place for the rest of the season. It also means that we're likely going to lose out on the 5-star tackle Emmett Miranda. But the good news is that we got a verbal commit from Jadarius Phoenix, the 4-star gem guard, from Caesar Wing, the 4-star gem Mike linebacker, and from Maxwell McGee, the 4-star gem free safety. It's overall not the end of the world that we don't get these 2 5-star players, but obviously at LSU we want the best of the best. And while getting 4-star gems is great, it would have been nicer to get true 5-star talent on our program in year number 1. Thankfully we get back on track with a big victory over FCS Southeast, and maybe surprisingly only a 5-point victory over Kentucky. In fact, it took another 4th quarter comeback on the road for the Tigers to defeat the Wildcats. And once again, it seems as though Sam Leavitt is just the savior of our offense. So far this season, he's averaging about 300 yards per game through the air. He has 11 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, and he's been the saving grace of our offense, especially in scenarios where Durham and Berry can't really get it going. Though if you look at their general stats, their season looks to be pretty good so far. 5.7 and 6 yards per carry is incredible. Defensively, however, something that I'm noticing is that we need more production on the defensive line. Outside of Lamar Brown's incredible 3-sack game in week 1, we have a total of 6 sacks through the last 5 games. And a guy like Prince Will, who we were hyping up before the season that could be a potential 10+ sack guy, he has only 1 through this entire season. And the following week, it becomes official that we lose out on Jesus Vanderdoes to Ohio State and Emmett Miranda to Texas. Unfortunately, those were 2 of our top prospects, but it's not the end of the world that we don't get them. Because this week, we got a verbal commit from the number 24 player in the country, Jalen Flavors. Hopefully, we can continue to beat out Alabama and Notre Dame throughout this recruiting cycle, but with a 1.2x multiplier, I don't see why we can't beat them out. Unfortunately, we also lost out on another 5-star player, Samuel Horn. The cornerback chose the Fighting Irish over the Tigers. We were going to have him on campus in a couple of weeks, but Notre Dame got to him before we could, so unfortunately, he'll be a part of the Notre Dame roster next year. We play the following week against Mississippi State, and we barely etch out a victory. A 31-14 lead at halftime should have been more than enough to beat Mississippi State, but they made it interesting late in the game, and we only beat them by 6 points. In this game, Sam Leavitt had a pretty solid outing, but he also took 5 sacks and only had a 58% completion percentage. And 1 week after I was saying that our defense is not getting enough sacks, we put up 5 sacks, and it looks like DJ Pickett had 2 picks. But even with those impressive defensive numbers, we still let Mississippi State put up 39 points on us. We hope that we lock in for this Auburn game before our bye week that ultimately brings us into the toughest stretch of our season. Though I will say that Alabama, Texas, and Tennessee have underperformed their expectations. This means hopefully we can make quick work of at least 2 of these 3 teams, and we can secure our spot as one of the best teams in the SEC. And after we take care of business against Auburn, it looks as though everybody on our board has either hard commit to us or verbally commit to us, though I will say that one of the 4-star gems, Caesar Wing, may lock us out because we have hit a deal breaker for him. We need to up our playstyle by just 1 grade, and if we do, we can secure a 4-star gem Mike linebacker. And after our bye week, we get the first college football playoff rankings, and we slot in as the number 9 team in the country. And with Alabama as so far the only ranked opponent left on our schedule, we're going to have to hop in against the Crimson Tide. But the Crimson Tide have one of the best teams in the country, and while they slipped up earlier in the season to teams like Florida State, it seems as though they've hit their mid-season stride. And at a 93 overall, it's going to be tough to beat them, even at Death Valley. And now we're going to be hopping in for the first time in this game with about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. We need to make a stop terribly. There's a flag on the field. It's probably going to be for pass interference because my user is terrible. But actually, it's going to be roughing the passer for Princeville, and unfortunately, that means that the Crimson Tide are at the 1-yard line, and we desperately need to make a stop. It's a pitch play, and we hit him hard. It's going to be 2nd and goal at the 5-yard line, and once again, we desperately need to make a stop. They're running the ball, and he runs straight into his own offensive lineman. That makes it 3rd and goal for the Crimson Tide. The crowd is going absolutely bananas. They're switching around the play for some reason, but still, 3rd and goal. We're going to try and send pressure. They're going to run the ball again, and our Mike linebacker is there. It's going to be 4th and goal for the Crimson Tide. And they're going to end up going for the field goal, but this is a pretty rough angle for them, so we'll see if this kicker can hit it, and it's going to be going right down the middle. But this result is about as much of a shock to you as it is to me. I accidentally pressed simulate for the rest of the game, and it does, and I try to stop it, and I can't. And I guess our field goal kicker misses a 38-yarder. I wish I could watch this play. Of course, there's no replay because I didn't play it. He misses a 38-yard field goal. We lose the game. You know, when I press simulate, I tried to stop it, but I couldn't. This is the worst case scenario for us. Sam Leavitt, I guess, made a great pass on 4th and 6th. I wish I could show you guys these highlights, but I can't. And then we just kept running the ball down because we thought our field goal kicker could make a 38-yard field goal, but I guess he can't, and maybe they blocked it, maybe they didn't. All I know is that we just lost to Alabama. We just lost our top 10 ranking, and we just lost our pride for the next year against the Crimson Tide. So unfortunately, we lose yet another 1-possession game, and of course it's my doing this time, so I do apologize if you wanted to see that final drive. I wanted to see that final drive too, and unfortunately Alabama did defeat us, but that doesn't knock us out of college football playoff contention. If we can beat Texas, Tennessee, and Arkansas, we'll be 10-2. That will almost certainly give us a spot in the college football playoff. And obviously the big name here is Texas, but they are 4-5 this season. They started off their season with dominant wins over a group of 5 schools, but they got demolished by Ohio State at home. They then lost the Red River rivalry to the number 1 team in the country, Oklahoma. They lost to Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Missouri. They are riding a 3-game losing streak, and they have lost 4 of their last 5 games. Hopefully we can make it 5 of their last 6. And of course, because I sim the game, we lose it 37-32. Yet again, another 1-possession loss for the Tigers. If you add up their 1-point loss to A&M, their 2-point loss to Alabama, and their 5-point loss to Texas, that is a combined 8 points that LSU has lost by this season. Obviously not ideal for the team and not ideal for my job security, but if we beat Tennessee and Arkansas, maybe we can be in the top 15 at the end of the season. And that's going to be a big deal for us because we're definitely not going to be winning a conference championship this season. And if we can be top 15 at the end of the season, that would add on $250 more NIL to my budget. So at the end of our season, we beat Tennessee 37-0. And then we beat actually the number 24 team in the country, Arkansas, by 7 points. And to my surprise, we have made it to a conference championship game against Oklahoma. You would think that with 3 losses that we would pretty easily be knocked out of conference championship play. But there was a 4-way tie at the top, and I guess we have the tiebreaker somehow, even though we lost to both Alabama and Texas A&M. But trust me, I am not complaining in this scenario because this has given us new life. We're currently the number 14 team in the country, and actually, as long as we just beat Oklahoma, we will be SEC champions, and we will get an auto bid into the college football playoff. And if we can defeat Oklahoma, it would be sweet to knock off the Rebels from college football playoff contention. So not only are we playing for ourselves, but we're also playing to screw over our rivals. Unfortunately for us, though, we're going to be heading into our matchup against the Sooners with a bit of a problem. Our star left tackle, Jordan Seaton, has unfortunately dislocated his ankle. He will be out for the rest of the season. So even if we somehow do get by Oklahoma, we will be without him for the entirety of the college football playoff. And just for this matchup against Oklahoma, we're going to be without our number 2 corner, PJ Woodland. Thankfully, he'll be back next week, but still, this is a huge loss for us. And in this scenario, we need a victory to make the college football playoff, so this game is must win. And while it will be nice to have Woodland back next week, I would have loved to have him back for this week, where every man against the Oklahoma Sooners is going to count. And as of right now, we are an even team despite our injuries. So hopefully, even with those injuries, we can still end up on top and make the college football playoff. And with about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left into this contest, we have not needed to jump in, but now is as good of a time as ever to jump in, because we have a 6-point lead over Oklahoma. Once again, about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. We're going to roll out. We're going to hit triangle, but that ball is severely overthrown. I'm not sure if Sam Leavitt thought that Jackson Harris was 10 feet tall, but he threw it like he was. Look at how far the ball is above his head. That is a good maybe 4 feet above Jackson Harris's head. If that ball is on the money, that is a guaranteed first down. Hell, it might even be a guaranteed touchdown. But instead, I'm going to need to hop in and hit a 50-yard field goal to put us up by 2 possessions. I'm not even sure if this is the right move, to be honest with you, but I'm going to have to trust my kicking prowess. Hopefully this one goes in, and it looks like it's just going to sneak in through the left side. And thankfully, that throw doesn't cost us. Unfortunately, though, Oklahoma drives down the field with relative ease. We have about 1 minute and 30 seconds left on the clock. They have all 3 timeouts left, but this first down should secure it. Let's just go down, Caden. And while it's not technically over, this puts us in a great position. And in fact, Caden Durham's dealing with a little bit of wear and tear, so I'm just going to put in Harlem Berry and hope for the best. But Durham has done us well. He has 14 carries for 88 yards today. That is great and exactly what you want to see, but we need to close this game out now. And unfortunately, on 3rd and 9, I go for a pass play and I take a dumb sack. So now it's 4th and 19, and we're just going to be draining out the clock for the next 25 seconds and hoping for a good punt from Lambert. And ultimately, the punt was good, not great, and we've given John Mateer a chance to drive down the field and knock us off in an upset that would truly ruin our spirits. We need to tackle him inbounds, and thankfully we do. And now as the clock is running, the Sooners have under 30 seconds here to make something happen. It's going to be 2nd and 4. We're getting pressure on him. Maybe we can get a pick, but we can't jump up. It's nice to see that we're getting pressure on Oklahoma, but we're not doing it here on this play. Mateer's going to try to run, maybe? He just jukes us out. He takes a dumb sack. That one dumb play right there might have screwed over Oklahoma. They might have time for maybe one more play down the field, but they're going to need a miracle in this scenario, and Mateer's going to throw a pick. We're going to see if we can take it back. We can't. But the Tigers win the SEC championship. What a victory. Oklahoma tries to pull off a 4th quarter comeback, but they can't get there. That 50-yard field goal from LSU secures the victory. We bring home the SEC championship, and we'll be seeing you in the college football playoff. And now we're here at 80 expectations. We get our goals completed, but it says that we weren't ranked in the top 15 at the end of the season. That is just completely false. As you can see here, we finished as the number 12 team in the country, and even if you take away the conference championship week, we still finished as the 14th team in the country. And I don't know what our AD is smoking, but we absolutely were ranked in the top 15 at the end of the season. And in the end, I guess it doesn't matter because we still beat our other 2 goals and we will be 100% safe. But it would have been nice to have that extra 250 NIL to go after potentially a 5-star transfer. Instead, we'll have to focus on the task in front of us, which is actually a game against Boise State. It's not very often that you're going to see a 13-0 group of 5 school as your first round matchup. But we're doing just that, and as much as I hate to say it, it's probably favorable for us in this game to play Boise State. Because while 13-0 is extremely impressive, and I'm sure they have a number of great players on their roster, I would rather play Boise State than play at the Big House against Michigan or at Ohio Stadium against Ohio State. But I could very well eat my words, because while Boise State is only ranked as a 74 overall, they're 13-0 for a reason. And clearly the Tigers overestimated Boise State because not only did they beat us, they dominated us from bell to bell. Max Cutforth put together a great performance against our defense. We allowed 31 points. We could only put up 17 points with our offense, and the Tigers are going to be going home in the first round of the college football playoff. So yes, we do unfortunately lose to a team that we are 13 overalls better than, but it shows that we have a lot to improve on. And with this recruiting class, we're hoping that we can improve on a lot, though Rajon Fisher certainly won't help with his normal dev. Who will help, though, is the 5-star edge Jalen Flavors, who has star dev, good block shedding, good power moves. He might start day one if we can't find a better edge in the transfer portal. Another star dev player for us is the Mike linebacker Caesar Wing. After Whit Weeks goes to the NFL draft this season, we will definitely have a big need at Mike linebacker, and maybe Caesar Wing can fill that as early as next season. But outside of those two players, we unfortunately didn't have anybody over impact dev. Even with all of our gem 4-star players, we only had 2 star dev players. And that's just not good enough. And before we reach the end of the season and see who won the national championship, let's take a look at our final season stats. Sam Leavitt had a great season, almost 4,000 passing yards, almost 30 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, 65% pass completion percentage. If he has this stat line in real life, I'm sure LSU fans would be very happy with him. The same goes for the 2 running backs, Caden Durham and Harlem Berry. While Berry didn't get as many touches as I would have liked him to, he still ended up with 5.2 yards per carry and 5 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Caden Durham hit the 1,000-yard mark, 5.6 yards per carry, 8 touchdowns. It looks like he had a pretty good season. Receiving the ball, it was the number 1 option, Jackson Harris. He had over 1,000 yards and 11 receiving touchdowns. Eugene Wilson with almost 1,000 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. Jace Brown with 880 and 9 touchdowns, and Trades Green unfortunately only had 2 touchdowns. That's a bit of a disappointment for the 6'7" target, but he still ended up with almost 650 receiving yards. And defensively, we just did not turn it around in terms of pressure. The freshman Lamar Brown really stood out with 8.5 sacks, 18 TFLs. He's deserving of the all-conference mark that it looks like he got. But outside of him, it's just disappointment on the defensive line. And it's sad that Whit Weeks, our Mike linebacker, had the 3rd most sacks on the team. And he tied with Prince Will, who was the full-time edge rusher. Even with the 87 speed that he had off the edge, he could only get 2 sacks. It would be a travesty if this guy is drafted in the top 3 rounds of the NFL draft. But meanwhile, it's important to point out our stars like Whit Weeks. He had an incredible season with 91 tackles, 6 TFLs, 2 sacks, and 3 interceptions. In fact, he was second on the team with interceptions behind, of course, DJ Pickett. The true sophomore ended the season with 6 interceptions, which is absolutely ridiculous. Hopefully he can end up as a mid-90s player for us next season. And outside of those 2 players, Jace Thomas, TJ Daugherty, and Tamarcus Cooley each had 1 interception. Ultimately, this was a good season, especially compared to the garbage that you see from 2020 to 2025. But losing to Boise State in the first round of the college football playoff definitely stings, even if we weren't technically supposed to win that matchup as the number 12 seed. And ultimately, in a rematch of last year's Big Ten championship, Ohio State takes down Indiana and they win a national championship for the 2nd time in 3 years. But in front of us, we have some pretty important decisions to make. The all-conference receiver Jackson Harris wants to leave due to championship contender, but if you look at our deal breaker, we actually do have an A-, which meets his needs. So I'm assuming that that just means he wants more NIL. And ultimately, after the great season that he had last year, it's hard not to give him the $350 NIL that he'll need in order to not leave us. It might seem like a bit much for a 1-year rental, but honestly, I would say it's worth it. If he can have a season similar to what he did last year, I'd say $350 NIL is more than worth it. Caden Durham wants to leave due to playing time, which is strange because, again, he has A+ play time. And ultimately, I actually think I'm going to let him walk. I like Caden Durham, but I think he can get more of an opportunity at a different university because we want to make Harlem Berry our true number 1 running back next year. Eugene Wilson wants to leave due to brand exposure. Let's see how much he actually wants. It would have to be about $230 to guarantee that he comes back. I think I could actually find a better receiver in the portal for $230. So I'm going to let him walk. Trey Brown didn't find any playing time for us. We'll let him walk in the portal. The same pretty much goes for Dylan Jones. We'll also let him walk in the portal. McGibbs missed us the field goal that would have let us beat Alabama, so we're definitely going to let him go. And in fact, we're going to let everybody else go down here except for Zach Weeks and Aiden Anding. And now as we reach players leaving, we're of course going to be losing Jordan Seaton to the NFL draft. We're going to let Des Green go to the NFL draft as well. He'll be a round 2 pick. And now we have a big decision here because I thought Sam Leavitt was almost a guarantee to go to the NFL draft, but we have a very high chance to bring him back. And if we can bring back a 90 overall quarterback next season when we don't really have a plan at that position, I'm gonna at least try to, and thankfully he does decide to stay for his senior season. That is actually a huge get for us, and it's really going to help us in the transfer portal, because we're not going to have to worry about finding a day 1 starter, and we can instead focus on finding a developmental project. Someone who can sit behind Leavitt for a year and hopefully learn the system before becoming a starting quarterback. And as we keep that in the back of our mind, we're unfortunately going to be losing Caden Durham and Eugene Wilson. They were 2 big parts of our offense last season, but I think they were ultimately going to be phased out, so we wish them nothing but the best. And outside of the GOAT Dylan Carpenter, if you know you know, then we're going to be letting everybody else walk, including a couple of starters last season. We're going to have to find a new kicker and a new punter in the portal, and that's fine with me, but we're also going to be losing our 3rd string defensive tackle Malik Blockton, as well as another wide receiver Trey Brown, and of course the 3rd string halfback CC Hall. And as we take a look at draft results, we only have 5 players drafted this year. Jordan Seaton was of course a 1st round pick, Des Green a 2nd round pick, Whit Weeks a 3rd, and Jace Brown and for some reason Prince Will was drafted after having a 2-sack season, but they both go in the 5th round. Ultimately, only 5 players drafted from LSU. I want that to be the lowest number we have for the rest of this rebuild. And to make that possible, we're going to have to go after the top of the top transfer portal targets. That includes going after the 5-star edge Zion Ely, the 5-star receiver Khalil Lockett, how about another 5-star receiver Quincy Porter, and how about another 5-star receiver Jerome Miles. And let me say that I'm glad that we got Sam Leavitt back on our roster, but it would have been very interesting to get Lenore Sellers at LSU. It also would have been very interesting to get some of these top quarterbacks like CJ Carr, Drew Messamaker, Bryce Underwood, Keyshawn Henderson. They would have been great to get them in our program. But again, we just don't meet some of their deal breakers. So unfortunately, if we want to get a quarterback for developmental purposes, we're probably going to have to find a 3-star. So the good news for us this season is that while we let go of a couple wide receivers, we have a number of great receivers that are really interested in us. I mentioned the 3 5-star transfers that were interested in us, but we also have the Clemson transfer TJ Moore, and we have Dallas Wilson interested in us. But unfortunately, that same type of love is not there from the quarterback position. And while we have a number of them on our boards right now, a lot of these guys are just freshmen that we want to sit for 1 season. And it's also worth noting that none of these guys have us within their top 10, which means that we're going to have to throw them a lot of NIL just to come and sit on the bench for us for 1 season. So in the end, is it really worth it? Maybe not, but if we can get 1 solid season of development from one of these guys, maybe Tramel Jones, the Florida transfer, then maybe that would be good for our program next year. And outside of our skill positions, we obviously want to beef up on the offensive line after losing some key starters. That means going after some of the young freshmen like Keeney Pepe and Bryce Gilmore. And ultimately, after scouting the receivers, I'm just going to end up with Khalil Lockett, Quincy Porter, and TJ Moore on our board. If we can get just 2 of these players, I think we are in a great position. And even if we only get 1 or none of these players, we still have Jackson Harris coming back for us. In terms of the quarterback, I'm just going to keep Tramel Jones and Chase Davis on our board. If we get one of them, great. If not, then we save NIL for next season. We've also added on our board this 3-star player, Justin Williams. He looks absolutely ridiculous. I'm sure he's only a 3-star because he's a junior and will be a senior next season, but 90 awareness, 90 speed, 91 play rec, 93 hit power, and his physical abilities are already full. This guy just must be a cheat code in real life if he has these stats. And hopefully he can be a cheat code on our team because he'll probably be Mike number 1 if he commits. And we're always looking for more secondary help, and Brandon Arrington would absolutely help out. He would be a great number 2 option to DJ Pickett with 96 speed, great coverages, great physical abilities, and if we don't get the 5-star transfer to commit, that's fine because we have Ashton Hampton and Darius Dixon on our board as well. These 2 players project to be great cornerback 2 or cornerback 3 players for us. All in all, we have 18 transfers on our board, including a number of 5 stars, and while it seems like a lot, look at the top right screen. We have 5,200 NIL remaining. Our AD gave us an extra payday so that we could go out and splurge on top transfers, and we're going to be looking to do just that in this transfer portal period. We're now here at the end of the transfer portal, and while we didn't end up like Ohio State, who spent 5,000 NIL on this recruiting class and ended up with a full recruiting class, including 10 5-stars, and in fact, I believe that their top 2 players are Drew Mestamaker and Decorian Moore, so that will be a lethal combo that we might have to get through if we want to win a national championship. But despite that, we still ended up with the number 5 class in the country. We ended up with 4 5-stars, which is tied for the 3rd most in the country. And as you can see here, we didn't get every single 5-star that we wanted because Zion Ely went to Oklahoma along with Keyshawn Henderson and Mark Bowman. My goodness. But overall, we ended up with some great players like Khalil Lockett, Quincy Porter, and TJ Moore. That will be a lethal 1, 2, 3, and I honestly feel bad for Jackson Harris because I didn't know that we could go this crazy in the transfer portal with receivers. And if I knew that we could, he probably wouldn't be on the team anymore, but that's okay. He'll be a great wide receiver 4, I guess. We ended up signing Tramel Jones. Unfortunately, he only has normal dev, but he's not too bad. So hopefully if he can develop a little bit this year and next year, maybe he'll be somewhere in the 80s. And if we strike out on quarterbacks in both high school recruiting and in the transfer portal next season, then maybe he could be an okay starter. But outside of him, Fluff Bothwell will be a great halfback 2. Nick Townsend will take over the tight end 1 position from Trey'Dez Green. Bryce Gilmore with Star Dev can hopefully take over as a starting tackle. The same for Henry Fennecu, who has impact dev but looks decent enough. Tyshawn Willis should hopefully help us on the outside linebacker. We ended up getting Justin Williams, and he unfortunately only has normal dev, but he already looks like a complete demon. And the guy who I'm happiest to get, honestly, is Brandon Arrington. We didn't necessarily have a need at cornerback, but it's nice to get more youth in that position. And he will have elite dev already with great physical tools. If we just improve those coverages, he will end up as a mid-90s player in just a couple of seasons. And now at the end of training results, surprise, surprise, Sam Leavitt is by far the best player on the team. He now has upgraded his awareness, his accuracies have gotten considerably better. He should be the best quarterback in the country next season. Following closely behind him is D'Angelo Lewis and Tramel Jones Jr. I don't think D'Angelo Lewis is real, and if he is, he's just not very good. His accuracies are absolutely atrocious, especially deep accuracy, and Tramel Jones already just looks better than him. So even with only normal dev, his accuracies got a lot better, his awareness got better too. So if something happens to Sam Leavitt, our QB2 will be Tramel Jones. At halfback, Harlan Berry got considerably better. He is now a 90 overall. His agility is now a 98. His change of direction is a 97. His awareness got better. His carrying, his ball carrier vision all got better. If he wants to go to the NFL draft next season, I'm sure he could, but we're going to do everything in our power to keep him as a Tiger. And right behind him, and someone who will certainly go to the NFL draft, is Fluff Bothwell. He ended up improving his speed. He's at a 90 overall in that category, and they should provide a great 1-2 punch to our running game. Now for receivers, you can definitely see that I over-recruited this position, because our top 5 receivers are all 89 plus. Jackson Harris right now is actually the highest rated of them all, so I was talking about how he could be a wide receiver 4. He'll probably end up being wide receiver 3 for us. In my mind, I actually think TJ Moore is going to be wide receiver 1, Khalil Lockett will be a good number 2, and then Jackson Harris could be a good number 3. In that scenario, it unfortunately leaves out Winston Watkins and Quincy Porter, and while I have more faith in what Quincy Porter can do for us in 2 seasons, Winston Watkins has a lot of skill caps, and I think 90 overall is about right where he's going to end up. And that's totally fine as a wide receiver 3 to Lockett and Porter. On to some other transfers. Bryce Gilmore is going to end up being our starting left tackle. His pass blocking is phenomenal, but his run blocking is already capped out at 77. That's going to be tough for the future. And then at our other positions, we're like okay, but not great. At right guard, we're probably going to have a true freshman 4-star gem start. And at right tackle, it's probably going to be Weston Davis, who actually has star dev for us. Coming off the edge, it will probably be Jordan Ross, though Tyshawn Willis, who we recruited as an outside linebacker, he actually is an 84 overall off the edge. And while his power moves, finesse moves, and block shedding isn't necessarily great, he'll have 85 speed and 91 acceleration off the edge. And he might start for us off of the right side. I'm just not sure if I start him or if I start the true freshman. Either way, they'll be accompanied by Lamar Brown, who is now a 92 overall with tactician boosts. As a true sophomore, he should completely dominate. and improve on his 8.5 sacks that he had last season. Our linebacker core is actually a little bit worse. We're probably going to start a true freshman at Sam linebacker. At Mike, we have Justin Williams, who will take over the spot that Whit Weeks had, but we're also going to be relying on freshmen at Mike linebacker. And then at Will linebacker, we have Devon Keys for now, and hopefully some of our true freshmen can develop and take over his spot next season. Now on to the secondary. Our cornerback room is actually much stronger now than it was last season. DJ Pickett unfortunately has a lot of skill caps, including those at man coverage and zone coverage. So he can't get much better than the 90 overall that he is right now, which I personally think is absolutely ridiculous. But still, he'll be a great cornerback 1. Brandon Arrington will probably take over from him as cornerback 1 next season if Pickett decides to stay. And we have a couple of good seniors in Jakeem Jackson and PJ Woodland as our number 3 and our number 4. Our safety position is really strong with Deshaun Spears. He's an 87 overall. And Tamarcus Cooley is also an 87 overall. His coverages are great. His awareness is great. He'll be one of the best safeties in the country next season. All in all, I'd say that we improved our roster from last season, but we still have a couple things that we want to work on. Most notably, getting younger at the offensive line and the defensive line. If we can find more gems at those positions, then hopefully that will set us up better for the future. But to switch gears, thankfully for us, our QB problem seems to not really be a problem anymore. 2 5-stars have us first on their boards, including the number 20 player in the country, Randy Dirth, with 83 speed, 92 throw power, mid to high 80s accuracy. He looks absolutely ridiculous. You could say the same about Martin Fitzpatrick with 82 speed, 90 throw power, similar accuracies. He looks about just as good. But maybe better than all of them is the 4-star gen Juan Alibi. He has 90 speed with 93 throw power and mid-80s accuracy. And while his awareness is not as high as the previous 5 stars, that 90 speed alone already intrigues me. But if we want to go for a more traditional passer, we have Frederick Boren on our board as well. He only has 75 speed, but he has 98 throw power, 91 short accuracy, and 89 mid accuracy. No matter who we decide to go with out of these 4 quarterbacks, it will be a great decision for us. Also interested in us is the number 2 player in the country, the halfback Ciante Silver. He is a gem 5-star with 90 speed as a contact seeker, and while the change of direction and the acceleration aren't great, you can't pass up a 5-star gem player. We also have the number 5 player in the country, David Umodu, interested in us. He has 89 speed and 97 change of direction. And in terms of offensive linemen, we have a number of them interested in us. We have 5 tackles alone on our board right now, and all of them have us in their top 5s. The best tackle in the country is Ty Gage, and he already looks like he could be an instant starter. But maybe better than him is Bruce Ninkovich, who already has 89 pass block as a high school senior. Off the edge, we only have 1 gem player interested in us, and it's Hashim Ajayi. But in terms of defensive tackles, we have 3 5-stars that are second on our boards, including the number 1 defensive tackle in the country, Dion Bettis, who has 85 speed, 88 hit power, 89 strength, and a couple of great physical abilities. We're also going to continue working on our outside linebacker position with a couple of these mid to high 80s speed linebackers. And a hidden gem that we have on the board is Joe Hasty. He may only be a 4-star, but he has 94 speed and 83 man coverage. If we want to maintain all of those recruits, we're going to have a good season. And thankfully for us, our non-conference schedule is not hard at all. Houston will be our toughest matchup, and they were 8-5 last season, including 4-5 in the Big 12. So hopefully they can be easy work for us, but what won't be easy work for us is this 2-game stretch that we have for Week 4 and Week 5. We have to play number 9 Oklahoma, a rematch of the SEC Championship last season, and then we have to go at Georgia. And while Georgia was only 7-6 last season, they are the number 11 team in the country for a reason. And of course, later in the season, we'll play Ole Miss at home, and we'll end the season at Texas A&M. But if you look at the top of the screen, near the top of the screen, we are a 94 overall team. We are considerably better than what we were last season. And while we lost some key pieces to the NFL draft, I feel as though we did a pretty good job replacing them. Last season, we won the SEC and we made the college football playoff. And this season, we got better. So hopefully we can have a better regular season record and hopefully get a first-round bye in the college football playoff. And the journey to a college football playoff national championship, just like with everyone, starts at week 1. But for us, thankfully, we're playing a layup in week number 1 because Houston already played in week 0 and they lost in overtime to Georgia Southern. And predictably, the Tigers beat the Cougars by 14 points, though it does look like Houston put up 14 points in the fourth quarter when we probably had our bench scrubs in. It looks like their 72 overall quarterback actually had a day against us, so that's not great to see. But Sam Leavitt with 324 yards and 3 touchdowns, he's picking up where he left off last season. And in Harlem Berry's first game as the true RB1, he played okay, but 4.2 yards per carry is not great, and 1 fumble on the ground is also not great. And in the following 2 weeks, we take care of UTSA and Georgia Southern at home. And it might sound a little disrespectful to say this, but that was the easy part of our schedule. All respect to the group of 5, of course, and I guess Houston. But our real schedule starts this week, week 4 against number 5 Oklahoma. We need our offense to show out like it did against Georgia Southern, where Sam Leavitt was the SEC Player of the Week with 327 passing yards, 5 touchdowns to no interceptions, and an 89% completion percentage. He only had 3 incomplete passes for the entirety of the game, and we need similar efforts if we want to knock off the Sooners. And of course, beating the Sooners will be important for conference standings, but it's also important to us because we have a big visit week lined up. On campus this week is going to be the 4-star gem Hashim Ajayi. Next week, he's supposed to be on Oklahoma's campus, but if we can have a strong week this week against Oklahoma, then we can overtake the Sooners, and we can get a verbal commit from Ajayi. The same goes for Dion Bettis, and while Oklahoma doesn't have him on campus next week, he's going to be in Baton Rouge this week for our game against Oklahoma, and a strong showing here could catapult us into first place in his recruitment. A win would obviously help with Devin Roseman, and we'd probably get a verbal commit there, but with Barry Bland, it's essentially just a Hail Mary opportunity here. If we blow out the Sooners, then maybe we could jump over Notre Dame, but they have a stronger pipeline tier over us, and he's going to be in South Bend for week 9. If we somehow get him to commit, it's going to have to happen in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to need to have a strong showing today. But Oklahoma has consistently been one of the strongest teams over the past decade, and in order to beat the Sooners, we're going to have to play nearly perfect. And now the first piece of gameplay action that you're going to be getting this season is, unfortunately, with us in a 16-point deficit. I guess Oklahoma's just been tougher than us all game long, but we really need a miracle if we want to beat the Sooners. Because even if we somehow score a touchdown here and we hold them as the pressure is instant there, and that, of course, is the transfer edge Zion Ely, who we desperately wanted, but, of course, Oklahoma got him. And it looks like they're sending pressure here on 3rd down. We had to give it up early, and it looks like that might be Khalil Locker, or maybe that's DJ Moore, the transfer. In fact, that will be TJ Moore, the transfer wide receiver from Clemson. Hangs on to a big catch, gets us about 20 yards. Even if we do, oh my goodness. And that was TJ Moore, the transfer wide receiver who made the great catch and great run, but we just do not have enough time in the pocket. Those stars on the defensive line there are really eating us up. We're going to see if we can get them down the sideline. We can. Khalil Lockett outruns the cornerback. Blown coverage maybe? I'm not sure, but a huge touchdown for the Tigers. But if we want to stay in this one, we need to have a flawless 2-point conversion here. This is essentially the game if we can't make it, because 10-point deficit is a lot. We're going to see if we can hit TJ Moore, and we can. Now, at this point in time, we need flawless defensive execution. We have to be guessing run, but they go with the RPO. What a great play call from them. They're going to get an easy 1st down. And that's just more time that should be ticking off the clock, but they don't run chew clock. Instead, they're just going to hand it off to the running back, and they're going to get an easy 15 yards. I'm not sure exactly what our defense is doing, but whatever it is not working, as we're going to get pressure there. We might get a pick, but 14 drops it. What is he doing? We send 5 on this play. We give them pressure. Flavors, our freshman right edge, beats their left tackle, and all of a sudden, he has a free lane to the quarterback. Keyshawn Henderson, the transfer, throws up an easy catch here for 14. 14 is I believe, our freshman outside linebacker. Look at this. You're telling me that he drops this pass? Every player in college football would grab this catch, and they would see that there's green grass in front of them. This would more than likely be a pick 6, and if it's not, then it's a tackle at the 30-yard line at least. Instead, our freshman outside linebacker drops the ball, and we had the opportunity of a lifetime, and we literally and figuratively let it slip between our hands. We still have to recover from that play, but we don't have much time to recover because it's going to be 2nd and 10 here, and that's going to be a strong gain from the tight end. And of course, what I didn't realize is that that tight end is the former 5-star and the 5-star transfer, Mark Bowman. So strong from them, but their receiver, I don't know who that is, but he just sheds off a tackle. That is unbelievable. If we got to that pass in time, then maybe we could have broken it up. Maybe it would have been 4th down, who knows. But anyway, we need a big hit on the quarterback, but he just finds a lane and he's going to walk in for an easy touchdown. Unbelievable. Just a truly pathetic effort from both sides of the ball here. 27 points actually looks like a decent amount, but it just wasn't good enough. Keyshawn Henderson with 303 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, almost 80% completion percentage. That is unacceptable from our defense. And to have 4 defensive recruits in Baton Rouge today, they must have seen just this pathetic effort, and hopefully they feel bad for us. Maybe they think we need more starters, and because of that, maybe they decide to commit to us, but I'd say that that's pretty unlikely, and we lose by 15 points. And to no one's surprise, of course, they don't feel bad. Hashim Ajayi would have probably been a hard commit for us if we won this game. Instead, Oklahoma is just going to bring him home here in week 5. Dion Bettis probably would have been a hard commit for us as well, but unfortunately, it looks like Ohio State is actually going to beat out Oklahoma and take the 5-star defensive tackle. Devin Roseman would have almost certainly hard commit to us, but instead, we're going to be in a tight battle with Oklahoma, but I do think our lead is just enough so that we can win this one. And of course, Barry Bland is not going to commit to us, and in fact, I'm just going to be taking him off our board because his deal breaker, conference prestige, for some reason, Notre Dame has an A+, even though they aren't a part of a conference, but I guess that doesn't matter to him. And he's going to commit to Notre Dame within the next 3 weeks, so we're just going to take him off our board. Thankfully, we do have more recruits like Mitch Boyd on the defensive line and Roseman, who could commit to us, as well as Colin Gammon in our linebacker core. But it sucks to lose out on a couple of great 5-star prospects just because we couldn't perform at home. So we didn't play our A game last week, but this week we really need to play our A game because we're going to be going at Georgia and playing the number 6 team in the country. And the first time we hop into this game is with less than 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the contest. We're down by 4 points, and even though we are down, it is definitely not the worst case scenario for us, as I see that we're on our 3rd string halfback, Dylan Jones. Thankfully, it looks like Bothwell is back in the game, but one thing that I have noticed throughout the past couple of weeks is that Harlem Berry is injured for us, but it doesn't matter because Bothwell finds a hole through the offensive line. He charges into the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Tigers. But you do have to wonder if we left too much time on the clock for the Bulldogs. Here at home, they obviously have the advantage, and they're going to find a receiver over the middle. That's an easy 25 yards for them. So far, they've had the lead for the majority of this contest, and we've only just recently been starting to come back as DJ Pickett makes a great tackle there. And we're obviously hoping to maintain the lead here in the last 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but it looks like Georgia's just going to drive down the field on us with relative ease. We're going to rush 4 there, hope that the quarterback, we can get to him, and we do. That was our 90-speed middle linebacker, and you could definitely see it in that play, as it looks like they're going to go to the outside, but our linebacker's going to be there. We'll stop him short of the 1st down. And obviously in this scenario, Georgia's going to go for it around midfield, 4th and 3. They could run the ball, but of course they're going to pass it. We're going to have it underneath, and the pressure gets to him. What a huge stop. Now, all of a sudden, we're back in the driver's seat. We're up by 3 with about 2 minutes left. We just cannot afford for them to stop us here on this drive. All we need is a 1st down, and we've essentially sealed this game here. We have to rely on our run game. We have to rely on our offensive line. Bothwell cuts it up the middle. He gets 8 yards there. And in this scenario, I think many would pass, considering the great weapons that we have on offense. I'm going to trust our run game here. They got us 8 yards on the last play, but they were obviously expecting it. That is tough for us. But as many people say, scared money don't make no money. We're up by 3 points. If we get a 1st down here, we essentially seal it. And if we don't get it, then we've pretty much just put Georgia back into the same situation they were in, but with less timeouts. So hopefully we can get them here. And wide open is going to be TJ Moore, and he's going to seal it for the Tigers. With our backs against the wall at Georgia, coming off of a terrible loss against Oklahoma, we showed who we truly are, and we bring out the best of us. A huge victory for the Tigers on the road. This should hopefully cement our status as a top 10 team, and maybe more importantly, we up our status in the SEC standings. Hopefully this puts us back right on track. And unfortunately, as predicted, Hashim Ajayi has commit to the University of Oklahoma. That's a tough loss for us. And ultimately, it looks like Dion Bettis is going to commit to either Oklahoma or Ohio State, so we might as well just take him off our board. But all of that was pretty much expected. What hurts us the most is Randy Dirth verbally committing to Alabama. He must have had a strong Week 5 visit week with the Crimson Tide, and they've taken over the Tigers to land a verbal commit from one of the best quarterback prospects I've ever seen in this game. What we need to hope for is that he does not fully hard commit to the Crimson Tide after this week, and he gives us one more week. One more chance to prove that we are the right team for him. Next week, we will have him on campus for our game against Arkansas. And if we can beat the Razorbacks, and if he does not choose to commit to the Crimson Tide after this week, we might be able to steal Randy Dirth from one of our top rivals. Another 5-star we could steal is Ciante Silver, who Georgia has overtaken the lead for us. I don't think he'll commit to the Bulldogs next week, and if he does, it'll be a verbal commit, or maybe we'll be in a recruiting battle. Either way, he will more than likely enter our campus with his recruitment still open, and hopefully we can get a victory over Arkansas and steal his commitment. So I think the last thing that you guys saw was the recruitment failures that we were having, but hopefully for the Arkansas week, guys were going to come in, we could get a good recruiting visit for them. And unfortunately, after that point in time, almost everything went wrong, including stuff that happened in actual life. Somehow, some way, I was not recording these past couple of weeks, and it's probably a good thing for us because we have not had a good stretch in time. First, we lose to 3-6 Florida on the road, 38-35. In this one, their 79 overall quarterback, Aaron Philo, had 256 yards through the air and 4 touchdowns. And I guess he got into the game because their actual starter, CJ Bailey, must have gotten hurt. I'm not sure because I wasn't in the game, but it's honestly super embarrassing that we just lost to a backup quarterback. And it's not because of our passing offense, because Sam Leavitt was, as always, great, but it was our defense that couldn't get going with 0 sacks on the game, 0 interceptions, 0 TFLs. Our defense was just absolutely atrocious in Gainesville. But that would have still been recoverable if we would have beaten Arkansas on our own home turf. But unfortunately, we lost the battle of the boot to the former Florida quarterback, DJ Lagway. In this one, Sam Leavitt was good, but he threw a pick, which is honestly unlike him, though I will say only 1 interception isn't bad. Our run game got going, and honestly, our offense was good, but once again, it's our defense that's been struggling to step up. Only 1 sack on the entire game, 0 interceptions, only 3 TFLs. We have just been struggling during this stretch of SEC play. Thankfully, we bounced back with a win over Ole Miss. We had a bye week, and then we beat up on Vanderbilt, and we're also still the number 10 team in the country. And if we want to make the college football playoff, we're going to have to win out over these next couple of weeks against South Carolina, Missouri, and Texas A&M. And if you thought recruiting was going bad just a couple of weeks ago, you should imagine what it's looking like now. Because we lost our visit week against Arkansas, Randy Dirth committed to Alabama, Ciante Silver committed to Georgia, Bruce Ninkovich, who I don't even think we had on a visit that week, but if we did, it certainly wouldn't have helped. He committed to Michigan, and the 5-star defensive tackle that we had a firm grip on, he ends up committing to Notre Dame. Thankfully, we secured a commitment from the 4-star gem quarterback Juan Alibi with 90 speed, 93 throw power. He's not as good as the 5-star, but he still is pretty solid. We also got a commitment from a 5-star receiver, Percy Ivory. We got a verbal commitment from the number 1 tackle prospect in the country, Ty Gage. And we got 2 hard commits from 2 very good outside linebacker prospects in Roseman and Gammon. And a couple of weeks before early National Signing Day, we have what it looks like to be tied for the 4th best recruiting class in the country. But unfortunately, it took almost 400 more NIL than what Oklahoma did, and they recruited the same amount of players that we did. That's obviously not a good sign for our future, but if you look in the top right corner, we still have 4,500 NIL remaining. And I think the strategy with LSU isn't to continue going after high school prospects, it's to just attack the transfer portal. We're going to have a number of elite prospects that will be interested in us, and hopefully we can capitalize that on the offensive line and the defensive line. And speaking of the defensive line, Dominic McKinley unfortunately tore his labrum. He'll be out for the rest of the regular season, as will our number 3 receiver Jackson Harris. And thankfully I picked up a number of receivers in the offseason because Khalil Lockett is also down for another week with a forearm fracture. So even with those 2 key injuries, we still have Quincy Porter and Winston Watkins waiting in the wings. Quincy Porter has a playing style deal breaker, which is obviously not great for us for the future, and because his skill caps are still pretty solid, it's going to be tough to say no for whatever NIL amount he'll be asking for. And while I was going to wait to hop into a game until we hit the A&M game because they were ranked at the time, it looks like we've lost at South Carolina 53-51 in an overtime shootout. That essentially just derailed our season, and we're pretty much guaranteed now to not make the college football playoff. We'd be lucky to even be ranked with 4 losses at this point. but we could just not stop them offensively. On the ground, we had a great game with Harlem Berry, who's now back fully healthy. Sam Leavitt, Fluff Bothwell, they had a combined 5 touchdowns on the ground. But despite these 2 interceptions from our top 2 cornerbacks and 2 sacks, which honestly isn't bad for our team, we just have not been able to get it going defensively. That's led to us falling to a 6-4 record, a 3-4 record in conference, and this is honestly just completely shocking to me. We have a 94 overall team. Last year, we had a 91 overall team and we won 10 games. And while our offensive line has gotten slightly worse, the depth all around in our team has gotten better. So I'm not sure exactly why our team is underperforming, but this is not a good sign for our future, and it's not a good sign for my job security that we can't get over 10 wins in this season. We'd honestly be lucky to get 8 wins in this season. Thankfully, we do finish off the season with 2 strong wins over Missouri and at Texas A&M. But that doesn't change the fact that my 80 expectation goals are not going to be completed after this season. We're not going to be ranked in the top 15 at the end of the season because right now we're 19th and we're not going to have another game to play. We're not going to win a conference championship like we did last season because we're 7th in the standings. Those are 2 very negative impacts to my job security, and I'd say I'd be pretty lucky if I'm not fired after this season. But before we get to our bowl game, we have to look at our players' devs, and Juan Alibi has elite dev, 90 speed, 93 throw power. He could honestly start for us next season if we wanted him to. But if we're going 8-4 with a quarterback like Sam Leavitt, I'm honestly nervous to put a freshman in our system and have him start right away. We're going to be looking in the transfer portal for a new quarterback, and if we can't find one, then we'll probably run with Juan Alibi, but I would like to find a more experienced quarterback to start over the true freshman. Percy Ivory was the #1 receiver in the class, and he has elite dev, so that's huge for us, and he'll probably be waiting in the wings for a couple of years. Terrence Trapp has star dev, which is rare to see from tight ends, so I'm glad that we picked a good one. Ty Gage has star dev. He'll be great for us in a couple of seasons. Cooper Metzinger unfortunately only has normal dev, but his pass blocking is already at a starting level, so I'm okay with this. Deontay Howden has impact dev. He'll join our other freshmen that we recruited last year at the center position. And Devin Roseman and Colin Gammon both have star dev. That is huge for our linebacker depth. Our 2 4-star corners, Dwayne Coates and Joe Hasty, have star dev and impact dev respectively, and Larry Jalapio has star dev. He could honestly be a day 1 starter for us at safety because we're going to be losing out on both of our starting safeties this year. And taking a look at our total season stats, it looks like actually Sam Leavitt is injured, which is not good for us, but it means that Tramel Jones came in and actually played fairly well. Of course, the story here is that Sam Leavitt had a nearly flawless season, 3,300 passing yards, we'll round up for him, sure, why not? 32 passing touchdowns, only 1 interception for the entire season. And Tramel Jones in 7 games of action, I'm not sure how accurate that is, maybe he just came in for a couple of kneels, but either way, it looks like he started at least 1 game, and he had 328 yards, 6 passing touchdowns, and only 1 interception. Rushing the ball, Fluff Bothwell ended up as our primary halfback because Harlem Berry was hurt for 4 games, but Bothwell played incredibly. He had 6.6 yards per carry, 14 touchdowns. Berry himself played okay, but maybe not to the level that we thought he would. Over 500 yards, 5.8 yards per carry, and 8 touchdowns. Overall, our running game was not really the issue with this team. I'd say the same goes for the receivers, but we did not have a single 1,000-yard receiver this season. It's probably because Jackson Harris and Khalil Lockett were both injured for a good portion of the season, but you still would have liked to see more from some of those guys considering the amount of NIL that we paid them in the offseason. Still, I'd say that TJ Moore had a good year with almost 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns, and I guess it's nice to see that our target share is really, well-rounded and diverse, rather than us just force-feeding 1 or 2 different receivers. Defensively, Lamar Brown was still good, but he certainly took a small step back from his freshman season. He once again led us in sacks with 8 sacks per game, but outside of that, we couldn't have a single player reach 3 sacks a game. And that's making me think that maybe this is a playbook problem, but no matter how you view it, we need to find better edge talent in the transfer portal, and we need to hope that the true freshman Jalen Flavors starts to develop rapidly. To no one's surprise, our secondary was dominated by 3 players. DJ Pickett and Brandon Arrington combined for 10 interceptions. Justin Williams had 3, and Deshaun Spears had 1. Altogether, that's 14 interceptions, and I'll take more than 1 interception a game from our secondary. And ultimately, we ended up winning the Texas Bowl over the Sun Devils by 18 points, but that's not what we're looking for. Ultimately, we want to be where Tennessee is, which is holding the national championship, and it would have been super poetic for us because the national championship game was in the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans. Unfortunately, though, it wasn't us holding up the national championship trophy, instead it was the Volunteers. And next season, if we want to be in their position, we're going to need to maintain some of these top players, including our star defensive tackle Lamar Brown, who, spoiler alert, we're going to be giving him $350 NIL to secure his spot on our roster next season. The same goes for Khalil Lockett. We're going to be paying him a pretty penny, but I'd say it's worth it for a 90 plus overall next season. Of course, we need to maintain Harlem Berry, and we're willing to give him the $375 NIL he wants. And in terms of these 2 junior 89 overall receivers, we're going to let go of Winston Watkins, and we're going to use that NIL to bring back Quincy Porter. Porter still has favorable skill caps. Meanwhile, Winston Watkins is pretty much capped out where he is. And now that we're here at players leaving, we're unfortunately probably going to lose DJ Pickett to the NFL draft, but I'm going to try to persuade him, and yeah, it failed. So unfortunately, he'll be leaving, but we will get the pro potential boost from him, so it's not the end of the world. Also leaving for us will be a couple of key bench pieces like Terrence Fulton and Dylan Jones, as well as some starters like Weston Davis. We're also going to be losing 3 backup quarterbacks all to the transfer portal due to playing time and pro potential, as well as Tylen Singleton, who's only a 74 overall, so that's not the end of the world. All in all, despite our disappointing season, we had a number of players drafted to the NFL, and we almost doubled the amount of players that we produced to the pros compared to last season. We had 2 first-round picks in Sam Leavitt and TJ Moore, a couple of second-round picks with Jackson Harris and DJ Pickett, 2 third-round picks with Winston Watkins, who we thought would enter the transfer portal, but instead he'll up our pro potential, and we had a third-rounder with Justin Williams, and then in the later rounds, we had Fluff Bothwell, Tamarcus Cooley, Dominic McKinley, and Deshaun Spears. Overall, we had 10 players go to the NFL draft, and I would consider that a win for only a 9-win season for us last year. I mentioned how we needed a quarterback, and look who wants to come crawling back to LSU. Sinilau Hall, the guy that we recruited last year who ultimately ended up choosing the Buckeyes, he wants playing time. Well, we would certainly give him playing time. He looked like an incredible prospect last season, and I can only imagine what he'll look like next year with another year of development. At halfback, we have a number of options, but maybe most notably is a 5-star Savion Hyder. He has B+ playing time with us, and I'm not sure how accurate that is with Harlem Berry on the roster, but the very first rebuild that I did on this channel was a University of Michigan rebuild, and Savion Hyder is a cheat code. If we can get him to LSU, then that would be a huge get for us. But maybe more realistically, we're going to be going after players like A.K. Deere and K.J. Edwards. Players that can come in and take over the Fluff Bothwell role and be a solid number 2 to Harlem Berry. And you wouldn't believe it, but we have a number of top receiving prospects that are interested in us once again, including Naz Rankin, who I believe is a auto-generated player. He is the number 2 transfer in the entire portal. Well, we will certainly take him, and we will certainly take more receiver depth. The same goes for Madden Williams and for Corey Butler. So now that we're in week 3 of the transfer portal, I feel as though I should give you an update. Sinilau Hall had a great week 2 visit with us. He should hopefully verbally commit to us next week. Savion Hyder, unfortunately, we had him on that very same visit week. It looks like he's going to commit to Ohio State, so he can go be a trader there. I'll just remove him from the board, and I'll save myself 405 NIL points. Hopefully not putting KJ Edwards on a visit will still be good enough for him to get a verbal commit from us. Maybe shockingly, I'm paying these receivers a combined like 750 NIL, and nobody else is going after them, so I will absolutely take that, especially considering that Naz Rankin looks pretty solid, especially in the catching department, and if we can improve those route running abilities, he could probably be an 85+ overall next season. Madden Williams only has 87 speed, but 99 spec catch and 94 catch in traffic. You just cannot pass up on that. Terry Shelton is faster, but his spec catch isn't as crazy, but still a 95 spec catch for a transfer sophomore is ridiculous. Kelvin Obot was on that week 2 visit, and he had a great visit week with us, so hopefully he should commit to us next week. Ty Haywood, we didn't bring in on a visit, but hopefully, again, he should be another player that commits to us next week. Paka Finau was our first commit here. He should be a starting guard for us next year. Leon Noyle will just be more depth for us, and hopefully we can outlast New Mexico State. Lester Feely is the number 1 edge in the country. He's only a freshman, so his stats probably aren't great, but it would be nice to have young depth in our defensive line room. He's coming in for a week 3 visit, and if we don't get him, then it's not the end of the world, because we have Marco Jones and Cole Cogshell, who will probably commit to us in the next couple of weeks. Outside of that, the only other real notable prospect that we have on the board, other than getting more defensive line depth and getting a couple more Mike linebackers, is the 5-star Oscar Dooley. He doesn't look like a 5-star, but I assume that's because he was a 5-star freshman last season. 155 NIL isn't too much for him, and he could be a nice developmental project for us. The guy who can come in and start immediately is Donovan Jones. His awareness is great, his speed and acceleration are acceptable, and his man coverage and zone coverage are pretty solid. And now on National Signing Day, we signed almost everybody on our board but the 5-star Lester Feely, and again, that's not the end of the world because we got the other 2 edges to commit. And we lost out on the 3-star defensive tackle Truth Holmes, but we got Morris to commit on the defensive line, so that's not too big of a deal. And in terms of dev traits, I believe we already knew that Sidney Hall had elite dev because he was a 5-star gem last year, but we know that he now has elite dev. He will probably be a starter for us next year. KJ Edwards has star dev, so he'll be a great backup halfback. Kelvin Obot only has normal dev, but he already looks pretty solid enough to start. Naz Rankin has star dev, Marco Jones impact, Cole Cogshell impact, Madden Williams has normal, Terry Shelton has star, Ty Haywood has star, Paka Finau has impact, Leon Noyle with only normal, Caleb Morris also with only normal, Max Sanders, a Mike linebacker with impact, QB Reese with impact, Oscar Dooley only with impact, which is honestly very disappointing, and Donovan Jones unfortunately only with normal. And now before player progression, essentially we're going to be seeing if Tramel Jones can hold off the 2 young guns. While Alibi is probably still a couple of years away, Sidney Hall is going to have another year of progression. He sat on the bench at Ohio State, but at LSU he'll probably start because he already has 13 skill points, and that could probably get up to 60 skill points by the time training results come. And now here at player progression, our top end talent I think is certainly better than last year, but overall wise I'd say our depth is actually worse. Starting out obviously with the most glaring player on the list is Lamar Brown. He is up to a 97 overall with tactician boosts. I mean, at 299 pounds, 81 speed, 87 acceleration, 83 change of direction, with 90 strength, mid-90s awareness and play rec, he is an incredible pass rusher. We hope to put him into the double-digit sack list this season. Our second best player is, to no one's surprise, Brandon Arrington. He'll be taking over DJ Pickett's role as cornerback number 1. He improved his awareness, play rec, his man coverage, his zone coverage. He is easily the best cornerback that we have on roster, and in fact, he's actually better than DJ Pickett. In that quarterback competition that I was somewhat hyping up to you guys, yeah, it really wasn't much of a competition. Sidney Hall as a redshirt freshman is a 91 overall. He only has 79 speed, but his awareness has gotten much better. He has 94 throw power. His accuracies are completely maxed out at this point. 99 short, 99 mid, 96 deep. And with 91 throw on the run, 91 throw under pressure, it is clear that he is going to be a starter for us here. And he'll be throwing the ball to a receiver room that is just as stacked as it was last season. Quincy Porter has ended up being our number 1 receiver. He has 99 agility, 98 change of direction, good awareness. His catching is okay, but spec catch is incredible. Great route runner, great 99 release, actually. I didn't even realize it was 99 release. That should be fun on the outside to throw deep balls to. But overall, he's taking over the role of number 1 receiver. At number 2 will be Khalil Lockett. He maintains his position. And at number 3, it will be the redshirt sophomore Naz Rankin. His route running got better. His spec catch is already great. If we can improve that catch in traffic and maybe his awareness, maybe he could become the best receiver on this team after a couple of years. That is assuming, of course, that he doesn't go to the NFL draft because he already has 99 agility and 99 change of direction. The number 4 is going to be Madden Williams, the 6'1" contested specialist. I already mentioned before, but he has 99 spec catch, good route running abilities. He's going to be probably the best number 4 that college football has had in some time. Then the offensive line has drastically improved. Bryce Gilmore, as I mentioned, I believe last year, his pass blocking is almost now completely maxed out. His run blocking cannot get better than a 77, so that's not necessarily ideal, but pass blocking is elite, so hopefully he should stop some of the other team's best edges. And the biggest change on this team is the improvement of the interior line. Paka Finau is a 90 overall. We moved Kelvin Obot to center, which is crazy because he's 6'5", almost 300 pounds, and we're paying him almost 250 NIL to be a starting center, but he's going to help us in the interior offensive line. as will Leon Noyle. And then starting at right tackle will be Ty Haywood, who is pretty much maxed out already at an 82 overall. Off the edge, Tyshawn Willis has gotten considerably better, so hopefully he can transition into a full-time starter role. And then Jalen Flavors is now a true 85 overall as a sophomore. He has gotten considerably better. 93 power moves, 87 block shed. His awareness has gotten considerably better. 83 strength at 6'6", 257 pounds. He will absolutely start on the right edge and be one of our best pass rushers. Our linebackers have gotten better. It looks like Anthony Saldivari is going to take over at Sam linebacker. Our Mikes, we don't have that 90 overall that we had last year, but we have more consistency at that position. And then at will linebacker, it looks like Fabian will continue to hold that spot, though we hope that his hands got better after last year's dropped interception. And then finally for our safeties, Maxwell McGee, he has become an 84 overall with tactician boost. That is incredible for a redshirt freshman safety. And Fahim Delane is an 82 overall. He might start as a strong safety because we don't have that guy at that position yet. This is still a solid team, but I don't know if it's necessarily a national championship contender just yet. But despite what I think, we are actually a 99 overall team. I don't know if I necessarily see that with our team, but I guess our key skill positions have high overall players. This season, we're going to need our team to perform like a 99 overall because my job security went from 100% to 76%. And our goals this season are much tougher compared to last season. Make the CFP, hopefully we can do that, considering we did that in year number 1 with a worse team, and win 80% of our home games this season. And taking a look at our schedule, we have some tough opponents coming to Tiger Stadium, like SMU, though they were only 4-8 last year, and number 3 Tennessee in week 3. In fact, that game against Tennessee opens our SEC play where we have to play 3 straight ranked opponents, including number 12 Texas and number 22 Arkansas. And later in the year, we play at Alabama, which, makes sense considering they're in the SEC, but in week 12, we play number 4 Michigan at home. Thankfully, they've lost both Bryce Underwood and Savion Hyder, as we saw in the transfer portal, but still, they will be a tough out for us. And then we're going to end the year with our game against Texas A&M. Hopefully by this point in time, we don't need to worry about winning 80% of our home games. But with contests against Michigan and Tennessee earlier in the year at Tiger Stadium, who knows what our winning percentage at home is going to be at that point in time. All we can do is play the games that are in front of us, and as of right now, we're playing SMU in week 1. We are 17 overalls better than them, so I shouldn't have to hop in, and hopefully we can secure a quick victory in week 1. And thankfully for us, we dominated the Mustangs with a 38-9 victory. We only scored 7 points in the first half, but a 31-point second half is extremely impressive for the Tigers. Sini Lau Hall, in his first career collegiate start, 356 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. He took 5 sacks, so that's not necessarily ideal, but still, he got the job done. Harlan Berry had almost 5 yards per carry, a touchdown, did have a fumble unfortunately, but hopefully he can tone that down later on. Receiving the ball, Quincy Porter in his first game as the number 1 option had 138 yards through the air and a touchdown. Someone else had a touchdown, it was Nas Rankin, and Kalik Lockett also played pretty well. Defensively, it's Marco Jones, Gabe Relaford, Jalen Brown, and Tyshawn Willis who all got a sack, so no Lamar Brown and no Jalen Flavors, but our defensive line still got the job done. In fact, Marco Jones also forced a fumble, so an incredible game for the transfer edge rusher. In the following week against FCS Northwest, we of course take care of business with a 59-10 victory. Sini Lau Hall with 483 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, 79% completion percentage. He looks like an absolute stud through 2 weeks. And we're going to need him to play like a stud this week in week number 3 against the number 3 team in the country, Tennessee. The Volunteers may only be an 86 overall, but they are undefeated to start the season. We are a 99 overall. We've dominated our previous 2 opponents, and hopefully we can dominate the Volunteers here. And in this contest, we want to get out to a great start, so I might as well hop in here. We're going to change the play at the line of scrimmage. Sini Lau Hall, I did not realize he gets in that deep of a stance when he goes down, but whatever works for you works. We're going to have to throw this ball away, though. Maybe I should be opening up this drive with a run play, considering this, is the biggest game of Sini Lau Hall's young career, but he's going to find an open running lane. He's not fast at all, but he's going to get the first down. Big run. And that's just what we need right there. More confidence-building plays from Sini Lau Hall. Again, he has never been in a stage this big. Maybe triangles open over the middle, but we don't want to risk it. Maybe I should have, because he gets outrun by an edge rusher. And I don't want to run the ball in this type of scenario. We're just going to find the drag, maybe. Yep, we're just going to go to the drag. He shouldn't have stopped. Why did he stop? It's going to make it 3rd and very long. We're just going to call the plays that the offensive coordinator has lined up for us. We trust our coaching staff, and we trust Cindy Lau Hall here. On a 3rd down, we're going to go off to the edge of the field, but the pressure is just too much. And the next moment we find ourselves in is a quote-unquote 2-minute drill. There's actually 1 minute and 8 seconds left on the clock. We're going to see if we can catch him off guard with a run, and we can. We're going to call a quick timeout. And Harlem Berry only has 12 rushing yards on the day. That is not what you want to see from your starting running back, especially considering we are also down by a lot of points. We're just going to have to throw it up because the pressure, I felt like it was getting to me pretty quickly. Maybe just my, my pocket time is not great, but it is going to be 2nd down. We're going to have to go over the middle, 50-50 ball, might as well. But it looks like there's a flag on the play. That was a terrible pass. I don't know why I did that, but the flag will hopefully bail me out. Maybe some sort of, roughing the passer. That just completely bailed us out. You know, I never actually claimed to be good at this game. I just make stupid rebuilding videos, so, that should be under consideration. Cindy Lau Hall almost made the throw of the decade like that. Almost makes a great throw, unfortunately. Doesn't have the accuracy quite yet. We're going to see if we can fit the seam there, and we can. What a huge throw from the redshirt freshman. Now he's going to line up quickly, get down in that squatting stance. That's what you like to see from your quarterback. Go over the middle, gets over the linebacker's head. We're going to call timeout. Doesn't look like it's been Cindy Lau Hall's best game so far, but we're going to look to turn it around for him. Just going to have to dump it off to the tight end. Probably not the best move considering that clock is going to continue running. We're not going to call timeout in that situation, because I know I'm probably going to make 1 or 2 more stupid decisions. We're going to need to stop the clock soon. We're just going to go underneath, get the 1st down, go out of bounds potentially. I'm not sure if we did. Let's see. Yep, they're going to call it. No, they're not going to call it out of bounds. That was just a stoppage of clock for the 1st down. So we're just going to have to hurry up here, go over the middle, but it's going to be picked off. No. What a terrible read. Good God. Like I said, you do not come here for the gameplay as long as we stop them, I guess. It's not the end of the world, but 10-0 at halftime, that is not good at all. And now with the clock running in the 3rd quarter, Tennessee scores on their opening drive. We need to find a response quickly or else things could turn south quickly. We're going to see if we can go up the field with triangle. He does get a 1st down, so decent enough, I guess. And moments later, we find ourselves in another 3rd down situation. This time we are closer to the end zone. Let's see if we can make something happen here. They're going to be sending pressure. We're going to try X there. What a beautiful play there. We're going to be down at the 1-yard line. Beautiful throw from Cindy Lau Hall. Beautiful read to see that the linebacker was going to be coming down to attempt to stop him on a potential QB scramble. We're just going to hand the ball off here, old-fashioned, and Harlem Berry's going to pounce his way in the end zone. Touchdown, Tigers. We're not out of it yet. And now, with about 4 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock, we find ourselves in a 3rd down situation. The pressure's coming. Crossbody throw. Again, maybe I should have rolled out, but I felt the pressure coming. And in this scenario, we probably should be taking our 3 points, but scared money don't make no money. We're going to see what we can do here. The blitz is coming. Can Harlem Berry catch it? No, he can't. Oh, goodness. So now with 4 minutes left on the clock, I'll try to see what I can do. The team's probably better when I'm not playing, to be quite honest with you, but it's worth at least a shot. We're going to look over here at that receiver. We'll tackle him. Only 3 yards, not the end of the world. George McIntyre is under center for the Volunteers. He only has 8 pass completions today. 17 points. That's a great defensive effort from our team, but that's going to be a great slip screen, I guess. Some sort of bubble screen, potentially. Completely fools our cornerbacks. They get an open 6 yards, and it's going to be 3rd and 1. I have no clue where they're going to go. They could hand the ball off here. They could do a quick little RPO run. They're going to hand the ball off, and it's going to be to the outside. That's going to be an easy 1st down for them. And every second that comes off the clock is extremely valuable to both teams, honestly, as we're going to see if we can force a turnover. They might start chewing clock. Let's see. Yep, they're going to start chewing clock, predictably so, but we only have 3 timeouts here, and we're going to have to stop 2 potential drives. We're going to call our 1st timeout, a 10-point deficit with 3 minutes left. It's not irrecoverable, but maybe I should have gone for the field goal in that situation. But would you trust a college kicker with a 55-yarder? I'm not necessarily sure if you would. We're going to cover over the middle. It's going to be a sack. I would have liked an incompletion more. We are going to call another timeout, but not the end of the world. In fact, a sack is incredible for us. A loss of 3 yards for the Volunteers. They're going to have to punt the ball back to us. And now here with about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, Tennessee's defense is predictably playing pretty deep. We're going to see if we can throw a 50-50 ball. Maybe I should have gone deep. I didn't even see the guy to the total right side of the field. And I should have looked at that deep route because he might have been open there. But we're just taking aimless shots at this point. Once again, another aimless shot. We're going to see if our number 1 receiver can catch it. But now we're all of a sudden on 3rd and 10. Things are not looking good for the Tigers. They are dropping back a lot of players. We're just going to throw it to our tight end. But that ball is not layered at all. In fact, that might be a pick 6. We're going to see if we can truck him. He's just going to bounce off of us. Pick 6. And the Volunteers are going to come into Tiger Stadium and they're going to put BTA to the Tigers. So that loss to Tennessee ultimately only drops us to the number 11 team in the country, but more importantly for our future, it pretty much takes us out of the recruitment for the 5-star defensive tackle Gordon Milanovic. This guy is absolutely ridiculous. 83 speed at 301 pounds, 90 strength. He could honestly be a day 1 starter for us, especially because our defensive line depth is probably going to be ravaged after next season. But for what feels like the 20th time in this rebuild, Notre Dame is going to swoop in and steal another 5-star from us. We just aren't converting on our week visits. I think we're 0 for 5 in every single visit week that we've lined up so far in the regular season, and it's cost us about 5 to 10 5-stars already in just a couple of seasons. Thankfully though, we are first place for a number of 5-star recruits, including the number 1 player in the country, Pat Galen. For a number 1 player in the country, he looks a little underwhelming, but again, this is a 5-star player. His route running is already pretty good, and we can upgrade that release, speed, and acceleration over time. As you've seen in the past transfer portal classes, a lot of top wide receivers are interested in us, and Pat Galen could sit on the bench and wait a couple of years before he's fully ready to be a top option for us. A player that could almost start immediately for us, though, would be Cedric Uzama. He might have to sit 1 or 2 years maybe, but his stats already look pretty solid. He already has gold quick step, and we're first on his recruitment. We need to hope that we can beat out Tennessee. We obviously can't beat them on the field, but maybe we can beat them in the recruiting cycle. So after a 24-7 loss to Tennessee, now we're going to be playing our second of 4 straight ranked opponents, this time at Texas. But to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure if we have the liberty to jump into that game, because as you see with one of our AD expectations, we need to win 80% of our home games this season. So far, we're 2-1 at Tiger Stadium, but for the rest of the year, we only have 4 more home games, which means we need to go undefeated at Tiger Stadium to meet that 80 expectation. And later on in the season, we have to play number 4 Michigan and a 3-0 Texas A&M team. So as much as I would like to go to Austin and take on the Longhorns, we're going to have to simulate this contest. We are 15 overalls better than them, but as we saw last week, that doesn't really matter when the players hit the field. Thankfully though, we took care of business at Austin with a 42-35 victory over the Longhorns. Senegal Hall might have thrown 2 interceptions, but he also threw for 510 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. And if you look at the receiving room here, Quincy Porter, 17 catches for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was clearly the National Offensive Player of the Week. This is one of the greatest receiver games I have ever seen. And to do it when there's other great receivers on roster like Rankin, Lockett, even Barry got involved a lot in the passing game. To do that with all those great receivers on the roster, just an all-time performance there from Quincy Porter. That performance catapults us to the number 7 team in the country, and in fact, we are the highest ranked 1-loss team so far. Tennessee is the number 1 team in the country. They're going to play A&M this week. Meanwhile, the Tigers will be going to Arkansas for the battle for the Golden Boot. If I'm not mistaken, Arkansas beat us last season. We had a down year. I'm man enough to admit that as the head coach, essentially the AD, the person who brings in the talent. We were not up to LSU standards last year. This year, things are very different, and we are going to beat down on the Razorbacks. It won't be me playing the game, but I can almost guarantee you, we will not lose this game. And it looks like my word actually means something, because we go into Arkansas and we bring back the battle for the Golden Boot. Well, we bring back the Golden Boot. KJ Jackson has an okay game, but Senegal Hall, 355 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 47 passing attempts is a little absurd for a regular season game, but I guess I'll let it slide. Harlem Berry, it looks like he got hurt in the middle of this game, so not a good sign for our future. Thankfully, that's why we invested in KJ Edwards. He didn't have the best game, but he wasn't preparing to be the primary back this week. And thankfully, it looks like Harlem Berry will be back next week after a torn labrum. I'm not sure exactly how he's only going to be out for 1 week, considering that Naz Rankin will be out for 3 weeks with a torn labrum. But at both of these positions, we have decent enough depth to get through it. Leon Noyle going down for 8 weeks with a dislocated ankle, that actually hurts us a lot. But in his place, it will be a similar overall with Steven Stack. He is a pass protector mainly, as you see, almost 90 overall in those categories, but his run block is almost atrocious, and with a backup running back this week, that could cause some trouble for us. And this is just one of those weeks where trouble cannot arise. We are playing one of our biggest rivals, Ole Miss. Like with many other teams prior in this season, we are just overall better than them, but like with Tennessee, who knows how things are going to play out on the field. And unfortunately, we do lose to Ole Miss. We get shut out in the fourth quarter, and they score 10 unresponded points, and they ultimately win by 1 single point. That is actually a disaster for our season, to be quite honest with you. Sidney Hall, he has a pretty good game. 1 interception, maybe not the best. Also took 4 sacks. KJ Edwards for a backup running back, absolutely great. I mean, he's a 90 overall. He would start on most college football teams. Here, he just doesn't have that opportunity because we have someone better. But in total, 148 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown. We probably should have been leaning on him more. So unfortunately, we do lose to Ole Miss by 1 point. But shockingly, we are still the number 9 team in the country. We have 2 losses in SEC play to 2 top 10 teams, so I guess it's not that bad. But the reason why I say this isn't great for our season is because we already have 2 losses at the halfway point. We cannot slip up against any of these teams, and unfortunately, the last 3 teams on our schedule have gotten a lot better than what was initially projected of them. Alabama is now the number 4 team in the country, and we're going to have to go at Tuscaloosa for that one. Michigan is the number 1 team in the country, and Texas A&M, though they're ranked 22nd in the country, they are 6-0. And our decent start to the season hasn't hurt us too much in many recruiting battles, but unfortunately we lose out on 2 5-stars like Matt Kasivensky, which I guess I'm glad that he's not on our team because I would not remember how to say that name, and Gordon Milanovic, who unfortunately does commit to Notre Dame. All in all, we have gotten a number of pretty good verbal commits, like from the 4-star gem Frederick Balaksoon. We'll get a commit from Kyle Cruz soon. We got a verbal commit from the dual threat quarterback Steven Revis. Verbal commit from this free safety, verbal commit from a corner, we'll probably get one from Ben Carlos as well as Suatwell. We got a verbal from a 4-star defensive lineman, from 2 right guards, and hopefully we can get a verbal commit from at least 1 and hopefully both of these 5-star prospects. All in all though, we need to focus on the task at hand, and that is the Auburn Tigers. They are unranked, but they are still an 84 overall, which is similarly rated to some of the top teams in the country. So this is not some cupcake blowover game for us. And that's especially considering we just got hit with maybe the biggest injury bomb that we have in the history of my channel. Lamar Brown, our 95 overall defensive tackle, has a dislocated ankle. He will be out for the rest of the regular season. He'll be out for the SEC championship game if we even make it. And if we make the playoffs, he'll be out for the first couple of weeks of that too. Thankfully, we do get by Auburn, though our defense, as I'm seeing now, it's really starting to become a trend that they're giving up a number of points to these inferior teams. Tyree Randall throws 2 interceptions, doesn't have a great completion percentage, but he still throws for 326 yards and 2 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Sidney Hall just keeps putting out ridiculous game after ridiculous game. 474 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, 72% completion percentage. Our run game is almost back to normal. You'd like to see that yards per carry average get higher, but 3 touchdowns on the ground, that's incredible from Harlem Berry. But our defense is just struggling in every regard. We are not getting the pressure that we want to without Lamar Brown on the field. And as a result, our defensive line is seemingly just getting ravaged by other SEC teams' offensive lines. Thankfully, it looks like our secondary is stepping up as Donovan Jones and Aiden Hall each had a pick in this game, but still, giving up 40 points to a team like Auburn is unacceptable. That is an unranked opponent that we had in our house. How are we going to fare against Kentucky? How are we going to fare against the number 2 team in the country, Michigan? How are we going to fare against A&M? I guess that all remains to be seen, but without Lamar Brown, I just don't really trust this defense anymore. Thankfully though, after I simmed Week 8's game against Kentucky, I see that we get a verbal commit from Cedric Uzama. He was on a visit week this week, so we can guess that we won, but we only beat 3-5 Kentucky by a field goal. In fact, they were up 14-3 on us at the end of the first quarter. Thankfully, a dominant second quarter essentially seals it for us. but they keep it much closer than what I would have anticipated. Their 77 overall quarterback Brennan Ward has 269 yards through the air, 3 passing touchdowns. He does throw a pick, so good on our secondary, but still, that is not acceptable. Landon Scruggs is an 83 overall, averaging 4.1 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. And on the other side of the ball, our offense has to play nearly perfect. Sidney Hall throws for 409 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. He does have a 57% completion percentage. Maybe that's not as high as you would like it, but he also threw the ball 59 times in this game. I know he's a pocket passer archetype, but that just seems a bit high for a regular season contest. It's like when you leave a starting pitcher in there for too long, you're just throwing his arm out essentially, and I have a feeling that we're just throwing Sidney Hall's arm out throughout this entire season. But in some scenarios, that strategy is working, because as of right now, we're the number 4 team in the country. In fact, it's a little scandalous that we're the number 4 team in the country, considering that number 2 Michigan, or at least they were number 2 last week, they lost by 5 points to the now number 1 team in the country, and they get bumped down from number 2 to number 5 under a 2-loss LSU team. That is actually ridiculous, and for the first time ever, the game is actually favoring us. So I'm not going to be complaining about it, but still, if I'm the Wolverines, I am very upset, and unfortunately, we'll be playing them in a couple of weeks, so they'll probably be taking their frustrations out on us in that contest. After our bye week, we secure a second commitment from a 5-star. This time, it's a hard commitment from the 5-star Mike linebacker, Ben Carlos. He has 86 speed, 90 acceleration, 86 tackle, a couple of gold physical abilities. He looks like an instant impact starter for us. And in fact, this guy is one of the best 5-star prospects that I've seen. He doesn't have, like an overwhelmingly high 90 stat, but 76 awareness as a true freshman, 80 play rec as a true freshman, good coverages. He could be like a 78 to an 82 overall. And honestly, on our team, that's pretty solid, and that might even be our middle linebacker number 1 next season. Of course, I might be completely wrong because I feel like I have no pulse on prospects this season, including the number 1 prospect, Pat Galen. He is the number 1 prospect, of course, but his stats just don't look as great as maybe it would seem for a number 1 overall player. We're currently in a recruiting battle with Notre Dame. Unfortunately, I believe we're in week 10 right now, so if we don't secure a hard commitment from him this next week, then we are probably screwed, and he will commit to Notre Dame. But like I said, his stats aren't the best, so if we don't get him, it's not the end of the world for us. What would be terrible for us is if Cedric Uzomah commits to Tennessee. Like I said, I believe we're in week 10. If we're not, maybe week 9. Either way, that visit week with Tennessee is coming up rapidly. We cannot afford to lose this 5-star tackle. And while it looks like Tennessee has seemingly taken a lot of recruiting hours off of him, if he has a solid visit week with them, he might commit to the Volunteers over us. Thankfully, the following week, we get both Galen and Uzomah to hard commit to our school, and as of right now, I believe that everybody on our board is hard committed. Sua Toole has a D+ playing style deal breaker. If we don't get him, it's not the end of the world because we got Ben Carlos already in recruitment. But in this rebuild, I feel like our linebacker depth has really been a focus point for us. Unfortunately, we've struck out on a lot of them. We've gotten a lot of normal and impact dev. And getting a 4-star gem linebacker, that's something that hasn't really happened in this rebuild. So it would kind of suck if we lost out on a linebacker with gem and potentially star or elite dev. But, it's not the end of the world, again, if we don't get him. His physicals look great, to be honest with you. His coverages are terrible. In fact, his coverages are absolutely atrocious, but his actual physical abilities are very solid, and they compare pretty similarly to the 5-star player. In fact, his pursuit is better, his hit power is better, his play rec is better. He has 90 strength. My goodness. 215 pounds and 90 strength, you don't see that every day. Either way, if he has star or elite dev, it would suck, but if he has normal or impact, then good riddance if he decides to leave. Maybe the bigger story for us, though, is that we have jumped to the number 3 team in the country. If we take a look at the college football playoff top 25, the top 3 is actually made up of all SEC teams, and 4 of the top 5 schools are SEC schools. We had a 40-21 victory at Mississippi State last week. Looks like Alabama took care of business against Kentucky. Ole Miss, they are 9-1. They took care of Missouri. And A&M is just around the corner. They beat Oklahoma. And while A&M will be playing Texas, and I'm sure that's a huge matchup, this is obviously going to be the game of the week. It is number 3 LSU at number 1 Alabama. This very well might be for the number 1 spot in the college football playoff. Again, I'm not sure how we're so high with a 7-2 record, and in fact, the same for Ohio State, who has just gone completely under the radar this season. They do not deserve to be the number 4 team in the country, just like we don't deserve to be the number 3 team in the country. But we just play with the cards that we're dealt. And if we're dealt the number 1 ranking next week, if we beat Alabama, then you're not going to see me complaining about it. Of course, beating Alabama is easier said than done though. This is the best team that we've played this season by far. We've struggled with 86 overall opponents, so imagine now what it's going to be like when we line up against a 94 overall opponent. But still, I have faith in this team, even with 2 losses already throughout the season. But do I have faith in this team with me on the sticks? That's another question that remains to be answered. Thankfully, though, that's a question that does not need to be answered today, because we rout Alabama and the Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. Sinilau Hall with a great performance, 309 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. This is the biggest road test of his career so far to date, and he shows up against the Crimson Tide. He defeats Alabama. This is a huge victory for us this season. Thankfully, I'm not needed on the sticks, because I probably would have sold, but either way, a 20-point victory, 31-point first half essentially seals it, and we rout the Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. And just like I said, maybe controversially, but who cares? We are the number 1 team in the country with 2 losses. We beat Alabama. They were number 1 last week. They are now number 10 in the country. They also have 2 losses. This week, we're playing number 11 Michigan. That's certainly a tough task for us. They're similar overall to the Crimson Tide. In fact, their defense is the exact same overall. We just put up 41 points on that defense. So I'm not too terribly worried about Michigan. The only reason I'm even slightly concerned about this matchup is that we are currently at 80% for win 80% of your home games this season. Losing one of our final 2 home games this season, it would pretty much screw us out of the 500 NIL that I believe we deserve. Thankfully, I can almost guarantee that we'll win either one or both of the games in the next couple of weeks. So, we're number 1 in the country right now, so if we do go 1-1 in the next 2 weeks, I could almost guarantee that we will make the college football playoff this year. Thankfully, that's a huge impact to my job security, and it would get us 750 NIL for the transfer portal. But as of right now, I want to keep that negative impact far away from this program, and that means that we need to win 80% of our home games this year. And to do so, we have our first of 2 tough home games, first against Michigan. Again, like I said, they are a 91 overall. They have a 94 defense. I don't know who's at quarterback for them because, as we've seen multiple times, Bryce Underwood was in the transfer portal, so either they got someone else in the portal or they have been developing their own quarterback. Either way, we have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. We have a high-powered offense, and our defense actually played its best game to date last week. They're finding their stride at the right time, right before the college football playoff. But before we even start thinking about college football playoff appearances, we need to take care of the team that is in Tiger Stadium right now. And with about 3 minutes left on the clock in this contest, Michigan has a 3-point lead so far. Their offense has been playing well as of late, and Harlem Berry almost had a lane to get a wide-open touchdown. Instead, he'll be tackled after an 8-yard gain. Harlem Berry is very fun to run with, to be completely honest with you, so I am going to hand the ball off one more time and see if it works. Unfortunately, that defensive tackle makes a great play, and we are stuck on 3rd and 2. We're going to run a little curl option here. Hope that maybe R1 gets open, though that is kind of on the far side of the field. It's a tough throw for a redshirt freshman to make, but he is one of the best passers in the world. We're going to have to dump it off to Harlem Berry, and now it's 4th and 1. But like I said earlier, scared money don't make no money. And right now there's 2 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock. We're going to go to the tight end quickly. He's going to make a great catch, and it's 1st down. I felt comfortable in that situation going for it on 4th down because we had 2 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock. We had all 3 timeouts, had the 2-minute warning, of course, or they would be deep in their own territory, and it would have been a tough drive for them. We probably could have gotten the ball back. And now with 1:50 on the clock, for some reason we're hurrying up to the line. I don't know if Sinilau Hall knows, but there's only 8 yards to the end zone. So, this is not a high-pressure situation like we don't have any time on the clock. We still have all 3 timeouts. Of course, something could go terribly wrong. Of course, knock on wood for me, please. But I don't think so. I think we're in a pretty good situation here. We tried to catch him off guard with the run, but that doesn't work. And maybe I should have been more nervous because now it's 3rd and 6. We really need a 1st down in this situation. We're going to go to Rankin. He's going to get pile driven to the ground. It's going to be 4th and 1 once again. And, I went for it on 4th down back there. I'm obviously going to be going for it on 4th down again. If we don't get it, They are deep in their own territory. We're just going to have to hope and pray that Rankin gets it, but the lineman makes a great play. That was actually the linebacker. Maybe I should have taken the 3 points, but they would still have 50 seconds on the clock and 3 timeouts. I cannot tell who's back there under center for them, but it's someone with a star rating, of course. And back there for the Wolverines, it looks like it's an auto-generated player from Washington State. Not sure his name, not sure why he exists, but he is the quarterback there for Michigan. And it's funny that they have that guy playing for them because there's a number of real-life players on their quarterback depth chart right now, like Julian Lewis, like Matt Zollers. As we stop them again, we force them to a 4th and 8 situation where they are, of course, going to have to punt. We unfortunately don't have any timeouts as we cannot get to the punter, unfortunately, but we are going to be within the 50-yard line, so thankfully this is good positioning for us. And they are playing back ridiculously deep. I believe they are afraid of the potential touchdown here, of course, and I don't blame them as our left tackle gets beat. We're just going to scramble here, potentially get a first, and we do there. 25 seconds left on the clock. Of course, we are going to go for a touchdown, but I am absolutely not upset at a field goal. That wouldn't be a terrible scenario for us at all. We're going to see here, it looks like our left tackle almost got beat there. We're going to be rolling across the middle. We're just going to go out of bounds, potentially with Sinilau Hall. Quick 7 yards. And with 14 seconds left on the clock, we don't have much time to go over the middle. So maybe we can beat them over the top with one heave deep to the end zone. Oh my goodness, we almost caught that ball, but unfortunately, it is dropped. And with 9 seconds left, we are going to be taking our 3 points. Looks like Michigan might try to ice us, though. But because we are in our home stadium, that icing effect doesn't really work. It looks like they do have a good section of fans there on the left side of the field. But hopefully I'm not too distracted to miss this field goal. I hope I will not miss it. Looks like it should be good. That scared me for a second with the slow-mo, and we do tie the game up here, 24-24. Just nothing dumb, nothing stupid. We do have the win, though, so that ball is going to go deep to the back of the end zone. They're, of course, going to take a knee, and they might try one final heave, or they might try one final run attempt. You know, sometimes the CPU likes to do that, and they will go for a run play here, maybe try to catch us off guard, but instead, it looks like it will be going to the end of the 4th quarter. It is a 24-24 ball game. LSU and Michigan tied up, going to overtime. And in the end, the home team won the coin toss. So we, of course, elected to go on defense first. They're going to find a tight end over the middle, and that's going to be an easy first down for them. Man-to-man coverage completely blown. Not what you want to see on the first play of overtime, but it's not the end of the world because they're not in the end zone yet, so we can still stop them here. But 1st and 10, they're going to go underneath to the tight end. We're going to wrap up 2nd and 8 for the Wolverines. Looks like our defensive line is doing a good job getting pressure on the quarterback, but the halfback's going to break off of a tackle. He'll get 4 yards. And now it's going to be 3rd and 4. We're going to be sending 5 in this situation, send pressure to the quarterback, make him make a quick read. Let's see if we can get there quickly. We can't, and he finds a tight end open in the end zone. Touchdown for the Wolverines. And after the Wolverines make the PAT, it's going to be a 7-point contest. We need a touchdown in this situation or we lose. Maybe risky. We're going to go one-on-one coverage deep, and it's going to be picked off. No, that is not what I wanted. I wanted to high point the pass, but it just didn't work. And the Wolverines come into Tiger Stadium. They upset LSU. They give us 3 losses on the season. Just probably a poor decision on my end. I trusted our receivers in one-on-one coverage. Instead, it doesn't work out. Jerome Miles, someone that we were going to target in the transfer portal, but we ended up going after different receivers. We should have gone after him. He had almost 165 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, as we have to watch this highlight, unfortunately, of Michigan beating us, of this late game interception. If we take a look here, just beautiful coverage from number 2. We're going to be sent home sad with 3 losses, and we need to win next week or else we will certainly be out of the college football playoff. So a tough overtime loss to the Wolverines actually only pushes us down to the number 6 team in the country. Again, you can say rigged. Potentially we paid off the college football playoff officials. Either way, we are above 10-1 TCU for some reason. We, of course, are the highest ranked 3-loss team in the country. And in order to cement this ranking, and, you know, this sounds crazy, but in order to potentially get a first-round bye in the college football playoff with 3 losses, we need to beat number 14 Texas A&M. I will also note that in the conference standings, we are tied for 2nd place in the SEC. In fact, with a win, we'd be tied with 1st place. So I'm not sure how the tiebreaker exactly works, because if you remember in year number 1, we for some reason got a tiebreaker, even though in my mind we wouldn't have gotten it. It may just be completely random here, but as you look on the screen here, we're currently number 3 in the SEC. So if Ole Miss loses their next game, I'm not sure who they're playing, but if they lose that game, then we would be number 2 in the SEC, and we would rematch Oklahoma in the SEC championship game like we did in year number 1. But we can't look too far ahead, and we certainly can't look past the 95 overall Aggies. You know, Alabama was at the time the best team that we had played. Texas A&M clearly is the best team that we've played now this season. They have a 96 overall offense. Will our defense be able to handle that? I'm not sure, but I guess we'll find out now. In fact, not only did we lose to A&M, but we got completely embarrassed on our own home turf. A 38-7 loss, by far the worst loss of the season for the Tigers. Now all of a sudden, last week we were the number 1 team in the country, and now 2 straight home losses. We might not even be in the college football playoff anymore. And in fact, not only are we not in the college football playoff anymore, but we are not ranked after the loss to Texas A&M. And that puts our job into jeopardy, to be quite honest with you. A&M is now ranked the number 9 team in the country after demolishing us, and rightfully so. So they're going to make a college football playoff appearance. But for the second year in a row, LSU completely disappoints. And I know I said that this roster wasn't exactly great, but I mean, you look at this roster, this is better than an 8-4 team. And I'm not sure if this is playbook related. I don't know what the reason is that LSU has been struggling, but this is 2 years in a row now where we haven't made the college football playoff with a roster that was good enough to make the college football playoff. So now we can do nothing but look forward to the future of the program, and Pat Galen may not be the future of the program. As the number 1 overall player in his class, he only has impact dev. Like I said earlier, his stats aren't the greatest, so maybe he's a bust of a 5-star. If he is, then that would actually suck, but he is a number 1 overall player in the class, so I will trust his development at least for now. Cedric Uzama has star dev. That is huge for us. He'll be, he'll probably start at tackle within the next couple of seasons. Sean Rugamba, the 4-star guard, unfortunately only has normal, but Ian Ogamba, the other 4-star guard, has star dev, so that's great for us. Juan Galipo only has normal dev. That actually is terrible for us. Ben Carlos has star dev, the 5-star Mike linebacker. Sia Toole does sign with us. He has star dev, so that's big. Max Jefferson, unfortunately, only impact. Same with David Lemon. Randy Soro has impact dev as well. Steven Rivas, he was a gem 4-star quarterback. I was hoping for a little bit more, but impact dev, we'll take it. And finally, this is a little bit big for us because our halfback depth next year is not great. We signed 2 4-star gem halfbacks. So the first one, Kyle Cruz, has star dev. That is huge for us. He is a north-south receiver. Not the best archetype, but 88 speed, 89 change of direction. He's certainly playable, or at least he will be playable eventually. And then Balkasoon has star dev as well. He's a contact seeker with 90 speed. We'll absolutely take that from the 2 4-star halfbacks. And in our bowl game, funnily enough, we're going to be rematching Michigan. It's obviously not a game that I'm going to be jumping into, but still, we are going to be playing the Wolverines once again, and hopefully we can get revenge on them. And in terms of staff moves, our defensive coordinator, in real life it's Blake Baker. I'm not sure if it was him in the game, but either way, he left to go to the NFL, and to that I say good riddance, because our defense was atrocious this season. So whatever NFL team picked them up, they're probably going to be they're probably going to be dead last in defense next year. But anyway, we picked up Denton Daddle. He is an A+ prestige. I think he was from Auburn or something like that. Either way, he has A+ prestige. We have him for 1 season, so even if he's not great, it's not the end of the world. And hopefully with a new defensive scheme, our defense can look a lot better than what it was last season. And at the end of the season, Ohio State wins their 3rd national championship in 5 years. In fact, last year they made an appearance in the national championship game, but they lost. So this could have been a 3-peat, could have been 4 in the last 5 years, but instead they lose last year. This year, they beat up on Oklahoma. They win by 16 points. And it looks like in every sim that I've had, Ohio State is just a straight-up juggernaut, and they will be the team to beat for us. In the rematch against Michigan, we beat them by 31 points, and to that I say, great, but why couldn't we do that during Week 12? Even still, it's a positive note to end the season on, so it's not the end of the world. What I'm more concerned about is if you look near the top of your screen at our school prestige, we have dropped from a 4.5-star school to a 4-star school. That is not great for us. And what looks even worse for us right now is the amount of players that want to leave us in the portal. This is not good at all. So the top 2 players that we have that want to leave us are Naz Rankin and Khalil Lockett. Let's see what both of these guys did. Lockett had an incredible season, my goodness. 1,200 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns with 80 catches. I mean, that is a great season, and Naz Rankin wasn't as great, but here's the thing. Khalil Lockett wants 440 NIL. That is not doable, and in fact, I can find someone just as good as him in the transfer portal for probably 200 NIL. So we're going to be letting Khalil Lockett go. He might enter the draft, actually, so if he enters a draft, that's great for us. Naz Rankin, let me see here. Well, it looks like also Madden Williams wants to leave us too for pro potential. We need to keep at least one of these two receivers back, and unfortunately, let's see here. I think we're going to keep Naz Rankin. He's just a better overall. So we will be backing up the Brinks trunk for Naz Rankin, and unfortunately, we will be letting Madden Williams go. I believe he's the one that had 99 spec catch, and it would have been great to play games with him, but it just was not his time. Brandon Arrington wants to leave. That's a big blow for us. Would 350 NIL get him in the green? It wouldn't. How about 400? 400 would get him in the green. That is a lot to spend on him. But we're going to do it anyway. He's a 92 overall. He still has favorable skill caps to my knowledge, so he has elite dev either way. So he is a lockdown corner. We need a lockdown corner. He would be great for us. Sidney Lau Hall, he wants to leave. We cannot afford to let him leave, so we are willing to give him 300 NIL so that he'll stay. KJ Edwards is essentially my only plan at running back. We need him to stay because Harlem Berry is essentially gone. But, this is not good. 500 NIL for KJ Edwards. He's a very good player, but unfortunately, we just need to let him go because we do not have that type of NIL to keep him here. Tyshawn Willis started at edge for us for 13 games and only had 1 sack, so he will be gone from the team. Terry Shelton did not play for us. He wants 200 NIL. That's too much, so he will be gone from the team. Bryce Gilmore allowed 7 sacks. You're essentially only a pass protector. And 7 sacks at left tackle is not bad, don't get me wrong, but the run game was essentially voided on the left side because of him, so it's just not worth it to give him that NIL. Marco Jones played 13 games, had 6 sacks. He's showing me potential, so I will give him the NIL. Tramel Jones wants to leave the playing time, 150 NIL for a backup quarterback. He can go. Leon Noyle only played 5 games due to injury, but in those 5 games played fairly well. And for 50 NIL, that's absolutely a steal for a starting guard. Ty Haywood wants to leave. Well, we know that you have terrible skill cap, so he can leave, and we are not going to give him over 200 NIL. Fahim Delane is pretty much just a depth piece for us, but for 30 NIL for an 80 overall safety, I will actually take that. Anthony Saldivari wants to leave. We recruited a number of outside linebackers over the last couple of years, so I would be okay with him leaving, but 55 NIL is not a lot. Ty Gage, we need him to stay, and I know this seems like a lot to give up for him, but he is star dev. He will probably start for us at left tackle next season, so the money that we would have given Gilmore, we're going to give to Ty Gage, and hopefully he develops well. And our last 2 guys, Dodd Sampson and Shanklin, they can walk, so we're losing a couple of key pieces. We're losing Khalil Lockett, we're losing Madden Williams, we're losing KJ Edwards. We need to focus on beefing up our interior defensive line. We need to focus on beefing up our skill position players, getting more cornerbacks. The only problem is we only have 2,000 NIL left in this transfer portal. The good news is, though, that Lamar Brown does not want to leave. In fact, he has a little bit of a risk of leaving, so I will pay him the extra money. He was hurt this year, and I do think that that was a big factor to us not performing the way that we wanted to. So I will absolutely give him the 500 NIL so that he stays. He might damn near be a 99 overall next year, so it's more than worth it for me to give him the 500 NIL if he's going to be that much of a force for us on the interior defensive line. And now as we look at players leaving, we have a number of players that want to leave, though we did know that a lot of these players were going to go, so it's not the end of the world at this point. The one thing I will say, though, is that Khalil Lockett will be going to the NFL draft, so ultimately that does help us. Same with Kelvin Obot, actually. He was not under the high-risk players, but still, it's not the end of the world if we lose him. He's only an 87 overall. We can replace him. The one that is going to hurt is Lamar Brown. We gave him the 500 NIL to stay, and in fact, we are going to try to persuade him. He unfortunately has been failed to be persuaded, so that is a huge piece that we will be leaving, but still, he is going to be a round 1 player, so if anyone is going to leave, then I would rather them just go to the NFL draft to help us. So Madden Williams leaving and being a 2nd-round pick, that's great. Same with Terry Shelton, and definitely the same with Tyshawn Willis. He only got 1 sack for us last year off the edge. Outside of that, we're going to be losing other key players like KJ Edwards and Bryce Gilmore to the transfer portal. We have a couple more guys that want to leave, including Larry Jalapillo. We're going to try to bring him back, and thankfully he does come back. He wanted to leave because of NIL. I did lower his NIL just a little bit. His skill caps, oh my goodness. I haven't even taken a look at these yet, but he only has 2 skill caps. He will be a high impact player for us next season, especially with Star Dev. Unfortunately though, I cannot convince Devin Roseman to come back. Well, I can try, but he has been unfortunately failed to be persuaded. He was Star Dev, so that hurts, considering that our other outside linebackers only have normal Dev. So that one does hurt just a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. Same with Juan Alibi. He wants to transfer for playing time. He won't play, and unfortunately, the 4-star gem quarterback will be leaving us in the portal. Outside of that, we still have a number of players that will be drafted, including a couple of Mike linebackers. Faka Finau is going to be a first-rounder. Quincy Porter is going to be a first-rounder. Nick Townsend, the tight end, is going to be a fifth-rounder. And Harlem Berry is going to be a third-rounder. So just like last season, we had a disappointing regular season record, but if you take a look at our players drafted, it is more than it has been for the past 2 seasons. We had 5 first-round picks, a couple of receivers, a couple of interior offensive linemen, and Lamar Brown. We had a couple of second-rounders, a couple of third-rounders, a 4th and 2 sixths. Overall, that's a good bit of our starting lineup that is going to the NFL. And, you know, some of these players could have stayed for a couple of more years, but honestly, I can't complain about it. A lot of them were going to leave in the transfer portal, so helping our pro potential, it actually helps us out in the end. And now a quick update about halfway through the transfer portal. We are going after a number of targets, and as you see at the top right corner, we had about 3,000 NIL to spend in the portal. We have 1,000 remaining, and we probably won't spend all of it at the end of the portal, but still, we have it just in case we need it. So far, we're going after a backup quarterback like Marquez Byham. He looks solid, but he won't play, obviously. He will not be our starter. We need a running back, and Levi Fowler might just be that. 91 speed, 92 change of direction as an elusive bruiser. That's pretty solid. We also have Willie Atogwe on the board. He is not very good at all, but again, we need bodies at the halfback position. I think we maybe only have 1 or 2 on the entire roster. That's why we also added another one late into the game, like Alex Addock. He looks fine. He's a freshman halfback, 92 speed, 88 change of direction. He's not terrible, but like I said, we just need bodies at that position. Same kind of goes for receiver, and in fact, we'll scout George Welsh right now. I don't even know what the guy looks like, but I just had to offer him. He looks fine enough, I guess. His awareness is incredible. Speed and acceleration, maybe not great. He has 91 throw power, actually, so that is very interesting, but decent route runner, a fine enough catcher. We will get him. He's the number 1 player, or at least the number 1 receiver in the transfer portal. Cam Sapp we also have on here. He looks fine enough. He'll play for us. He only has 1 more year of eligibility left anyway, so his stats are pretty much set. And I mean, his route running is great. His catching is good. He has good speed, good acceleration. He'll start for us. And Keon Garvin is kind of in the role that, I don't remember his name, but the guy who had 99 spec catch last year, he's just there for development purposes. And if he decides to stick around, that's great. We're his only offer at this point, so he'll definitely be on the roster next year, but as for the years after that, I'm not necessarily sure. Then we have maybe one of the best recruits in the entire class, Taj Winey, the transfer tackle. It's us in Ohio State left on his board. Unfortunately, Ohio State's probably going to get him, but I just gave him over 100 more NIL than what he wants in a last-ditch effort to get him, because he would certainly start at tackle for us, but if we can't get him, it's not the end of the world. He has great run blocking stats. Pass blocking is fine enough to play. Great awareness, good acceleration and agility. He would start for us at tackle if he comes here, but if he decides to go to Ohio State, again, it's not the end of the world. We also got a couple of more good interior offensive linemen. Ed Baker, I didn't scout him, but he's a junior guard. I'm sure he's okay. And Tim Holiday was interested in us, so we were interested in him. Now, defensively, things are interesting here for the number 1 edge in the country, Hudson Woods. He's a transfer sophomore with 93 awareness, 80 speed, 83 block shed, 87 power, and 87 finesse moves, 90 pursuit. I mean, he would be incredible for us off the edge. We have been looking for a superstar edge for 3 years now. He would certainly fill the bill. We have him coming here for a week 3 visit, so hopefully that should sway him enough to get his commitment. The same goes for Quentin Algier. He's the number 1 defensive tackle prospect in the country. We should hopefully beat out Ohio State and Texas with a week visit now. Darius Rollins were his only offer. Well, at least Boise State got in the mix late, but we're going to be his only offer. We'll get him. He'll be a great corner with 96 speed, 99 change of direction, 85 man at 6'4". He's going to be an absolute stud for us. Jamarian Vincent, we have him on a visit this week, so hopefully it goes well. He looks good enough to start. We just need more depth in the secondary. and we need more depth on the interior defensive line. That's why we have 3 defensive line prospects here. I don't know what any of them looks like. In fact, I should probably take a look at them just in case. But a guy like Andrew Maddox is here who looks decent enough with, 85 block shed, 88 power moves. It's us in Minnesota as his only offers. He would honestly play for us right away as a good defensive tackle number 2. So he's absolutely worth the 120 NIL that we're projected to give him. Amir Wells, maybe the same for him. Again, I don't know what any of these guys look like. We just have found an absolute lack of depth at the defensive tackle position somehow. I must have just neglected them when recruiting, or we've lost out on a lot of recruiting battles. Either way, this just brings more youth, and it brings more experience as well to our defensive tackle position. And hopefully at least Maddox could play for us, and maybe these 2 could play for us down the line. Either way, just getting more bodies at that position just in case, it's obviously worth it. And now just 1 week later, we secured the commitment from the quarterback. We are in a recruiting battle with Washington for Levi Fowler. Hopefully we can get him. We unfortunately lost to Togway, but again, he's not great. We got a commitment from all 3 receivers, I believe. We lost out on Taj Winey, that was to be expected, so unfortunately, we do not get a tackle position. We also unfortunately don't get Hudson Woods. That just completely shocked me because we had a week 3 visit with a number of complimentary players, and unfortunately, we could not get the top edge, so once again, we're going to have a problem with pressure off the edge. And I just don't know what to do about that because I feel like every time I go after someone, I strike out. Same with Quentin Algier. I mean, we had him on a week 3 visit. He should have committed to us, but it looks like Ohio State and Texas are still in the mix. So we already had him on campus. We really can't do much more than, just hope that he decides to commit to us, but it looks like Ohio State's in the lead. We thankfully, though, got a commitment from the 4-star corner, Darius Rollins. Jamarian Vincent has a visit week with Colorado, so he'll probably choose them. And our 3 defensive tackles we're looking in good shape with. We'll get them. Same with Alex Addox. So ultimately, we strike out on a couple heavy hitters, but ultimately we help with our depth, and that was a big need for us, so it's not the worst transfer portal class. And now at the end of the transfer portal, we ended up with the number 7 overall class in the country. It's not bad, and in fact, we're 4th in the SEC, so not the end of the world. We also signed 4 5-stars, so certainly a good recruiting class, but in terms of dev traits, Marquez Byam unfortunately only has normal, but Levi Fowler has star dev. That is huge for us. George Wells with star dev as well, so that's great. Cam Sapp with normal, not the end of the world because he is a junior. Keon Garvin with impact, so he's a freshman with impact. It's not great, but it's not terrible. Ed Baker, unfortunately, with normal. Same with Tim Holiday. I had high hopes for him, but hopefully those guys can be instant impact guys. Darius Rollins with star dev. That's huge for us at the corner position. Andrew Maddox, just a random throw on his impact dev. Amir Wells has star dev, and Jonathan Davis has normal, and Alex Addock has star. So ultimately, we didn't miss out on too much top tier talent, and we added good depth pieces with good dev traits. So, definitely not the end of the world here. And now at the end of trading results, and surprise, surprise, the best player on the team is Sinilau Hall. He is a 95 overall as a redshirt sophomore quarterback. Like last season, the speed just did not improve very much, but the awareness is up 10 overalls. His change of direction is up to an 82 overall, his break sack got better, and his physical tools are much better now. He is probably the best quarterback in the country, and hopefully he can have a season that compares to his performance last year. And last year, I did forget to go over this, but in total, he had 4,600 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Hopefully with a boost to the awareness, he can cut down on the interceptions, get more passing touchdowns, and overall help our offense become better than it was last season. And to help him do that will be Naz Rankin. He has developed into the true number 1 receiver that we thought he could be. He has star dev, but something that I forgot from last season is that his skill caps are pretty limited, so we could only upgrade his speed and his acceleration. That's not the end of the world, and overall he still gets to a 93 overall, and he'll play a good complementary role also with Cam Sapp and George Welsh. Both of those guys are 90 overalls, so 390 overall receivers. That seems to be a trend with our team over the past couple of seasons, and hopefully they can help Sinilau Hall become the best quarterback in the country. Defensively, we have 2 top players in our secondary, that being Brandon Arrington, of course, but Maxwell McGee has developed incredibly. Despite only having impact dev, he is a 92 overall. His awareness is up to a 93. His zone coverage is like a 98 or something ridiculous like that. He will be the best free safety in the country next year. And joining him defensively, finally, we have top edge rushers. Jalen Flavors has developed to a 90 overall with tactician boosts, and Colin Gammon, He was originally a will linebacker when we recruited him. I moved him to the edge because we needed a little more depth at that position, but he has developed very nicely. His speed is at 88 off the edge, 99 agility. He will be a force to be reckoned with. Even though he's 6'3", 242, that's actually not a bad size for an edge rusher, but still, he has the speed that can beat any tackle off the edge. Unfortunately, his actual power moves and finesse moves are not good, but still, his block shed is an 85, and if we need more pressure off the edge, I can just throw in Marco Jones, and he would certainly be a good starter for us. Either way, I'm sure both of these guys will be getting plenty of reps off the edge, because like I said, we just do not have much depth at the edge position right now. And then back to the offense, Ed Baker was a 3-star transfer. He ends up as an 88 overall. He still has one more year of eligibility. I mean, this is great for us. He is one of our best. In fact, he is the best offensive lineman on our roster, so he'll certainly play a big role for us. Ty Gage, I said, would develop nicely. He's up to an 87 overall with tactician boost, so those two players should be great on the offensive line for us. Someone else who developed really nicely for us was Percy Ivory, the elite dev wide receiver. Only has 87 speed, but everything else about him is really solid. I'm looking forward to progressing him over the years. Also of note is more improved depth at the cornerback position. Outside of Arrington, we have 4 more players at an 80 to 85 overall. That is pretty solid. And the linebacker position is a lot weaker than I remembered it being. We still have a couple of younger players here, but they're starting to become juniors and seniors. We have 2 freshman Mike linebackers, including the 5-star who will play for us this season. But overall, we need to continue improving our depth there, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job at that position, but maybe just the transfer portal I haven't been hitting as hard as I should be. And then at the defensive line, we brought in a couple of new players. Andrew Maddox and Amir Wells will be starting for us. We have a couple more freshmen as well, but I believe that they're both normal dev, or maybe there's only one and he's normal dev, but either way, we need to continue building up our defensive line. And lastly, the halfback room. Alex Adoc ultimately became our number 1 halfback. I don't think he'll be getting the majority of the reps. I think Fowler will, and Adoc will be a very nice third down back because his catching ability is great. He has 86 catching, 81 catch in traffic. If we need him in pass plays, he will be great for us in that situation. Meanwhile, it looks like Levi Fowler would be better as just a lead back, taking most of the carries. 92 ball carrier vision, 86 break tackle, 86 spin, 80 juke. I mean, it's not as good as Harlan Berry was last year, but he's still certainly good. As an elusive bruiser, 91 speed, and 99 change of direction, he will certainly be a good starter for us. And then last thing before we get on to next season, our tight end room was ravaged because we had a lot of transfers. Terrence Trapp is a 79 overall, but that receiver that I was talking to you about, the number 1 player in the class who I thought was underwhelming, he's 6'6", so I decided to move him to tight end. He's like a 77 or 78 overall, so he will be competing for the starting job along with Terrence Trapp. And coming into this season, we are a 97 overall team with a 99 overall defense, but it's not like overalls matter because we were 99 overall and we still lost a number of close games. Even still, we're coming into next season with new challenges ahead of us. We're going to finish out that home and home with SMU, then we're going to bring in the Sun Devils to Tigers Stadium for week 2. And this year we have a number of tough matchups in our SEC play, including number 12 Texas A&M at Kyle Field. Georgia, we're unfortunately going to have to be playing them in the regular season. They'll be coming to Tiger Stadium. Ole Miss will be coming to Tiger Stadium. And we finish off our season at number 3, Oklahoma. And our AD expectations have changed and they've gotten a lot easier for us. We need to sign at least 1 5-star recruit by bowl week 1. We've done that pretty much every year of this rebuild, so I'm not too worried about that. We also need to finish the season with a school career win rate of 60% plus. So our trend as of late is losing 4 games and winning either 9 or 10. If we do just that, then we'll keep that school career win percentage higher than a 70%, and it would be a great positive impact to our job. Winning games is not only going to help us with our AD expectations, it's also going to help us with recruiting. And in terms of quarterbacks, there are a number of prospects that are interested in us, but the 2 that caught my eye, first of all, was the number 1 player in the country, Cedric Atogwe. He has 96 throw power, good accuracies, 85 speed, a couple of good physical abilities already. he looks like someone who could make an impact in a couple of years and end up as a mid-90s player for us. But if we strike out on a Togway, we also have another 5-star quarterback interested in us, and his name is Sam Raiola. Maybe he's the brother of former Nebraska and current Oregon quarterback Dylan Raiola. Hopefully the start to Sam's college career is a little bit better than the start to Dylan's college career so far, but he's just a pure pocket passer. His accuracies are already pretty solid, doesn't have much speed, his throw power is fine. He would take a couple of years to develop before we start him, but he looks like he has decent enough potential for us. In terms of halfbacks, we need to find the future of that position. Is it Jamerson Johns? Probably not. He has a lot of good physical abilities already, but he's more of a receiving back. We're looking for an every down back, someone like Harlan Berry who can kind of do it all, and maybe it's Emmanuel Horner. While his catching abilities don't look the best so far, he has 92 speed and 93 change of direction as an elusive bruiser halfback. You don't see that every day in this game. Speaking of special speed, how about the 5-star receiver and the number 1 receiver in the country, Prince Uganbwale? 99 speed, 94 acceleration, mid-80s catching, good route running. That release might need to get a little bit higher, but still. He is 6'3", 186 pounds with 99 speed. That is track star level. He might be a 2-sport athlete for LSU, and I wouldn't blame him for it. After a couple of years of development, he could be completely unstoppable in our system, but in order to find the receivers down the field, we need to have good linemen, and Junior Cho is the number 3 right tackle in the country, and there's not really one stat that you would point to in terms of him having an elite trait at that, but it looks like he's great at everything so far. And sometimes that's just all you need at the tackle position, someone who can be consistent and solid all around. Off the edge, though, we found someone with an elite trait, and it is Roger Zuber, the number 2 edge in the country. He has 88 speed, 95 acceleration, and gold quick jump. You want to talk about track speed? How about 88 speed and 95 acceleration at 248 pounds? Obviously, he wouldn't be outrunning Ogunbowale, but to have that type of physical athleticism at 248 pounds is absolutely ridiculous. And of course, he's from Texas. And finally, the last guy that we're going to mention is James Ali, the number 2 player in the country, 88 speed, 93 acceleration, good tackler, great hit power, already has platinum robber, gold house call. He could be a day 1 starter for us. So in order to stay in the recruiting races for a lot of those 5-star gems, we have to take care of business in the regular season. That means beating SMU, which for some reason, the game starts at, well, I guess it's at 9:30. If the times here are ET. I'm not sure exactly why the game would be starting so late considering this is in Dallas, and I believe Dallas is Central Time, meaning that kickoff would be at 9:30 and the game would end at like 12:30 a.m. I'm not sure about this timing here, but maybe it's a tactic from SMU and their boosters to try and throw us off our game, but we should be ready and prepared for the Mustangs. Thankfully, those tactics from the Mustangs don't deter us from a 30-point victory at SMU, a huge performance on both sides of the ball. Shockingly, Sidney Lau Hall did not have a good game. It feels like when our offense is clicking, it's because our quarterback throws it 60 times per game. But in this contest, he only throws for 34 attempts, but he still has 245 passing yards and a touchdown. On the ground, Levi Fowler, 13 carries for 93 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. That is unbelievable. Also in this contest, he had 3 rushes of 20 yards or more. His long was only 27, so he was very consistent in how he got his long gains. Defensively, we only had 1 sack in this contest, and it was from the transfer Amir Wells, but Brandon Arrington ended up being the SEC Defensive Player of the Week with 2 interceptions, 8 solo tackles, a great game from him. Looks like we also forced 2 fumbles, one from the Mike linebacker Caesar Wing, and the other from the Sam Larry Marble. So a dominant win over SMU puts us on the right track for this season, but in order to cement our top 25 ranking, we have to take on the number 17 team in the country, Arizona State. We're 17 overalls better than them. We also have a very dark shadow over us, so maybe that will give us some advantage on the field. Either way, we are the better team. We're at home. This should be a victory for us. And thankfully, we do scrape out a victory over the Sun Devils, though it was only a 1-point win for the Tigers. Looks like their offense really got going on our secondary. Thankfully, Sidney Lau Hall had his normal 52 pass attempts, 438 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. Incredible game from the 95 overall. Unfortunately, our running game just did not get going in this one, but that's not really the end of the world for us because our receiving room got open, and Cam Sapp and Naz Rankin each had over 100 yards receiving. Rankin had 2 receiving touchdowns, and Sapp had 1. Defensively, though, it seems like we've just found ourselves a trend over the past couple of years where we just cannot get it going on that side of the ball. In total, we only had 1 sack in this contest. It was a split sack between Marco Jones and the freshman Ben Carlos. Thankfully, we did pick off their quarterback, and Darius Rollins got his first interception as a Tiger, but ultimately we need to be better than that if we want to contend for an SEC championship. And with a schedule that looks even tougher as the weeks go by, it's not going to be easy for us. Recruiting wise, Ohio State has built a big gap between the 2nd place Oklahoma and 3rd place LSU in terms of the recruitment for the 5-star quarterback Cedric Otogwe. I'm not sure what exactly Ohio State's doing to beat us out because we scheduled him on a visit, we got his hard sell correct, which is pretty good grades, and we have the same pipeline tier that they do, but somehow they're getting that much more of an advantage over us. So I'm trying something out here. I know we don't really have the NIL to play around with this, but I'm doing it anyway because I'm tired of Ohio State beating us out for every single recruit. I am maxing out Cedric's NIL. He is getting 350 NIL this next week. He better be happy with this, and we better get a big recruiting boost. Or else I think it's confirmed that Ohio State just has an inherent bias within this game. And once you know it, for the 5-star running back Jamerson Johns, Ohio State is also in the lead for him, though this one makes more sense because they have a better pipeline tier than the other 2 schools that have offered him. Unfortunately, our rough performance against the Sun Devils dropped our playing style for a couple of recruits, most notably for the 5-star will linebacker James Ali. This is the first time I've ever seen this, but before he was even in his top 5, he only had 4 schools that were available to recruit him. Even if you take a look at other recruits that are inside their top 5, they have a 6 through 10 that shows that they are locked out. But with James Ali, there are only 4 schools that are available to be interested in him. And of course, one of them has to be Ohio State. Of course, when we find a great prospect that could very easily come to us, it's going to be Ohio State that swoops in and takes him from us. We need to up that playing style deal breaker and fast, or else we're going to lose out on one of the best outside linebacker prospects in the game. Thankfully, I do have a backup plan with another 5-star will linebacker Will Sapp, and in fact, Will Sapp is a gem. He's just not as good, but overall, he has a lot of great attributes like 88 speed, 90 excel, 88 strength is very intriguing. And right now, it looks like LSU and Ole Miss are the only 2 teams that are going after this 5-star gem. And we only just started putting 50 hours a week on him because we just don't have many recruiting hours now that we're a 4-star school. So hopefully adding more recruiting hours on him will help further our lead over Ole Miss, and we can get a commitment from this gem linebacker. And after we simulate our bye week, we are now the number 10 team in the country. We've jumped up over teams like Washington and Florida State, who have lost their first games of the year against Syracuse and Washington State respectively, and that sets us up with actually a very important matchup against South Carolina. This is the week that we have the 5-star quarterback Cedric Otogwe on campus, and it looks like our increased NIL package has put us back in his favor, because Ohio State lost a lot of influence this past week and we gained it. So if we have a positive visit this week against South Carolina, and if we can defeat them, like I think we will, then we could very easily become the number 1 player on Cedric Otogwe's board, and we could potentially get the number 1 player in the recruiting class to commit to the Tigers. Also on this visit week is the 5-star junior Cho. We are 3rd on his board, but again, if we have a strong visit week with him this week with a couple of complimentary visits, then hopefully we can jump over Michigan and Indiana and maybe secure a verbal commit from a 5-star tackle. In other news, I'm going to take off Roger Zuber from our board. Unfortunately, he looks like a great prospect, but Oklahoma and Texas A&M have too much of a lead over us, so we might as well save the NIL in the recruiting hours. And hopefully against South Carolina, we turn things around for our playing style deal breaker with James Ali, because it looks like Ohio State hasn't made too much progress so far in this recruiting race. In the end, we end up beating South Carolina, but because it was only a 7-point victory, it didn't have the most influence on the 5-star quarterback. Thankfully, we did jump into the number 1 spot for Cedric Otogwe, but it will be tough to fend off teams like Oklahoma in the next couple of weeks. In the recruitment of Jamerson Johns, I think we're pretty screwed with Ohio State, and it looks like we're about to secure the commitment from Emmanuel Horner, so I'm just going to take Jamerson Johns off of our board and save 150 NIL. Maybe more importantly for our short-term future though, Junior Cho, we ended up moving into second place on his board. It's going to be tough to beat Indiana in this recruiting battle, and I'm going to up his NIL to the max of 220 so that he is very interested in our offer, and maybe he'll commit to us, but I have a feeling that Indiana and maybe even Michigan will overtake us and take Junior Cho. And also, unfortunately, we have an F deal breaker playing style with James Ali. That just seems irrecoverable at this point, but he'll stay on our board because it looks like Ohio State also lost that playing style deal breaker. The following week, we beat down on Rice, and predictably so. Sidney Lau Hall has 6 passing touchdowns. He does throw an interception, but still, 6 touchdowns is absolutely ridiculous. On the ground, Alex Adcock adds 118 yards, but doesn't find his way in the end zone. Receiving the ball, our leading receiver actually didn't get a receiving touchdown, which is a little bit crazy, but still, Naz Rankin had 2, George Welsh with 3, and Keon Garvin with 1. And defensively, this is not what you want to see here. We had 0 sacks on the day against Rice. That is pathetic. Our secondary, though, showed out, or actually, no, I guess it was our linebackers. The true freshman 5-star Ben Carlos with an interception, and the Sam linebacker Anthony Saldiveri. We are now 4-0 to start the season. We're the number 6 team in the country, and we're going to have our second SEC game of the season against Vanderbilt. After Vanderbilt, though, we're going to go on a tough gauntlet at Texas A&M, home for a rivalry game against Arkansas, home for number 5 Georgia, home for number 12 Ole Miss, and we're going to end out the season at number 2 Oklahoma. And to add on to our potential struggles, our starting Mike linebacker Caesar Wing is going to be out for the next 8 weeks with a torn bicep. That's essentially taking him out for the rest of the regular season, and that means that the 5-star Ben Carlos is really going to have to step up in his role. In terms of recruitment, we are currently in a battle for the 5-star Cedric Otogwe. As long as we can get a commitment from him before week 8, then I feel pretty solid about this race. But if we can't get a commitment before week 8, then we might be screwed. In good news though, we secured a verbal commitment from Emmanuel Horner, and he will essentially hard commit with us because Auburn and Illinois have not offered him yet. And we got a verbal commit from the 5-star Prince Ogunbale, but it looks like Alabama will be coming in hot with a week 6 visit. In the end, of course, Junior Cho unfortunately chose Indiana University, so we'll take him off our board. And we're inching up closer to meet that deal breaker with James Ali. I say if we have one more good defensive performance, we could meet that deal breaker and potentially overtake Ohio State for the 5-star. In other recruiting battles, we lost out on the 4-star defensive tackle because of our playing style deal breaker, and we're probably going to end up losing Brett Sturts to Kansas State, also because of a playing style deal breaker. But we have a huge lead on the 5-star Will linebacker Will Sapp. Thankfully, it looks like teams like Ole Miss and Florida State were sleeping on his talent because they've joined the race a little bit too late, and we should secure a verbal commitment from him in the next couple of weeks. We also have the lead on a couple of great linebackers like Jalen Fayad, Prince Mamula, and Carl German. And while we didn't get that 5-star edge, we ended up getting the 4-star Nick Shelley. He doesn't look too bad. And another week and another dominant victory for the Tigers. We take down Vanderbilt 49-14, and it brings us to our first big-time matchup of the season against number 14 Texas A&M. But what you like to see is that a team that we beat earlier, Arizona State, is now the number 5 team in the country. Outside of their loss to us, they have dominated every single other opponent that they have faced, and this is a huge boost for us in terms of our standing in the College Football Playoff Committee. And if they keep winning, it will just make that win look even better for us. But as of right now, we have our first game that we're going to hop into. Texas A&M is a top 15 team in the country, and going to Kyle Field is no easy task. It doesn't matter if they're a 99 overall, if they're a 70 overall, or if they are what they are right now, which is an 86 overall. This will be a tough game for us at arguably the most hostile environment in all of college football. And now the first time that we hop into this contest is with about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. Texas A&M currently has a 1-point lead over us, but we're looking to make a stop here. The running back just shrugs off that hit stick and he gets out of bounds. But it looks like our defense has been the one that's been saving us so far in this contest, and our offense has not been able to get going. From the stat that I just saw from the menu, Sidney Lau Hall only has 8 completions the entire game, as their running back is just shedding off every single one of our tackle attempts. And I should have called timeout there, but I was just so flabbergasted that their running back was doing so well there. They're going to go with the run here, we'll stop them, and we'll call our first timeout. This game is not impossible to come back from, but with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left, we have to call all of our timeouts for the remainder of this contest. They're going to throw the ball, which really shocked me, and we get in the backfield. That is a huge sack. That sack right there takes the Aggies out of field goal range. We just need to make sure that they don't get like 10 or something yards here. They might go underneath, and they will. We need to wrap up, and we do, and it's going to be 4th and 13. The Aggies will go for a 50-something yard field goal here. It's lined up fairly well for the kicker, so I could see them making it, but we got the block animation. We got the block. Get the ball. It doesn't matter. LSU, huge block there. It was the sophomore quarterback, Oscar Dooley, with a beautiful jump here off the edge. He gets past the lineman, and a beautiful diving attempt there. It catches what looks to be his forearm, so that will be sore for a couple of days, but still, a beautiful block attempt there. If that ball didn't go in between the lineman's feet, number 10 had a beautiful, beautiful lane to just run down the field and maybe get a touchdown, but I will not be complaining at all in this one. We have the ball with 2 minutes and 16 seconds left. We can drain this clock a little bit if we want to as well. We are currently in the driver's seat, and we just need to make sure that we can secure field goal range here, as we're going to run the clock down to the 2-minute warning. All we need is 2, maybe 3 first downs, and then I'll feel comfortable enough to be in field goal range. But we have to get there, and Texas A&M has one of the best stadium pulses in the country. We're just going to take off with Sidney Lau Hall. He finds a running lane, and he's going to be down at the 39. A huge play there from Sidney Lau Hall. That pretty much puts us in field goal range, but we want to get more comfortable in this situation. So we're going to run the ball, try to catch him off guard, and we get 4 yards. But ultimately, that is not enough. I would feel very comfortable with 1 more first down in this scenario. I just cannot throw an interception here. I don't know what the play is because the stadium pulse is going crazy, crazy, crazy. And no, the right tackle gets beat, and they get a sack off the edge. That makes it 3rd and very long. Essentially, this is 4-down territory if we cannot get close to that first down marker. If we do, then of course we'll take the field goal, but let's see what type of defense they have here. We're just going to go up the seam and throw up a prayer. Shouldn't have done that. We need a miracle. A 17-yard conversion here. We are way too deep. They're going to be rushing 5. We're going to go over the middle of the field to square, but he's not going to get to the first down marker. And A&M's going to steal this one. It was the right concept. He just didn't get deep enough down the field. It was my fault for taking that sack. And now we're going to be losing by 1 point, and we will lose by 1 point to Texas A&M at Kyle Field. So unfortunately, we do lose to Texas A&M, but thankfully we are still the number 8 team in the country. A 4-2 Ole Miss is actually above us at this point, and I believe that we'll see them later in the year. If we don't, then they'll probably just lose to Alabama or some other terrible team, but still, we play Arkansas next week. That loss is actually going to sting me for a bit, because I feel like that was the right play. That was the right throw. It just the route just wasn't deep enough, but there's nothing we can do about it at this point. We just have to move forward and try to learn as much as we can from last week's loss and apply it to this week's game against Arkansas. Thankfully though, this was actually a huge week for us recruiting wise because we got a hard commitment from the number 1 player in the class, Cedric Otogwe. Did we overpay him with the NIL? Probably, but he has 85 speed, 96 throw power. His accuracies are already incredible. And this game really caters to dual threat quarterbacks. And I think part of the reason why we haven't really succeeded much in the regular season is that we have pocket passer types as our quarterbacks. Cedric Otogwe can run and he can pass. He is a dual threat for a reason, and he is the best quarterback in this high school class. He could very well come in and be a high 70s to low 80s player, and depending on what Sidney Lau does, whether he decides to go to the NFL draft or not, Cedric could very well be our starter next season. And catching the ball from him next season could be Prince Ogunbowale, who decided to hard commit to us this past week. Again, this is the 99 speed receiver. This will certainly be a strong weapon for Otogwe to throw the ball to. And defensively, we still have a big deal breaker for James Ali. And I think, unfortunately, I'm just going to take him off the board because Ohio State has a huge lead on us. And even if we did have a good visit week this week, which is week 8, I don't think it would matter too much because Ohio State just has those hours on him and we don't have any hours on him. So unfortunately, we are going to have to say goodbye to James Ali. But thankfully, we can say hello to Will Sapp, who verbally committed to us a couple of weeks ago. He'll be on campus this week and hopefully that should secure the hard commitment. And unfortunately, the following week, I sim against Arkansas and we lose to them by 8 points. Again, I'm not sure exactly what the problem is because Sinilau Hall continues to put up great performance after great performance. He wasn't great last week against A&M, but still, 356 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Took 4 sacks, which isn't great, and the completion percentage was below 60%. And even our running game was still pretty solid. About 6.3 yards per carry is great. But for some reason, something is just not clicking with this team over the past couple of seasons. And again, it might be a playbook thing, might be a coordinator thing, it might even be a me thing, but we're gonna have to find out quickly because our next 2 games are against 2 top 5 teams in the country. And if we can beat both of these teams, we would be back in college football playoff contention. That means that we really have to lock in for this contest against Georgia because a win here could put us back inside the top 10. And locking in means that we need to jump in earlier than what I've been doing these past couple of years because it just has not been working here. It's 3rd and 15, they're gonna go to the edge of the field and a big hit's gonna make the receiver drop it. And a strong defensive play there holds the Bulldogs to 3. We're looking to get 7 on this drive deep in our own red zone. We're going to see if we can go with the running back. He gets a good 8 yards after a nice spin move. But that still makes it 3rd down for us. Sinilau Hall needs to find the end zone in this scenario. We're going to see if we can do that here, maybe with triangle or maybe with X over the middle of the field. The pass is good even with pressure in his face, but unfortunately he drops it. And we are not here to take our 3 points, especially within the 10-yard line. We want our 6 points in this scenario. They're going to be rushing 4. We're just going to roll out with Sinilau Hall. We're going to slide just in case. And it is a 1st and goal opportunity here for the Tigers. I think something that's really been hurting us is that our running backs have not been able to get into the end zone. Hopefully we can change that trend here, and we do. We get an early lead over the Bulldogs here in Tiger Stadium. And now with 2 minutes left on the clock, we have to jump in for this 2-minute warning. They are playing very up with our receivers. We have a lot of fast receivers this year, but we don't want to test it, or maybe we do. Over the middle of the field, Nas Rankin, what a catch! The throw is a little bit underthrown, but Nas Rankin with a beautiful mid-air adjustment. Offensively, we have been dominating this game here. We probably should have even put on 2 clock to take some time off, just in case, we don't want Georgia to get the ball back. But even still, we're going to run the ball here. And if we get the opportunity to get into the end zone, I can't pass it up. And we're going to taunt our way into the end zone. Maybe shouldn't have done that. And honestly, if I was a defense, I would have popped Fowler. But still, that's the 2nd time he gets into the end zone today. And LSU now builds a 2-possession lead here in the first half. And ultimately, by the end of this contest, that 2-possession lead grew to a 3-possession lead. And Georgia could not overcome it. Levi Fowler finds the end zone 4 times in this contest, and we send home the Bulldogs. We probably should take their top 10 ranking. We find our footing for the first time this season. We beat one of the best teams in the country at home, and for once, this was a strong performance on both sides of the ball. This is what you want to see from this LSU team. That win makes us the number 12 team in the country, and coming to Tiger Stadium last week was the number 5 team. This week, it is now the number 1 team in the country, Ole Miss. This is a team that we've already beaten in this rebuild, and I'm very confident that we can beat them again, especially considering that we are 13 overalls better than them. And I think the problem with some of my failures when I've jumped into these games is that I just was cold. I was jumping in with 3 minutes left, and I needed to come in and perform in a high-pressure situation. Here, I have more time to work with, and we get a 1st down in that 3rd and 10 situation. And 1 play later, we are knocking on the door of the end zone. So far, it has been a defensive struggle, but we are starting to adjust to the pace. We are hoping to get into the end zone there, but we can't find the blocks. And Ole Miss, rightfully so, calls a timeout. Looks like Pete Golding is still the head coach at Ole Miss, which is shocking, not because Pete Golding isn't good at his job, because to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure if I know much about him, but because people in this game normally get fired. I might get fired after this game if we don't win. I can chew a little bit of clock here, but ultimately we do want to find the end zone on this play. Is this the right play call? Probably not, especially considering that they're only going to rush 4. We're going to go to the outside, maybe beat out, and that's why a dual threat quarterback in that situation would be great, because he would certainly find a good gain there to maybe make it 4th and more manageable, make us think about going for it, but instead we'll just take our 3. We'll go up against the number 1 team in the country. And now we have 2 minutes left in this contest. We have built ourselves a 2-possession lead. Ole Miss has 0 timeouts remaining. We're going to see if we can catch them off guard with the RPO here. We're going to see if we can get good blocks on the outside. We get the 1st down. Huge play there. And ultimately, that 1st down seals the win for LSU. A couple of weeks ago, we were dead in the water after 2 straight losses to A&M and Arkansas, but we come back with a win over number 5 Georgia and number 1 Ole Miss. That should see us in the top 10 next week. We now find ourselves as the number 8 team in the country. Do I think we should be higher? Probably so, but we're also under a team that beat us, so it makes sense that we're only number 8. And if we take a look at the rest of the college football landscape, it looks like everybody is kind of struggling except for these top 3 teams. A lot of 2-loss programs, especially in the SEC, and that just makes our final stretch of the season even more important. As of right now, Auburn is the one team that is 6-0 in conference, which is funny because it looks like they went 1-2 in non-conference games. We could find ourselves back in an SEC championship game, and obviously that depends on what those top 3 schools do, but we are still in a good position to find ourselves in postseason play. To do that, we need to beat both Missouri and Florida, and we need to hope that we can beat the number 4 team in the country, Oklahoma. But at a certain point, I'm just not sure what to do anymore, because we lost to Missouri. Sure, it was an away game, but that was their only win in SEC play all year long. We are a 97 overall. It is unacceptable to be losing games like that. Thankfully, we bounced back the following week with a win over Florida, but now we're the number 13 team in the country, and we need to defeat Oklahoma. Thankfully, it looks like Oklahoma themselves have been on a bit of a skid, but if we want to find ourselves back in the college football playoff, this is a must-win game for us. Thankfully, I don't need to hop into this one for us to win by 3 possessions, but our future with the college football playoff is still up in the air because of our loss to Missouri. Sure, we go to Oklahoma and we beat the Sooners, but we need to hope that other teams above us have lost so that we can take their spot and go back to the college football playoff. And in this contest, our defense finally wakes up. Fahim Delane with 2 interceptions, Ben Carlos, the freshman Mike, with 1 interception, and Brandon Arrington with 1 interception. That is 4 picks in one game. To my knowledge, that is the most that we have had in a single game throughout this entire rebuild. But unfortunately, those efforts just came a little bit too late. As of right now, we're the number 12 team in the country, which seems good, but as of this moment, we are currently the last team projected into the college football playoff, and if one of these projected conference champions lose in their conference championship game, then we might get bumped out for an auto bid. And before we get to see if we made the college football playoff, let's take a quick look at early National Signing Day. Before the transfer portal, we have the number 10 class in the country. We only signed 15 players in high school, but out of those 15 players, we got 3 5-stars. And at the top of the board was, of course, Cedric Otogwe. And now it's the moment of truth. If he doesn't have at least star dev, it would be a bit disappointing, and he has star dev, thankfully. He will develop very nicely for us, and once again, he will either start for us next year or he'll be the starter the year after. But either way, he will be a great starting quarterback for us. At halfback, the 4-star Emmanuel Horner has star dev, so that's good news for us. Prince Ongumbwale has elite dev, so huge for us as a good weapon for Otogwe. Other receivers that we signed, Jose Abamiri unfortunately only has normal. Jelani Flynn, the 4-star gem, has star dev, that's great for us. Marcus Redmond, the 4-star tackle, has star dev. Ronald Veal, unfortunately, only impact, and Scales, unfortunately, only normal. Defensively, Nick Shelley has star dev, the 4-star edge that we settled for, ultimately has a very good dev trait. Brett Stutz has impact dev, we stole him from Kansas State at the very last second. He should hopefully be a good safety for us in the future. Will Sapp, the 5-star will linebacker, elite dev. This guy will be a beast for us in the future. Also at linebacker is Jalen Fayed, he has impact dev. Prince Mamula has elite dev. That's unexpected from the 4-star gem, but we'll absolutely take it. Carl German, another 4-star gem Mike linebacker, also with star dev, so that's great. And we knew that Quincy and Quenty would have probably normal or impact dev. Ends up with normal dev, but we need more safety depth anyway. And thankfully for us, the good news doesn't stop at the recruiting class, because we ended up just sneaking into the college football playoff with a 9-3 record. We'll be taking on the number 5 seed Memphis, and if we win this one, then we'll have to rematch Texas A&M. A couple of years ago, we underestimated Boise State, and we ended up losing by multiple possessions. We will not be doing the same thing today. Even though Memphis has a 67 overall team, somehow they went 13-1. Either way, we have to beat the team that's in front of us, even if we are 30 overalls better than them. But it seems like the team did not get that memo, because now early in the second quarter, we are down 14-0 against this team. This is unacceptable so far. We need to make a good offensive drive here and start to set the tone. Thankfully, it looks like our offensive line is pushing well against their defensive line, so we're going to try to run the ball one more time here, see what we can do. I took the absolute wrong angle. I tried to cut it up the middle, but for some reason, I just froze. And I don't know why I froze, because it is a virtual video game. But either way, it is still going to be 3rd and 3 here. We trust our offense in this scenario. We're going to go over the middle, and it's going to be a nice first down to Nas Rankin. And now 1st and goal at the 2-yard line. We could go a number of different directions, but we're going to end up doing a little pitch play here, and we're going to find an easy touchdown for our running back. We'll get on the board against Memphis. But it looks like our defense needs our help here. We have multiple players that are cold at this moment, but it is 3rd and 8. They're going to run the ball. They absolutely fooled me there, and they're going to get an easy first down. And now a 20-something yard reception from Memphis makes it 1st and goal here. We're going to stop them here because our defensive line is incredible. But maybe it's the hurry up that's really screwing with our defense because we are just not able to get in formation here. They're going to go play action, then go to the tight end. He's wide open. I tried to get over with the safety, but I couldn't get there in time. Memphis once again has a 2-possession lead over us. Thankfully, we have a ridiculously quick drive down the field. 1:40 left on the clock in the first half. We're going to see if we can make this a 1-possession game once again. They have a screamer coming off the edge, but thankfully, Sinilau Hall with a great play. We have a nice juke and almost gets us in the end zone. That was a beautiful throw on the money with pressure in his face. Sinilau Hall proving why he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. We're going to see, though, if we can get our running game going near the end zone. We gain probably half a yard there. And on 2nd down and goal, we're going to try to once again establish ourselves at the goal line with our run game. See if this works here. Looks like it should, and that's our 2nd rushing touchdown of the game. We're back within 1 possession. And the next moment we get is in the 4th quarter. It is a 28-28 ball game. About 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in this contest. We're going to run the ball here on 3rd down, see if it works, and it does. A beautiful cutback up the middle of the field from Alex Addock. He's having a great game. And we're obviously not going to let the simulation decide this one. We have to step in and beat the Memphis Tigers if we want to move on in the college football playoff. And to do that, we need to continue establishing the run game as we do there. Nice burst of speed, but it only gets us 7. I'm not sure why Fowler's not getting in the game more because, again, he was kind of brought in to be our, he's brought in to be our rushing halfback. They are pressing up heavy on our receivers. Those safeties are going to end up playing over the top, but we beat the linebacker with the cut from the tight end, and he's going to get down at the 7-yard line. Beautiful strike from Sinilau. And with 2 minutes left now, it's 2nd and goal. We don't want to leave too much time on the clock here for Memphis, but we also want to make sure that we get into the end zone with ease, which we do there. Another rushing touchdown for the Tigers, and we'll take a lead here at Memphis. They punched us in the mouth early with a 14-0 lead in the 1st quarter, but since then we have been able to find our stride. It's been 35-14 since the 1st quarter, and we're looking to lock them down one last time to secure a victory here. It's going to be 2nd and 13. We're going to try to hit them hard to force a fumble and take the game out of their hands. Obviously, it's 4-down territory here for Memphis. We just need to stop them here. Take a look over the middle. Quarterback gets hit when he throws, but he delivers a strike, and Memphis is going to have to call a timeout. They have just found something against our defense. I mean, since the 1st quarter, we've been doing fine. We're going to see if we can contain them on this run. I'm not sure why they would run in this scenario because they don't have unlimited time. Sure, they can stop the clock 2 more times, and sure, they have 1:14 left on the clock, but still, this is not guaranteed for them. They do not have guaranteed time, and that's going to be an interception. I thought my user would get it, but instead, we're going to have a nice interception with our Mike linebacker, Caesar Wing. Beautiful play there, and that should seal the game for us. So after a hard-fought game in Memphis, the Tigers give us a real struggle, but the real Tigers won this contest. LSU comes out victorious in the 1st round of the college football playoff. Alex Adcock with probably the best game of his career, about 115 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, and in the game of the week, the LSU Tigers will be rematching the Texas A&M Aggies. This time, they do not have home field advantage. We will not be playing on Kyle Field. Instead, this will be a neutral site. Hopefully, that can help us in this contest. Last time, we only lost by 1 point, so hopefully that 1 point is made up for by their home field advantage, and hopefully we can enter this game more composed offensively to take down the Aggies. We'll enter this game for the first time in a 2-minute drill here in the 1st half. It is 3-3 so far. Just like our last game, it seems like nothing has been able to get going on the offensive end, and they rushed 3 there, and they got a quick sack on us. Or maybe they rushed 4, but either way, they got to us way too fast. We were not able to develop anything down the field. They're going to be rushing 4 again. We're going to look over the middle to R1, and that's a beautiful strike. We're going to call timeout. The pinpoint accuracy of Sinilau Hall strikes again. He finds a nice strike over the middle for a quick 17 yards. We're going to have to go over the middle because once again, pressure is getting in our face. And as much as I would love to go for it in this scenario, our offense has been too inconsistent today for me to trust them. We're unfortunately going to have to punt it with Strong. who I believe is an auto-generated walk-on because I did not recruit punter. Let's see if we can lay him out with a big hit. Boom! And I'll be hopping in just for fun here. There's 6 seconds left on the clock. It's 3rd and 10. How about one Hail Mary attempt here? They're going to rush 4. Somehow they're going to get to the quarterback in like 5 seconds, throw up a deep ball, but unfortunately it's not caught. We're going to go into half tied. And now on 3rd down, 3rd and 10, our offense is still struggling. We do not have an answer for their defense. They don't have an answer for our defense. We're just going to have to go to the tight end over the middle, but he can't catch it. So, of course, in this scenario, we'll go for the field goal. Should be nice and easy at a neutral site. Hopefully, I can knock it down, and that'll be right down the middle. So we will take the lead in this contest, even though it is only by 3 points. And now here we are at the beginning of the 4th quarter. Only 10 seconds have passed, but it is going to be 3rd down. We're just going to have to go underneath because, I don't know, maybe the middle of the field was open with the tight end, but we didn't trust it. And that means, once again, in this scenario, we're going to have to kick a field goal. It'll make it a 1-point game. Hopefully, like last time, we were down by 1 point and we ended up losing. Hopefully this time it's not going to be the same, but another kick down the middle, it'll be 10-9. And now with 3 minutes left in this contest, we do have all 3 timeouts, but we are down 10-9. Our offense has just not been able to wake up and find the end zone in this scenario. They're going to go with a touch pass, and they might find a lane, but thankfully our linebacker makes a nice play. We just need one more stop from our defense, and then hopefully we can make a comeback on offense. Their quarterback's going to keep it. We need to hit him, but we can't, and he's going to get an easy 1st down. In this scenario, we will start calling our timeouts. So we're going to predict that they are going to run the ball, of course, but in a case that they don't, it would be very shocking. The quarterback's going to keep it. Terrible mistake. We'll wrap him up behind the line of scrimmage. Once again, we just have to completely run commit against A&M and hope that they don't pass the ball like they do there, and they're going to find an open receiver. That is terrible news for us. All of a sudden, now we're in a tough scenario. The quarterback's going to try to keep it. We'll take him down, but we have no more timeouts. We cannot stop the clock here. It will be 3rd and 7, and we will see here what the Aggies do. They could very easily pass the ball in this scenario, and it looks like they will. We're going to have to cover them. Oh my goodness, I almost picked that ball. If it was on target, that would have been gorgeous there from Ben Carlos. But instead, we'll hold them to a field goal attempt. This is a long field goal, maybe a 55-yarder in this scenario. We blocked it last game. This game, it's going to be down the middle, and we'll have a minute on the clock to score a touchdown. It has been a defensive struggle for both sides, but now we need to blow this one open. We need to find something open here. I'm just going to throw up a 50-50 ball, and why did I do that? Oh my goodness. Truly a piss-poor read from me there. I mean, obviously, it's my fault that we lost the game, but we should not have been in that scenario in the first place. 9 total points from our offense against A&M. We struggled against their defense all year long. This game was no different. And now this is year number 3 or year number 4 in this rebuild. We only have 1 win in the college football playoff. Again, why did I throw that ball? It was double covered. I had nothing open down the field, so I just wanted to force something. Terrible decision from me. And it hurts to see A&M celebrate here with the Peach Bowl trophy. And ultimately, in a sight that no LSU fan wants to see, Texas A&M faced Alabama in the national championship, and A&M ultimately ends up on top. I guess it hurts a little bit less that we ended up losing to the eventual national champion, but it hurts to see that A&M is in a spot that we could have very easily been in if our offense just showed up last game. But I can't blame our offense because they're the reason why we were even in this scenario in the first place. Sidney Hall almost had 4,000 passing yards on the year, 35 passing touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. On the ground, we never found that true consistent back, but still, Alex Addock and Levi Fowler both split carries fairly well. 5.5 yards per carry for Addock and 6 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per carry and 13 touchdowns for Fowler. Maybe we should have given him more carries. Maybe we should have given him more of a workload. But, you know, hindsight is 20/20 in that scenario. And it's hard to give the running backs more of a workload when you have such great receivers like Naz Rankin. 1,200 receiving yards, 16 receiving touchdowns. Absolutely ridiculous year from him. I would be shocked if he does not go to the NFL draft after this year. Cam Sapp, same with him. He only had 5 touchdowns through the air, but 1,100 receiving yards for him. George Welsh, he might have one more year with us, and if he does, he would develop into a nice number 1 option. As our number 3, he had over 800 yards receiving and 9 touchdowns. And defensively, we just have not found that consistency from our edge rusher position. Amir Wells got 9 sacks, and that's great. Caleb Morris had 5, but Marco Jones had 4, which is not what you want to see from your top edge rusher. And Colin Gammon, we moved him to edge rusher just to give us a different look at that position. He only ended up with 1 total sack on the year. Meanwhile, and something that I didn't even notice, and a reason why I need to check these stats even more, Jalen Flavors, our star edge rusher, was somehow moved out of the depth chart. I made sure that he was going to be rush right end and that he was the starting right end, but instead this season he only got 24 snaps. That was probably part of the reason why our defense couldn't get to the quarterback. It's probably not like he could do anything anyway, considering all of our edge rushers have sucked over the past couple of years, but it would have been nice to have the true junior out there. And now we're at a screen that will hurt us a lot. Sidney Lau Hall wants to leave due to the playing time deal breaker. You will be the starter next year, sir, so I will give you 500 NIL to stay. Nas Rankin, we want you to go to the NFL draft, so we will save 570 NIL from you, which is a lot, and we will let you go to the NFL draft, so thank you for your service here for the Tigers. We appreciate it. Brandon Arrington, he had 6 interceptions last year. We do not really have anybody that's available to be cornerback 1. The problem is, and if we check it out here, I would assume it costs over 700 NIL to keep him. In fact, it may be even more. To guarantee a spot on roster next year, 780 NIL, that's just way too much for our cornerback number 1. So we will let him walk. We will find another replacement at cornerback through the transfer portal with the 700 NIL that we would save from him. We could find 2 85 plus overalls with 300 NIL, much less 700. So unfortunately, he will be leaving. I'll also give a little more to Sidney Lau Hall just to make sure that he stays. Maxwell McGee is an interesting one because we have a couple of good free safeties now, but ultimately, last year he had a pick, a couple of tackles, good pass deflections. We kind of need a star safety here, and he would fit the bill there. Only with impact dev, but he has a lot of favorable skill caps if I remember correctly, so the 350 NIL to keep him I think would be more than worth it. George Welsh wants to leave due to conference prestige. He would be our number 1 receiver next year, so I will give him, I'll give him 400 NIL so he will stay. Keon Garvin wants to leave due to proximity to home. Last year he was good, not great. He was our number 4 receiver. I think I could spend the 300 plus NIL on a better receiver, so unfortunately Keon Garvin will be gone from the team. Colin Gammon wants to leave due to playing time. He was not great for us last year, so do I trust him here or do I spend this money on a better edge? I just need to find better edge rushers. I can't trust a guy that had 1 sack and 14 starts, so unfortunately, Colin Gammon will be off the team. Caesar Wing wants to leave due to playing style. He's our starting Mike linebacker. We would like to keep him, even though we have recruited linebacker pretty well. Sal DeVere wants to leave due to championship contender. For a starting outside linebacker, 100 NAL is not bad at all, so we will absolutely do that. Leon Noyle wants to leave due to playing style. I think I could actually find a better tackle out there for the 150 to 200 NIL that I would give him, so I'll let him walk. Alex Addock wants to leave due to playing style. Once again, I think I can find a better halfback out there for the price that I'm giving him, so I'll let him leave. Same for Levi Fowler. Both those guys had great years for us, but we've had a lot of turnover at the halfback position over the past couple of years, and I think we can find better players in the portal. Danny Wire wants to leave due to pro potential. He could potentially find a big role for us next year, and for 70 NIL, I think that's great for an 81 overall. The true freshman Cedric Uzama wants to leave due to playing style. My goodness, this would be a lot of NIL, but I think he would start for us this season, so I would give him 390 NIL so that he stays. And finally, the linebacker Sua Tool. We've actually recruited well at Mike linebacker this year, so I'm willing to let him go and save a little bit of NIL. So after fixing our NIL budget, we're going to end up with almost 3,800 points to spend in the transfer portal. And with that money, we're going to look to find a new receiver, 1 or maybe even 2 top receivers. We're going to look to find a replacement for Brandon Arrington, and again, maybe 2 top cornerbacks in that scenario. We're also going to look to find an elite edge rusher. That is my number 1 priority here in the transfer portal. And maybe we're going to have another priority here in the transfer portal because Sidney Lau Hall does leave us. We thought he would because he is a 95 overall, but he will probably be the number 1 pick in the draft, and rightfully so. He gave us a couple of good years here, so I'm not mad at it. But ultimately, we do need to find a new answer at the quarterback position, and it might end up being the true freshman. Of course, we're going to end up losing Rankin and Arrington and McGee, it looks like, to the first round of the NFL draft. We're going to see if we can bring McGee back, and we can't, unfortunately, but still, that'll be 4 first-round picks for us. Keon Garvin's going to go to the NFL draft. Gammon will transfer, that's fine. All these guys, it makes sense that they're leaving. Steven Rivas wants to leave due to playing time. We'll see if we can bring him back, and we can with an extremely low persuasion chance. And as we take a look at draft results, we only end up having 7 players drafted to the NFL, but we had 4 first-rounders, including our starting quarterback, Sidney Hall. We also ended up having 3 receivers going to the NFL draft, so that's great. And somehow, once again, one of our edge rushers gets drafted. Marco Jones had 4 sacks, which is certainly fine, but it's not like he's much of a run stopper anyway, so I guess it helps out our pro potential, but I'm not sure how these guys are getting drafted so high. And thankfully for us, we're back to a 4.5-star prestige school, so we will have more recruiting hours, and that will be very important here in the transfer portal. Funnily enough, the number 1 player in the transfer portal is actually Colin Gammon, which once again, he only had 1 sack last year, so I'm not sure how he is the number 1 player in the portal. But more importantly for us, we have a couple of top options here at positions of need, including wide receiver, Patrick Steinkuhler. He is a freshman, maybe a sophomore next season. He had a pretty good season for a 19 or 20-year-old player, so we'll definitely add him to our list. And Frederick Bourne, I believe this is a player that we looked at earlier. He was one of the top 5 stars that we looked at. He looked incredible, and once again, he could play the Sidney Hall role and potentially be our starting quarterback next year after going to a different school. And you see Demetrius Kegler, and you'd think as a top edge rusher that he would be great for us. He had 0 sacks. Once again, I'm not sure how these guys are so highly rated, but we'll still put them on the board, I guess. In the end, though, I'm going to be going after Peter Carrion at quarterback. This guy has 86 speed, 92 throw power, great accuracies. I'm not sure if this is one of the guys that I took a look at, I think 1 or 2 years ago, as one of the top 5 stars, but he certainly looks like a 5-star, and in the transfer portal, he is rated a 5-star. He has great physical abilities, 92 throw power, good accuracies, great speed. I think potentially that the pocket passer might be broken in this type of system, so maybe the dual threat will hopefully help us offensively. Though I guess offense isn't really our problem, but still, in these close games, especially against Texas A&M, we needed better quarterback play, and maybe Peter Carrion could be the answer there. And so far throughout this transfer portal, I'm just reminded of some of the old names that we have recruited. We're of course going to be going after Dion Bettis. If you remember correctly, he was a 5-star defensive tackle that we went after that ultimately committed to, I believe, Oklahoma. Either way, he's back in the transfer portal. He has 88 speed at 302 pounds. He looks like a monster in the interior defensive line, and while that's not necessarily a problem for us, if he could be like Lamar Brown and be our primary pass rusher, that would be huge for us. And though Levi Fowler was on the team last season, he only wants 150 NIL, and I don't think we're going to beat out the other 3 teams below us if they do decide to go after him. But still, it's like 100 less NIL than what he would have wanted if he were to stay. So ultimately, I'm okay with giving him this NIL package. And one player that we did go after earlier that we eventually couldn't go after was Ciante Silver. His stats don't look the sexiest, and he might not be an instant starter if we get Fowler back. But 85 awareness already with 91 speed. If we can up the agility, the acceleration, the change of direction, and if we can up the break tackle as well, then he would be a great contact seeker halfback for us. Also on our board is Hashim Ajayi. He was a 4-star gem a couple of years ago. I don't know if he's necessarily the answer for us at edge rusher, but he'll be at least a name for us. And at 6'6", 235 pounds, he has 84 block shedding, 81 power moves. He can't be any worse than the edge rushers that we've had in the past couple of years. Unfortunately, though, I've been reminded why we didn't get some of these players. For some reason, we were like number 3 on Dion Bettis' board. We gave him all 50 hours. We scouted him 100%. He still locks us out in favor of Washington and Miami. So to him, I say good riddance. You're not good enough for our program. Ciante Silver chose, I believe, Georgia over us. Right now, we are 3rd in his recruitment after being 1st. Again, we are giving him all 50 hours, but we just do not have the bonuses that Texas A&M and Oregon have. And now at week 3 for the transfer portal, we are ultimately in a great place for both Peter Carrion and Patrick Steinkuhler. Both guys had a great week 2 visit, and we could very well secure both commitments after this week. Ciante Silver, unfortunately, it's going to take a little bit more convincing to get him on roster, but it looks like we might get beat out by Texas A&M anyway. Speaking of Texas A&M, they stole the 4-star edge Hashim Ajayi from us. This is the 2nd time now that Hashim Ajayi has rejected us in recruitment. Hopefully we can secure a commitment over Texas A&M with Kevin Neighbors, who will be on visit with us this week. Same with Josh Darman with us over Ole Miss. And maybe we can steal Isaac Smith from Ole Miss as well. It would be a very nice get for us as he is the number 4 defensive tackle in the country. Emmett Miranda had a nice visit week with us last week. We are now number 1 on his recruitment, but USC could very easily add a visit week in there for this week or for next week, and they could steal him from us. But we still have a pretty decent lead over them, and hopefully he can commit to us after this week because the pipeline tier isn't too much of a difference for it to be that much of a factor against us. Unfortunately, this 4-star cornerback is probably going to choose Miami over us, but we threw him on a week 4 visit just in case he doesn't. We also threw on a bunch of targets after this week, including Anthony Reddick and Reggie Keel. The one thing that I've noticed about this game, a lot of these top receiver transfers don't get any offers after the first couple of weeks. So ultimately, it's probably not even worth it to offer them after week number 1, and instead see who doesn't have an offer and then scout the best from the bunch. In this case, we saw that Anthony Reddick was one of the best of the bunch. 98 awareness already. 89 speed isn't the best, but still, route running is great, catching is great, gold sure hands. He looks like the best receiver on the board left. And Reggie Keel isn't spectacular himself, but 90 speed, 96 acceleration, and gold takeoff, that's more than enough for me to go after him. We also put on our board a couple of different halfbacks just in case our previous plans don't work out. Daryl Jarwin, hopefully we should be number 1 on his board after this week, considering we made that much of a comeback in 1 week. And we're first on the board for Carson Baker. His stats are incredible actually, 93 speed and 91 change of direction. He's a 3-star just sitting in the portal with 0 offers. In terms of safety help, we got Dre Dennis, and hopefully he'll commit to us. Same with Cam Garrison, though Colorado may prove to be a tough test for us to beat. We got a couple more Mike linebackers on our board. Shakir Allers isn't great, but Marcus DeBose is actually very solid. 89 speed, 90 awareness, 92 tackle, 91 play rec, and 90 pursuit. You can go down the list of great stats that he has. He's a number 4 Mike linebacker in the portal. Hopefully we should get him committed to us in the next couple of weeks. And then for edge, because we don't really have a backup plan, we're just going after a couple of freshmen. They don't look the best necessarily, but it's just more bodies and more competition for our current edge room. As we predicted, the 4-star cornerback did end up choosing Miami, but we got a huge commitment last week with the 4-star tackle Emmett Miranda. We're also firmly in first place for the quarterback Peter Carrion, and we got a commit from the number 2 transfer in the country, Patrick Steinkuhler. In other battles, we're unfortunately going to lose Ciante Silver to Texas A&M, but I guess it's not the end of the world. We also got Isaac Smith to hard commit to us last week. That's a big get for our defensive line. And here on National Signing Day, we unfortunately lost out on a couple of commits, like from Ciante Silver, he commits to A&M. Darman unfortunately goes to Ole Miss. I thought we might have a chance of getting him, but it looks like Ole Miss swooped up and got the cornerback. And Bruce Sims also chose Ole Miss. They had a late push for him in week 3, but we just couldn't hold him off. He wanted to be a Rebel, so be it. In the end, though, we got the number 2 player in the country, but unfortunately, he only has Impact Dev. Peter Carrion has Star Dev, so that will be great for his development in this upcoming training results. Emmett Miranda, the tackle, has Elite Dev. That is huge. Daryl Jarwin, one of the halfbacks, unfortunately only has normal Dev, but he looks playable almost immediately, as does Carson Baker, but both guys could provide a nice 1-2 punch in the backfield. And then a big surprise to me is that Marcus DeBose has Elite Dev. This is a transfer sophomore, someone who did not have an offer after week number 1. We swoop up an Elite Dev Mike linebacker who might be our Mike linebacker number 1 next year. And thankfully, the one edge that we do sign, Jamie Darisaw, he has Star Dev. He's only a freshman, so hopefully he can develop into something nice for us. Overall, we ended up with the number 4 class in the country, which I will absolutely take with a class of only 29 players. The one thing that you might see that's missing from our recruiting class, though, is that we could not find a replacement for Brandon Arrington. We went after a couple of cornerbacks, but they all chose different locations. So that is going to be our one weakness heading into next season. And now at the end of player progression, this team doesn't have the top end talent that it used to have, or at least, the top 95 plus overalls. But overall, I think this is the best team that we've had this entire rebuild. Jalen Flavors has developed into a 94 overall with tactician boosts. It's a shame that he didn't play at all last season, and I will attribute that to myself. But hopefully he rested up and he's recovered to have a double-digit sack season for us. Ed Baker was a 3-star transfer just a couple of years ago. Now he's a 93 overall. He will be a first-round draft pick for us. Percy Ivory ends up being our number 1 receiver, but I don't know if he'll be number 1 on the depth chart because, to be completely honest with you, 87 speed for a receiver is not great. Instead, it will be George Welsh that will be the number 1 in our depth chart. Already has gold jukebox, gold cutter, 89 speed, great route running, great catching abilities, 99 agility, and 99 change of direction. Maybe if Percy Ivory stays for one more season, he'll probably end up being receiver number 1. but for right now, it will end up being George Welsh for this season. Another offensive line mentioned, Ty Gage is a true junior now, and he is a 93 overall. I believe he was a 5-star gem. I know he was a 5-star, but the gem part I'm not sure about. Either way, he is progressing like a gem. He has star development, 93 overall. He will almost certainly go to the NFL draft. Speaking of offensive line, a little bit down the board, Emmett Miranda. We moved him from tackle to guard because our 2 tackle positions are pretty much set in stone this season, but he is 6'4", 327 on the interior offensive line. He will be incredible for us, and he will also be a surefire first-round pick when the time comes. Another receiver, Anthony Reddick, he'll be our number 3, so good for him. He'll be a nice transfer for us. Caesar Wing ends up as a 92 overall with tactician boosts. Our linebacker core has really developed over the past couple of seasons. Also joining him will be Anthony Saldivari at a 90 overall, and Ben Carlos as a true sophomore, 90 overall with tactician boosts. He will be an absolute demon as a Mike linebacker. We'll get him for one more season too, so he could develop to up to a 95 plus overall next season. The number 2 player in the transfer portal, Patrick Steinkuhler, ends up being a 90 overall, only with 85 speed, so not the best, but he might find himself a role as a good wide receiver for us. Andrew Maddox ends up being our best defensive tackle at a 90 overall. Danny Wire, we moved from receiver to tight end. That might be, a little glitchy, maybe unethical as many would say, but I don't care because I have honestly underdeveloped my tight end room over the past couple of years, and I'll take responsibility for that. So we moved Danny Wire there because he's 6'4". 209 pounds is a bit skinny for a tight end, but he has 89 speed. He's going to be an absolute cheat code at the tight end position. And he'll be a great target for our quarterback, which will be Peter Carrion. He ends up as an 88 overall after training results. He ends up winning the starting job over our backup, Marquez Byham. He's just 1 overall better, but still, he is considerably better with accuracies. Steven Rivas actually has progressed pretty well. He's an 82 overall as a redshirt freshman. Unfortunately for him, we have a true freshman 79 overall quarterback who will probably be competing with Peter Carrion next year for that starting job. At the halfback position, Carson Baker ends up being an 89 overall as a 3-star transfer, so that's good news for us. Daryl Jarwin ends up being an 86, and Frederick Balkasoon, he's only a 77 overall, but he has a lot to improve on. I could see him being mid-80s next year with that star development. And finally, our cornerback room actually is not as bad as I thought it would be. I moved a couple of safeties over, Kevin Neighbors, and I believe Randy Soro was also a safety. I moved them over to cornerback for more depth. But overall, the room actually doesn't look as bad as I thought it would be. We don't have a DJ Pickett, we don't have a Brandon Arrington, but Joe Hasty is stepping up fairly well as a cornerback number 1. I told you he was a sleeper a couple of years ago as a 4-star gem. He's up to 94 speed, 98 man coverage, 82 zone. He will be a great lockdown man coverage corner for us. At number 2 is going to be Dwayne Coates. He only has 87 speed and Dooley only has 89, but still, their coverage stats are elite, so it's going to be hard to keep them off the field. And Darius Rollins, I would have loved to develop him over the past couple of years, but he's had skill caps that cap him out at 85 man and 68 zone. So he'll still see the field in certain packages, but overall, he won't be too much of a factor on our defense. I firmly believe that this is the best team that we've had in this entire rebuild, and as a result, we've also gotten one of the toughest schedules that we've had in this entire rebuild. We have to open up our season at the Owl Flat kickoff game against number 12 Penn State. Then we're playing that home and home with Arizona State week 3, home for Tennessee for week 4, at Ole Miss week 8, number 1 Alabama in week 12, and then number 2 Texas A&M week 14. This will not be an easy schedule for us, but again, this is the best team that we've had in this entire rebuild, and if we don't win at least double-digit games in the regular season, then I'm convinced that this team is cursed. And because of our success last season, we're starting to get really big goals, including win a national championship in the next 3 seasons. We're opening up the season as the number 3 team in the country, and honestly, it would be disappointing if we don't make the college football playoff, and I'm even going to put it out there, it would be disappointing if we don't make the SEC championship. It would be disappointing if we don't get a first round bye this season. That's how confident I am in this team's talent. I really do think we have the best team that we've had this entire rebuild, and I hope that they can prove me right. And in order to get the season off on the right foot, we need to beat the number 12 team in the country, Penn State. And our first look at this year's team will come on a 3rd and 7, about halfway through the second quarter. This is a pretty pivotal moment for us because this is we're only up by 3 points here as we find a receiver over the middle of the field. We get a rushing touchdown that's huge. And now let's step in for a quick 2-minute warning here. A minute 45 left on the clock. Clock is still running at this point in time. We are up by 2 possessions. We're going to scramble out. It feels nice to have a quarterback that can actually move around. We're just going to get out of bounds there, about 5 yards. We'll take yards however we can get them. We're going to try and find a tight end over the middle of the field here. Remember, our tight end has 88 speed. He can route run any linebacker out there, and he gets a quick about 25 yards on that play. Number 19, D. Wire. I don't remember his first name. DeMarcus Wire. No matter, that might be DeMarcus Ware actually that I'm thinking of, but still, Wire is an absolute cheat code back there. He will be one of our top options. I'm almost sure of it, as we're going to have to scramble again. We can get past a defensive lineman. We could not do that in previous years, but we're still going to call a timeout. The ability to improvise was something that this LSU team has not had in a couple of seasons, and now with Kerryon out there as our starting quarterback here, we do have that ability, but unfortunately, I mean, the picks are still there. I'm still terrible at this video game. I feel like every time I jump in, you see a pick. Thankfully, that interception didn't hurt us too much, but with about 2 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock, we need to close this game out with a couple of nice runs. We're going to get a quick 6 yards there, and Penn State's going to have to call some timeouts. Looks like Kerryon's dealing with a little bit of wear and tear, but it's not the end of the world here. We still have a nice lane there. We're going to cut up the middle. Beautiful job there. He has 150 yards on the day. Our running game seems to be back and thriving. And thankfully, it's coming at the right time here, because with 2 minutes and 43 seconds left, we want to close out this game as fast as possible. Let's see if we can do it here. We get around the edge. Number 7 there. We tried to juke him out. Maybe a little bit too much stick movement there, but still, we get the first down. Baker has 161 yards on the day and 2 rushing touchdowns. That's what you like to see from your starting running back there. Baker, though, does run into his own lineman, so that does hurt him just a little bit, but still, we're going to turn on chew clock, of course, and we'll go down all the way to the 2-minute warning here. Penn State has 0 timeouts left in this situation, so even if we have to, take up the next 2 downs and then kick a field goal, we'd be up by 10 points with 40 seconds left. That would essentially seal it, but how about we just get in the end zone anyway? No, we're going to be stopped short. That's actually probably better. We don't want to, leave this up to fate, leave this up to simulation. And then they get an onside kick recovery. They get a 2-point on the last possession of the game. It doesn't even matter, though. We almost got in the end zone there, but we're going to be stopped a yard short. We're just going to kick our field goal. I'll just let this clock run down. It'll be a 10-point game, and hopefully the next time you see me is with a victory. So in the end, LSU ends up defeating the Nittany Lions by 10 points. Carson Baker with 168 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Looks like he carries our offense, and Kerryon with his first time in an LSU Tiger jersey leads us to a top 25 victory, a huge win over Penn State, and hopefully, like with previous years, this sets us on the right track, and we can get a double-digit win season off of this momentum. The following week, we put up 52 points over Minnesota, a strong performance from our offense there. Peter Kerryon with 349 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception, and Carson Baker has just been incredible so far. 106 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, 2 20-plus yard rushes, and defensively, we're starting to get to the quarterback a little bit more. Caleb Morris had a sack, Juan Gallipo had a sack, and Anthony Saldivari and Amir Wells had half a sack. We also had 2 interceptions, one from Caesar Wing and the other from Larry Jalapio. 2 straight victories sets us up for the game of the week against number 9 Arizona State. They are currently an 81 overall team. We are a true 99 overall team. We are 18 overalls better, but once again, this overall system just does not play very well in simulation for us. We have to hope, though, that our offense can continue to surge and that our defense can contain Arizona State just enough so that we can squeak out a victory over a top 10 team. And once you know it, we beat Arizona State 44-23, a strong 4th quarter from our team, as it looks like their quarterback is actually former Michigan man Brady Smeagol. He doesn't play great, to be quite honest with you, but who does play great? Peter Kerryon. 322 yards through the air, 3 passing touchdowns. Carson Baker, once again, with an incredible performance, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Defensively, we had a couple of picks, or we just had one. It was Oscar Dooley, of course, and we are starting to get to the quarterback, thankfully. Andrew Maddox with 2 sacks, Amir Wells with 1, Dennis and Gallipo both share half a sack. And now we are the number 1 team in the country, 3-0 to start the season, but we have arguably our toughest test to date playing number 6 Tennessee. The Volunteers beat NC State in week 1 before losing by 3 points to the number 11 team in the country, Washington. They've had a bye week to prepare for us, so they are fully rested and they are prepared to take on the Tigers at Death Valley. So far, this is the best overall team that we've had to play all season long. They have a 94 overall offense, and it will be a tough task to knock down the number 6 team in the country. That's why we're going to hop into our first drive. We have Jarwin on the field for some reason. He is a receiving back primarily, so defense probably knows that we will not be running the ball. We will, though, with our quarterback, and we will get a first down, or, well, 2nd and inches, actually, but still, a great gain there from our running back. Now we have Baker on the field. Let's see what all the hype is about. Why is this guy getting 100 yards a game? You can see it there with that initial burst of speed off of the line of scrimmage. That right there got us 8 yards through a tight hole on the offensive line. That is what an elite running back does for you here. We're going to roll out once again here. We're going to try and see if we can hit square on the run. Ball is on the money. Well, a little bit high, but still, it hits him right in the chest. That'll be a first down on about a 15 to 20 yard throw. Our offense is clicking here early in this game against Tennessee. We're hoping to see if we can beat the Volunteers in this matchup. Maybe see if we can hit circle, or excuse me, that's actually square, but unfortunately he can't make the contested catch. So on a 2nd and 10 situation here, we have 2 linebackers there. I'm predicting blitz potentially from one of them, and no blitz there. But we're going to see if we can go over the field there. Maybe a bit of a risky throw. If it was over the top a bit more, would have been a complete pass, but still, it's going to be 3rd and 10 here. We're going to look for Wire over the middle of the field. He should have the speed advantage in every single matchup that he's in. In this case, he does get off the line fairly fast, and it's going to be 4th and 2. They're suggesting field goal, but I'm suggesting victory. And a victory means that we need to get a touchdown here on this first drive. We're going to look at X over the middle of the field. It's a strike, maybe a little bit behind him, but still, we get a first down on the field. We cannot abandon the run game. That's the one thing that I think does me over so many times here. We have Jarwin on the field. Unfortunately, he's not that much of a, runner. In fact, he's very slow off the line. And of course, Baker's back in the game now as we want to pass, but still, it's nice that he gets some rest. I guess here, we're going to look over to triangle there. It's going to be 2nd and 8, but it doesn't even matter. It's going to actually be 6 points for the Tigers. That early momentum helps the Tigers to not only beat the Volunteers, but to embarrass them at home. George Welsh is the player of the game, over 100 yards receiving and a receiving touchdown. We defeat the Volunteers and we completely embarrass them. A 30-6 victory. 24 points is the margin of victory for the Tigers. That's what you want to see from the number 1 team in the country at home against a conference opponent. Unfortunately, we couldn't carry the momentum next week against Texas. They were a stronger opponent than I had predicted, and they beat us 34-31 in overtime. Unfortunately, Peter Carrion throws 2 interceptions, but 355 yards through the air, 77% completion percentage, certainly not the end of the world, and certainly not a bad performance from Carrion. Carson Baker, 84 yards on the ground. 4.4 yards per carry is actually a little disappointing compared to what he's been doing, but he stays turnover free, adds a touchdown on the ground. You can't be mad at that. Unfortunately, defensively, I thought we were starting to make some strides in terms of pressuring the quarterback, but only 1 sack in this contest against Texas. Again, it's not the end of the world because we were at Austin. We took them to overtime. I guess it's a little disappointing that we couldn't even score in overtime and we held them to 3 points, but we have to move past this loss and focus week by week on our future. And I will say that we have 3 wins over top 25 opponents, and somehow this 3-point loss in overtime moved us to the number 12 team in the country. But we have plenty of opportunity to prove ourselves over the next couple of weeks, and we need to start with a victory over Arkansas and with a dominant victory over Kentucky. Thankfully, we do just that in the following 2 weeks with 2 two-possession victories over Arkansas and Kentucky, and that sets up a top 10 matchup against number 3 Ole Miss. Let me mention something first before we get into that matchup against Ole Miss, though. The one thing that I've noticed within these rankings, you look at the top 12, it looks pretty normal. Alabama at 1, Oregon, Ole Miss, all undefeated. Then you have a number of one-loss teams down here. But when you get to number 13, Tennessee is 2-3, and they are the number 13 team in the country. I know we dominated Tennessee, so that's certainly one of their losses, but they beat Sam Houston, and I believe it was NC State that they beat week 1. Those are their only 2 wins this entire season, and this is week 8, by the way. It is week 8, and a 2-3 team is the number 13 team in the country. That is honestly unbelievable. And you could say the same thing for Washington. They are also a 2-3 team that is the number 19 team in the country. They at least have a win over the number 13 team in the country, Tennessee, but they're both 2-3, so how are they ranked? I have no clue. Anyways, we need to focus on our matchup against the number 3 team in the country, Ole Miss. They are an 88 overall. They have a 91 overall defense. This will be a tough team to beat, especially in Oxford. The first bit of game action we're going to get is with about 1:30 seconds left in the second quarter. Some costly turnovers have brought us to a 6-point deficit here late in the first half. Seems as though maybe Carrion is not adjusting as well as I thought he would, as the pressure gets to him pretty quickly there. But he's thrown a number of interceptions this season, and maybe we've been blessed with 2 very competent, pocket passing type quarterbacks. We're going to see if he can make the throw on the run here. He can, but it's going to be dropped after he's hit. That makes it a 3rd and 10 here. I mean, this is an extremely hostile environment. Shockingly, they are not ranked by EA Sports, so I'm not sure what's up with that. There's a little miscommunication in the secondary, so we're going to take advantage of it. That probably was not the right throw to make there. In fact, an incredibly risky throw to make, but it is still complete. We're at the 50-yard line, and we're looking for more points here to end the first half. We're going to see if we can scramble here, but the pressure is just too much. Our offensive line is upgraded, but we are still getting beat off of the line. I'm not sure exactly what to do about that, so we're starting to get a little more pressure here. This time we have more green grass here. We're going to get the first down and then head out of bounds. While the interceptions are slightly annoying, you can't understate the impact that the run game is having on Carrion here, as X is going to be open down the field. But again, the pressure, it's just suffocating at certain times, and Carrion just does not have time to release the ball here. So it looks like maybe they're going to send more pressure here. It's going to get to him, but it looks like we're just going to scramble once again here. Might get out of bounds, but either way, it's a first down. And here with 50 seconds left, the Tigers are driving down the field. This is a pivotal drive here. If we can get 6 points, head into halftime with a lead. But once again, the pocket is collapsing. Those routes I could understand because they're all pretty deep routes. Take a long time to develop, but still, it's frustrating that we've been pressured almost every single play on this drive. Let's see if we can make that change here. We're going to go to square, but it's going to be dropped. And now on 3rd and 18, we're essentially just looking for quick yards so that we can get 3 points here. There's only 30 seconds left on the clock, so we're just going to go underneath there, but wonderful coverage from 55. It's going to set up a 56-yarder. We're going to try it. Why not? I mean, this is actually a pretty big swing if we miss it, but I trust our kicker. He has not done us wrong in this rebuild yet, and we're going to see if he can drill this kick. That one is going to be a beauty, right down the middle. It'll be a 3-point game heading into halftime. Thankfully, we get the ball to start the second half, and this is a pivotal play here. 3rd down and 7. We're going to go to X, but once again, the pressure is too much. Thankfully, 94 did not catch that ball, or else that would have been a pick 6. It is clear and obvious that our right tackle is not ready for the moment, and he will be benched after this, because I feel like we are only getting pressure from the right side here. So hopefully a change there will help us, but we're going to look to see if we can stop this. I don't know how I did not sniff out that that was a screen, but we'll stop him short of the end zone. Here on 2nd and goal at the 2-yard line, we're going to predict run. We're going to see what they do here. It's going to be run, but it's going to be a QB keeper. He runs into his own lineman, though, so it's going to be 3rd and goal. Not a great play there from their starting quarterback. They're going to hand it off for real this time. We're going to stop them short. Let's see what they do. They're going to go for 3. Huge stop there from our defense on 1st and goal. 7 yards to the goal line. We stop them. We hold them to 3 points. And it will still be a 1-possession game after this kick goes in. But unfortunately, we just cannot get anything going on offense. And once again, we need our defense to step up or else things could get bad. Big hit to the quarterback, but he hangs on to the football. And this hurry-up offense must be doing us in. It seems like every time I hop in, there's some problem with the hurry-up offense. I almost made it there, but we did make it in time to break up the pass. And now it will be 3rd and long. They don't need to make it to the end zone. They just need to make it to about the 7-yard line. They'll probably have that in their thinking, maybe some routes over the middle, but we're going to try and cover this quarterback here. A cross-body throw. Thankfully, we break it up. And once again, our offense comes up huge in the biggest moments. We'll hold them to 3 points here. You'd have to assume that their kicker makes it, and he does right down the middle. So it will be a 9-point game, but it is certainly recoverable for our offense. And with about 4 minutes and 30 seconds left here, it is going to be 3rd and 9. This is a pivotal moment here. Carrion has been taking a beating the entire contest. They're going to send pressure. I tried to dump it off to the running back, but he couldn't get the throw off. And in this scenario, they want us to go for a 57-yard field goal. This would be an absolute bomb for a college kicker to hit, but we have to try it here. If we make it, it will be a 1-possession game. Just needs to go a little bit to the left, but I miss it off the upright. Thankfully for us, though, this game is somehow still not over. It is 3rd and 6 at the 37-yard line. Even if we don't get this, we could get a field goal opportunity. They're only rushing 3. We're going to go to R1 over the middle of the field. It's caught. We're going to go out of bounds. Improvisation from Carry-On allows for a big gain down the field. Now it's going to be 1st and goal. We're going to see if we can catch him off guard, maybe with a slip screen. Looks like we can. Can we get in the end zone? We can't. We're short. Are you kidding me? We're short in this scenario. We're going to have to hurry up here. Hope that we can get something really quickly. About a minute 35 on the clock. We're going to see if we can catch him off guard with a run up the middle. It doesn't work. We need to keep hurrying up because we need to save these timeouts. And now with about a minute 30 on the clock, once again, Carry-On with a chance to get a touchdown for the Tigers. He's going to roll out. Hope that he can beat the edge, and he can. Touchdown, Tigers. A huge rushing touchdown there from Carry-On makes it a 1-possession game. You'd have to wonder what the score would be now if our field goal kicker made the kick. In fact, I could tell you what the score would be. We'd be up by 1 point. But unfortunately, that's just not how it works. We took a bad sack on 3rd down, and that made it a 57-yard field goal, and we were just inches away from making it, but still, we can't put our kicker in that type of situation. We're going to try and stop the run one more time, and we can. We're going to have to call our 2nd timeout. So now it's a 3rd and 12, and the question is, what will the Rebels do? Will they run the ball to try and waste our final timeout? Will they pass it? And it looks like they will. They're going to go over the middle of the field, and he's wide open. And unfortunately, that's just going to do it for us. We're going to lose to Ole Miss. They're in victory formation, and they deserved it. Our offense was, to be quite honest with you, piss poor. We're in the middle of the season now. We are 6-2. We were the number 7 team in the country, and our losses so far this season were by 3 points in overtime and by 2 points in the Magnolia Bowl. But still, it's 2 losses on our record. We pretty much need to win out if we want to make the college football playoff. And the following week, I thought we had an easy game against Auburn, so I didn't have to set the scene, but unfortunately, we lose to the Tigers at home by a score of 34-31. Peter Carry-On has a good game. He throws 51 times, 421 passing yards, and 1 touchdown. Our run game was good enough. Carson Baker had 3 rushing touchdowns. It's just our defense that is not getting to the quarterback. Once again, 0 sacks, 0 interceptions. I'm going to assume 0 forced fumbles. Oh, nope, we had 1 from Isaac Smith. But still, we're just not doing enough defensively to get the opposing team's offense off the field. And now this is a 3-loss team. I don't know exactly what I'm doing wrong here, but I've built a 99 overall team. Last year we were a 96 overall team. Now we're back up to a 99 overall, but still, we have 3 losses a year. And it's funny how in my last video, spoilers for my last video for the Stanford video, and if you haven't seen it, go ahead, check it out. We won the national championship in I think either year 2 or year number 3. And in fact, not only did we win the national championship, we went undefeated with like an 84 overall team. But with LSU in the regular season, we can't do better than 9-3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate the rest of the season because let's be honest, we're going to lose to either one of Alabama or Texas A&M. Hell, we might even lose to Mississippi State at this rate. And at the end of the season, I'll show you exactly what happened with everything, but I'm going to give it one more chance, one more opportunity with the LSU Tigers. And if I can't get them a national championship, then it would be the first failure that I've had on this channel. Well, folks, it looks like I spoke a little bit too soon. I should not be talking about failures. Maybe it's actually that mindset that's helping us, because we beat Mississippi State, and then we beat Alabama by 18 points at Tuscaloosa. This means that we're now the number 10 team in the country somehow, and we suddenly have life again. If we beat number 7 Texas A&M, we probably take their ranking and we make the college football playoff. The inconsistency of this team is extremely frustrating because if you look at all of these teams here, Georgia's a 94 overall. Nobody here has a 99 overall team. In fact, there's multiple teams here in the 70s. North Carolina is a 74 overall. Wake Forest is a 79 overall, and they have a better record than us, including Memphis. Last year we beat them in the college football playoff, but they gave us a run for our money. Now with a 99 overall team, we have been struggling, but now we have light at the end of the tunnel, because if we can beat number 7 Texas A&M, then we are guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff, and we might be able to even host a first-round matchup. And in the end, we didn't even need to hop in to help the Tigers. In fact, A&M made it look a lot closer with the last-second touchdown there, but in the end, we dominated the Aggies. Carry-On with 264 through the air and 3 touchdowns. We secure ourselves a top 10 seed in the college football playoff. And who would have guessed that a couple of weeks ago, after we lost to Auburn, that we would be standing here likely hosting a first-round matchup in the college football playoff. And after it's all said and done, LSU ends up as the number 6 team in the country. We'll be taking on the Utah Utes in the first round. And you don't want to look too far ahead in the college football playoff, but the winner of this game would play Ole Miss in the Peach Bowl. How good would it feel to go to the Peach Bowl and take down the Rebels after they beat us earlier this season? At the end of our first round matchup, we dominated Utah. They scored 6 points late in this contest, but it was way too little too late. We dominated the Utes. We won our second college football playoff game in the last couple of years, and we'll be heading to the Peach Bowl to take on Ole Miss. We know this Ole Miss team very well. We've played them a number of times throughout the years. We've beaten them a couple of times. They've beaten us a couple of times. Now it's time to finally settle the score. We need to beat the Rebels in order to move on to the college football playoff semifinal, and we know what this team is exactly about. They beat us earlier this season, but they had home field advantage. This time, it's going to be a neutral site field. Hopefully this means that we can perform better offensively, and in the end, we'll come out on top. I would have loved to hop in and shown you guys some of the gameplay here, but we jumped out to an early lead and we didn't look back. I mean, this was a team that we struggled with roughly 10 weeks ago, and now we play the Rebels. We beat them 38-0. I don't know what has happened to this team. I don't know what drugs they've been taking. I don't know what God has possessed this entire team. This was a 3-loss team. They lost to multiple unranked teams like Texas and Auburn. They should have just laid down and quit for the entire season, but instead they dominated the Rebels from bell to bell. 38-0 is their final score. And shockingly, the Tigers will be moving on to the college football playoff semifinal. And taking a quick look at the college football playoff bracket, North Carolina takes down the number 1 seed Georgia with a 1-point victory in the Fiesta Bowl. They will be playing BYU in the Cotton Bowl. Meanwhile, we're going to be playing number 2 seeded Nebraska in the Orange Bowl. And once again, I find this entire run to be absolutely ridiculous. Again, we struggled with an 8-5 Texas team. We lost to an 8-5 Auburn team. We lost 2 games in a row in October, and I thought our season was over. But then we suddenly locked in for the Mississippi State game. We beat Alabama, we beat A&M, and we've dominated both of our college football playoff games so far. It must be PEDs maybe, or maybe every other team in the country is dealing with injuries or something. Again, this team sucks. And you hate to say that about a 99 overall team, but this team absolutely sucks. But somehow we found ourselves in a situation where we could very well win the college football playoff national championship, and literally 20 minutes ago, I was giving up on this season. But in order to win a national championship, you have to make the national championship game. We have to win the Orange Bowl first against Nebraska, and then we can start thinking about hardware. And the first bit of game action you're going to see is with about 3 minutes left in this contest. It is a 1-point game. We are down legitimately by 1 singular point. We just need to find room here. We can go to Ivory over the middle of the field, but great coverage from their corner. And screw it. This team was not supposed to make it this far anyway. I'm just going to go for it on 4th and 5. This is not a smart decision, kids. Do not try this at home, but we are still going to be trying it. We're going to have an open lane rushing potentially, or maybe a crossbody throw, but he's hit when he's throwing it. Under no circumstance should that have been the call. We absolutely should have punted the ball there, but instead, we are going to have to lock them down over the next couple of minutes. But now, in a 3rd and 9 scenario, there's 2 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock. We can stop the clock 2 more times ourselves, and 3 more times total with the 2-minute warning. They're going to take a shot to the end zone. We tried to pick it off, but we couldn't. So instead, it looks like Nebraska's going to go for a field goal. If they make it, and they presumably will, it'll be a 4-point game. But we got the field goal block animation, and we blocked it. Number 8 picks it up. He's going to go down the field. Coates has green grass in front of him, and he's going to celebrate his way into the end zone. The Tigers, are you kidding me? A blocked field goal gives us the lead in the Orange Bowl. In this scenario, of course, we are going to be going for the 2-point conversion. I cannot believe that just happened. I was mentally prepared for a drive where I inevitably threw a pick down with 1 minute left on the clock. We get the 2-pointer there, though. It's going to be a 7-point game. And Nebraska has to drive down the field on our defense, our 99 overall defense, and they have to score a touchdown. Now, the 1 million IQ thing that I should have done was I should have taunted after the 2-minute warning went through so that it would have gone into effect, but it doesn't matter here because they only get 1 yard there anyway. But Nebraska still has all 3 timeouts. They have 2 minutes on the clock. They only need to go 74 yards. This is completely doable for them. In man coverage here, we're going to go after the quarterback. We knew that he was going to scramble there, and they're going to have to hurry up here. The quarterback, Dakota Cutler, doesn't seem like he's much of a passer, and if he is, he's having a terrible game. We're going to cover this route over the middle. He's going to try to run, and he's going to be open down the field. Yep, that's an easy first down for him. We cannot allow Dakota Cutler to have that much running room again, or else he is going to beat us through the ground. They're going to go over the middle. Nice tackle there. And it's a great tackle too because the receiver holds onto the ball despite it only being a 4-yard gain. So we're going to cover these routes here. He's going to dump it off to the halfback. We'll tackle him inbounds for a gain of nothing. And now it is 3rd and 6. That clock is ticking. Every second is valuable for Nebraska here. 75 seconds left on the clock. We're covering the underneath route. We know that he was going to scramble, and he scrambled again, and he's going to get the first down. In these scenarios, we need more pressure on the quarterback. We cannot allow him to do what he has been doing to us. In man coverage, we allow a catch, but again, it is inbounds. That clock is running, and now it's going to be under 60 seconds. The Nebraska offense has to find something quickly, or else we're going to rush with the defensive lineman. We couldn't get there in time, and that's, the price that you have to pay. Either you go with the linebacker and you cover that route over the middle, or you have to go with the defensive lineman. They're going to spike it there. And we went with the defensive lineman. That route was open over the middle, and all of a sudden, they're in a pretty decent situation here. About 45 seconds on the clock. They're going to go over the middle. The tight end's going to catch it, and he's going to shut off the tackle, but the clock is still running. 35 seconds left. 3rd and inches. They have one more opportunity to stop the clock, but after that, who knows here? He's going to go cross body right to us, but the receiver's going to catch it. Are you kidding me? My linebacker was right there and he couldn't turn around. Touchdown, Nebraska. Just watch this play here. Look at 55. This is who I'm covering. I see that our corner over here gets burnt in man-to-man coverage. So over the middle, the quarterback is looking. My linebacker is just a little bit too far ahead. He tries to come back over. And if you look at this, if we zoom in here, look at the way he catches this ball. He gets a shoulder straight to the ribs there. That is a tough catch to make, and he still hangs on, and credit to the receiver, to be honest with you. But unfortunately, this game is going to be tied. Thankfully, the game is not over, but we're going to try and see if we can catch him off guard with a run play here. Let's see if we can bounce it to the outside, and we can! Oh my goodness, if I could have cut that up, that would have been incredible. Instead, here we are at our own 38-yard line. 25 seconds left. We have an opportunity at immortality here. If we can get a field goal on this last second drive, that would be incredible for us. We're going to have to scramble out though. Let's see if we can get a couple of yards here before we get out of bounds, and we do. Because it's pouring rain, I'm not sure exactly what the wind is like. I'm not sure exactly how far I need to go before we are in field goal range, but we're going to go over the middle to our tight end converted. Oh my goodness. The receiver converted tight end. He makes a beautiful catch there. I need to call timeout. I forgot about that. And there are 13 seconds left on the clock. I'm just going to take my field goal now. I'm not going to, risk the clock running out. I know I would probably screw that up somehow. But we have 13 seconds left. This field goal to seal a victory here. That one's going to be right down the middle. And Nebraska only has 10 seconds left. And with 5 seconds left on the clock, they're going Hail Mary here. They're going to just throw up a prayer. And unfortunately, they won't catch it. Well, unfortunately for them. Thankfully, we knock it down. LSU wins this game. What a ridiculous roller coaster of emotions there. From the field goal block to a touchdown, to the improbable touchdown drive from Nebraska, to a surgical drive at the end of the game. 19 seconds is all it took for us to go from the 25-yard line into field goal range, and the Tigers will be moving on to the national championship. And in the college football playoff national championship game, we will be playing BYU. They dominated North Carolina 34-12. Now they're going to be going to Atlanta, Georgia to take on the LSU Tigers. And this is a good BYU team. They lost their first game of the season to Baylor by 7 points, but it's the first game of the season, so they had time to recover. They rattled off an 11-game win streak, including victories over number 11 Utah and number 7 Wake Forest. They ended up dropping their conference championship game to Utah by 2 points in overtime, but they ended up beating Oregon, beating North Carolina. Now they're here for a date with destiny against LSU. But this destiny is not BYU's, it is LSU's. This is a team that has gone through many struggles throughout the years, teams that have spent millions upon millions of NIL dollars, all to secure the best talent in the world that just ends up falling short year after year. This year looked to be no different. After 2 straight losses to Ole Miss and Auburn and 3 losses on the year, LSU looked to be out of playoff contention. But something clicked within this team, and all of a sudden, we have dominated almost every single opponent that we've played. Nebraska was a tough opponent for us last week, but we ended up defying the odds, beating the number 2 team in the country, and now here we are in our own destiny. This is destiny for us. We need to win this college football playoff national championship, because if we don't, to be completely honest with you, I don't think we'll win it next year. This has been a run of a lifetime, and I don't think it's replicable, so if we're going to win a national championship in this video, it has to be right here, right now. But the first moment that we get in this game, late in the first quarter, we are already down 7-0. And they are driving down the field. We need to stop them from potentially scoring on us. We're going to cover that route over the middle. We need to get a sack here if we want to get them. And we get to the quarterback. Huge sack there from the Mike linebacker, Ben Carlos. That play right there felt like a momentum swinger. And all of a sudden, LSU is driving down the field. It is 1st and 10 in the red zone. Let's see here what we can do with the run game. We're going to have a nice little rush there for 9 yards. Unfortunately, Carrion is cold here, so he must have thrown an interception, fumbled, whatever. The past is the past. We need a touchdown in this scenario, and we trust our quarterback here. We're going to go over the middle with a slant, and that's a touchdown for the Tigers. Now here in the second quarter, it is 3rd and 6. We stop them on defense, but if you see X here, he does not have a linebacker on him right now. It's intriguing, but I don't go for it. Instead, I'm going to roll out. We're just going to hit triangle with a little dump off here. Quick first down for the Tigers. And we're actually going to stay in with this drive, because this very well could be the last moment that I play with this team. I've somewhat grown attached to them only because it's been like 5 years. To be quite honest with you, I was expecting this video to be like 3 years long maybe. Circle beats his man, but our offensive line can't hold itself together for 3 seconds. That is literally the worst feeling in the world when you see a receiver wide open down the field, as we see our tight end open down the field. An unfortunate, oh my goodness, 19 is holding the ball like he is Deion Sanders. What are you doing, man? I know Wire used to be a wide receiver, but still, you cannot be that, loose with the ball. But anyways, I've grown attached to this team because I thought it would take like 3 years to win them a national championship. It's a Power 5 school, it's LSU, but this rebuild has taken us in a different direction, and instead we have gone through struggle after struggle. Instead, we're going to go to triangle here with Wire. He is going to taunt his way in the end zone. Number 2, get off of Wire. That's an easy touchdown. You got burnt, kid. And the next moment we get down the field, we are up by 18 points. This has quickly developed into a blowout here. We're actually going to do a read option because why not? It doesn't work, of course. But Carrion has 62 yards rushing today. That is very impressive for a quarterback here. Let's see if we can find a route that's open in the end zone. This honestly feels a bit disrespectful here. We're going to go to circle. A bullet down the field. What a throw from Carrion. That's a touchdown for your Tigers. And with the score ballooning now to 35-10, BYU is desperate. They need something to go right here. They're going to go over the middle of the field. It's actually going to be open. Great throw from their quarterback. But once again, our defense has put itself in a great position. It is 4th and goal. We're actually going to run man-to-man coverage because why not? Let's see here what DeBose can do as he cuts across the field. We're going to look in the back of the end zone. The quarterback doesn't know what to do. We need to stop him, and we do. And with potentially one final drive left in this game, I might as well hop in, seal it for us here. Let's get our running back here. He was almost going to get a 95-yard touchdown there, but unfortunately, the blocks just shed on itself, and that's okay because that just gives us more time, to develop, to tell more stories about this team. We only get 2 yards there, or 1 yard actually. Now, a fact that none of you know about because I haven't said this, but I am actually an LSU Tiger myself, and I've been to a number of games as Baker goes down. Beautiful run there from Carson Baker that brings him over 100 yards a game. I'm not an LSU Tigers fan. In fact, if I've been critical of them, it's because I have been brainwashed by all LSU fans to not like this team. But, it was a great experience there, football-wise especially. We had Jaden Daniels, number 5. Well, I guess not number 5 anymore, depending on when you're watching this video, because that is going to be DJ Pickett's number now. And that, of course, came with controversy, but, oh my goodness, what is this play? Anyways, look, I was there when Jaden Daniels was there. We had a couple of great upset victories over Ole Miss. I remember storming the field against Alabama in the overtime game in 22, as Baker's just going to rub it in with a beautiful touchdown here. But even when I was on campus, there was never much of a murmur that it could be a national championship team. There was always a flaw with this team, one way or another, whether it was the defense, whether it was the lack of a running game, lack of a good offensive line. There was always problems with the team, but there's still great memories with the football team, despite the biggest accomplishment of the last couple of years being a Texas Bowl victory. Even still, it's always nice to get the alma mater in a rebuild here. Again, I would have expected to rebuild this team faster to a national championship. It's almost as though Brian Kelly was here with how terribly this team has been doing. BYU is going to chew the clock here. Looks like they just want mercy. They want this game to end. It's a 32-point victory for the Tigers, and LSU is going to win the national championship. It took like 5 years here, but it doesn't matter because in the end, the Tigers win. We bring home the glory. We bring home the trophy. A 3-loss team has won the national championship. That might be the only time that you ever hear that sentence ever said. I would be shocked if a 3-loss team ever won the national championship. But LSU just did it here. A beautiful job from Peter Carrion to carry this team to a national championship. And ultimately, it's the Tigers that come out on top. And we are national champions. I myself am not a Tigers fan. I went to LSU, but that doesn't subtract from the fact that it feels good that LSU is national champions and back on top of the world. You can say what you want about the real life team, but in this fictional world, we got the job done. In real life, they probably won't get the job done, but that's not what matters. Here, we are national champions of the world. Thank you all for watching the video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I did not think this video would be this long, but I guess it's extra content for you guys, so that's great, I guess. And if you like these types of long-form rebuilds, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I have more creative ideas rather than just team rebuilds that I'll be posting in the next couple of weeks. But overall, college football is about to start, so if you want to see the latest up-to-date college football 27 rebuilds, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video so that more people like you can watch it, and once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.